Awakens scolded Awakens. He demanded to know why she was still dawdling about when he had already asked her to come over. He pulled her into his chest and looked at Night Breeze with a proud look on his face. Night Breeze couldn't help but approve of Awakens' manliness. A while later, Night Breeze reported to the skeleton that his mission was accomplished. The skeleton found Awakens silly for being pretentious and squirming despite having a woman. He couldn't believe that they still needed to help him. When Night Breeze praised him for being wise, the skeleton just hummed in response. Meanwhile, on the other side, Awakens suddenly pushed Awakens away. The moment Awakens was about to leave, Awakens urged her to wait. He proposed that they should think about how to clear up the misunderstanding and let go of what had happened before. Awakens realized that Awakens was not the Awakens she used to know. She questioned him if he didn't hold a grudge against her for what she did to him before and if he had really thought it through. Awakens replied that he had thought about it. He mentioned that since he used to be interested in her and since she was already the mother of his child, they should reconcile for the sake of the children and also for themselves. When Awakens asked Awakens if he had figured out how to clear the misunderstanding, she suddenly felt that something was scratching her. When she looked down, she couldn't help but be surprised, realizing that it was Awakens' thing that had been scratching her. Awakens remarked that it was what the skeleton taught him to get rid of his grudge. He assured her that it definitely works. Awakens shyly asked Awakens if she should turn back into a wolf. Awakens replied that she didn't have to. Without wasting more time, he immediately started clearing up the misunderstanding between them. Moments later, Awakens and Awakens were done with their reconciliation. Sometime later, Haou finally arrived at the Green Jade Immortal Continent. Calling him a beloved continent lord, Haou expressed that he missed him. Suk Shu and Jun pointed out to his men that Haou would never betray him. He warned them that in the future, if anyone ever talked behind his back again, he wouldn't tolerate it. When Haou expressed his thanks for Suk Shu and Jun's love and trust, Suk Shu and Jun reassured him that he could be at ease because he had been with him for more than 10,000 years already. Suk Shu and Jun inquired about what happened and why Haou had been in the lower world for such a long time. Haou explained that the Xianjiang continent had indeed undergone a great change and that he came back there just to ask for help. To force Haou, a golden immortal, to seek help, Suk Shu and Jun couldn't help but ask what exactly happened. After reminding him of the great war that broke out on the Xianjiang continent, Haou informed Suk Shu and Jun that the internal depletion had pulled the Xianjiang continent from the high-level world to the low-level world, leading to that day's dilapidated scene. Suk Shu and Jun confirmed that the Xianjiang continent had such a history. He asked Haou what the relationship was between the two. Haou stated that the root of that incident was in the ruins of the battlefield. He explained that many great powers died in the war, so over the years, some powerful spirits gathered and gave birth to new dead spirits, and at the same time, they also broke the seal on the immortal irrigation. Haou narrated that he was besieged by the dead spirits of the ruins and that he fought against 8 of them for 7 days and 7 nights and nearly died several times. But because of the responsibility Suk Shu and Jun bestowed upon him, he didn't let himself die. He did his best so he could report what happened, thinking that if he let the dead spirits grow stronger and stronger, they would become a problem for Suk Shu and Jun. Haou claimed that it was with that belief that he finally found the opportunity to escape. Suk Shu and Jun suddenly stood up and walked towards Haou. He acknowledged how hard Haou had worked for the Green Jade Immortal Continent. He assured him that he didn't have to worry about anything else, telling him that he could leave the affairs of the Xianjiang continent to him. Haou didn't agree. After swearing that he would complete the task that was given to him, Haou requested that Suk Shu and Jun send some reinforcements that he would take back to the Xianjiang continent to eliminate the dead spirits. Suk Shu and Jun couldn't help but be touched by Haou's loyalty to him. He expressed that it was a great fortune for him to have Haou as his great general on the Green Jade Immortal Continent. He mentioned that since he was righteous, he could choose anyone from the continent that would come with him to eliminate the dead spirits. Haou said that he just had 2 more requests before leaving. After stating that he planned on using a multi-person ambush to kill all the spirits, he asked Suk Shu and Jun to give him some immortal level elixir that he would use as bait. Suk Shu and Jun thought about it for a while before agreeing. Haou immediately thanked Suk Shu and Jun. He mentioned that since it was difficult to kill the dead spirits directly, he also wanted to borrow his immortal weapon, the Dementor Blade. He explained that the Dementor Blade could not only kill the spirits easily, but it could also absorb their souls, which Suk Shu and Jun could use, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Suk Shu and Jun reminded Haou that the immortal level elixir was already an indispensable treasure, and that the Dementor Blade was the most powerful magic weapon in his hands. Haou just stared at Suk Shu and Jun, his determination clear in his eyes. When Suk Shu and Jun finally agreed, Haou immediately smashed his head onto the ground and thanked Suk Shu and Jun. Meanwhile, in the heaven-devouring demon wolf clan, Awakens expressed that something seemed to have happened to their children. She informed him that their children ran thousands of miles away, took over a sect, took turns being the sect master for a day, and were running to other places in Dingsheng. When Awakens started laughing, Awakens couldn't help but ask him why he wasn't worrying that their children would meet bad guys. Awakens pointed out that no one would dare kick 7 iron plates, and Awakens finally remembered that her children are all immortals. After telling her to let their children play first, Awakens stated that when she was done absorbing the elixirs that he had given her, he would take her to Yi Feng. Awakens was surprised to know that Awakens would leave again. She informed him that his brother Aotai had always coveted the throne. Annoyed, Awakens screamed at Awakens. He retorted that the throne of the mere heaven-devouring demon wolf could never be compared to the sea of stars. Not expecting that Awakens would utter those words, Awakens couldn't help but wonder if Awakens had gone that far already. A couple of days after they arrived and spent time with the heaven-devouring wolf clan, the skeleton finally decided to leave. Noticing how motivated Haou Xu Xi was, the skeleton recalled how she praised him and begged him to take her in. Although Haou Xu Xi's strength was a bit worse, it was enough to make up for the number. After bidding farewell to his family and the people of their clan, Awakens immediately followed behind the skeleton. At the same time, somewhere in the forest, the 3 demon immortals agreed that although the skeleton and Ephang were powerful, they would never give in. Suddenly, the elephant immortal remembered that Haou Xu Xi was in Dingsheng. The lion immortal had an idea. He suggested that as long as they released their aura to Haou Xu Xi, she could bring someone to rescue them from the clutches of the skeleton. After expressing his satisfaction that the lion's tiny head was working great that day, the elephant immortal immediately started calling for help. With their cultivation, it was not a problem for them to make their distress signals reach a place that was thousands of miles away from them. Meanwhile, a distance away from the demon immortals, when Haou Xu Xi asked the skeleton if the strength that she was using was enough, the skeleton responded that she was doing a fine job. Suddenly, she received the call of the 3 demon immortals. She couldn't help but wonder why they hadn't gotten to the immortal world yet. Although Haou Xu Xi wanted to help the demon immortals, she couldn't leave at that moment, and she didn't want to leave either. She decided to just let the 3 come to her and join under the command of the skeleton and Ephang together. Haou Xu Xi believed that it was much more joyful to share the joy than to enjoy it alone, and that by following the great power who could create immortals with his bare hands and break the sky with a single punch, they would soon reach the apex of the demon civilization. She couldn't help but get excited just thinking about it. Simultaneously, on the 3 demon immortals' side, the 3 of them exclaimed when they felt Haou Xu Xi's fluctuation and noticed that she was on her way to them. The lion immortal was confused when he saw the elephant suddenly clench his fist. The elephant expressed that he was glad that they were finally about to get out of the sea of suffering. He said that they didn't deserve the life they experienced during that period of time. Their cultivations were sealed, their dignity was trampled on, and they were even called trash. The bird immortal pointed out to the elephant that he was treated the same as them and immediately acted like there was sand in his eyes. Ignoring the bird immortal's remarks, the elephant immortal stated that their days of being prisoners were over and that he could feel that their freedom beckoned them. Moments later, Haou Xu Xi finally saw the 3 demon immortals. Meanwhile, the 3 demon immortals felt that Haou Xu Xi was near them. With everything that they could, they immediately reached out to her so she would notice them and help them get out of their suffering. However, when they saw her, they immediately realized that something was wrong. After taking a closer look, they saw that Haou Xu Xi was actually with the skeleton. The 3 demon immortals couldn't help but be confused. The lion and bird immortals cried, realizing that Haou Xu Xi had become one of the skeleton's people. The elephant asked the lion and the bird to calm down and use their little brains. He explained that since Haou Xu Xi had been a smart kid since she was a child, she must just be looking for the opportunity to escape after getting caught by the skeleton. Believing the elephant's words, the 2 expressed that Haou Xu Xi was really much better than them and that they were just too stupid to end up in that situation. The elephant hoped that Haou Xu Xi would continue to stay dormant and not reveal herself, thinking that in that way, she would always have the chance to help them break the seal. When the elephant suggested acting like they didn't recognize Haou Xu Xi, the lion and bird immortals immediately agreed. Haou Xu Xi exclaimed that she didn't think that the demons that the skeleton mentioned were actually the 3 great rulers of their forest. She stated that the 3 demons were also thinking that it was a great opportunity to be by the side of the skeleton and Ephang. Haou Xu Xi was glad that she didn't need to ask them to join her. She regarded the elephant with a knowing glance, and the elephant looked affirmingly back. The 2 of them expressed that they were reaching a consensus, but they were actually not. Suddenly, the skeleton noticed something. He remarked that he didn't expect that Haou would be quite efficient and would be able to bring a lot with him. When the skeleton suggested that they should go and have a look, Awakens instructed Haou Xu Xi to watch the 3 demons until they came back. Seeing that she had gained the trust of the other party so quickly, the elephant couldn't help but think that Haou Xu Xi was really coquettish. As soon as Haou Xu Xi greeted them, the elephant immortal immediately asked her to help them break the seal. But to his surprise, Haou Xi responded that she wouldn't even try because it would make the skeleton angry. Thinking that she was just joking around, the bird immortal urged Haou Xi to help them break the seal. When the lion immortal stated that they already knew that she was just pretending to gain the skeleton's trust, Haou Xi couldn't help but ask the three if what they meant was that they didn't really surrender. The lion and bird immortals expressed that it was not possible for them to surrender, pointing out that they are demons of the western demon forest, that they have dignity, and that they would never yield to a little undead. Haou Xi called the three demon immortals fools. After telling them that the position they were in was a great opportunity for them given by the heavens, she asked the three why they couldn't grasp it and even throw it away with their own hands. Realizing that Haou Xi had already joined the skeleton, the three demon immortals inevitably became furious. After stating that Ephang and the skeleton are nothing but straw, the three questioned Haou Xi about what opportunities the two could bring them and if they could destroy the sky or increase the number of demon immortals in their western demon forest. Haou Xi confirmed that the three asked the right things. She informed them that Ephang and the skeleton could indeed destroy the sky and make immortals with their bare hands. Thinking that what Haou Xi said should not be possible, the three demon immortals couldn't help but laugh wildly. And when Haou Xi asserted that Ephang and the skeleton could really do such things, they became certain that she was already bewitched. The lion immortal remarked that it was funny that Haou Xi really described it as if she had seen it happen with her own eyes. They were certain that there was no existence that could destroy the sky with one punch and make immortals with bare hands. At the same time, somewhere in the forest, Haou was confronted by the demon immortals that he brought with him. The moment they realized that there were no dead spirits around, they asked Haou if he had lied to Suk Shu and Jun and if he had another purpose for getting the Dementor blade and elixir from him. Annoyed, Haou ordered everyone to just stay there honestly, not to pussyfoot around with him, and to stop mentioning Suk Shu and Jun in front of him, pointing out that he didn't give a damn about him there. Suddenly, while the gorilla was asking if he wanted to die, Haou saw the person he was waiting for. The moment the skeleton and his brothers landed, Haou immediately bowed down and greeted them. He reported to the skeleton that he had successfully fulfilled his mission. He stated that he brought some mere immortal elixirs and an immortal weapon as a tribute to him. The demon immortals became furious. They stated that Suk Shu and Jun would never spare him and would definitely make him have no way to go to heaven and no way to go to earth. Having had enough of the demon immortals babbling, Haou asked the skeleton to catch them as soon as possible. The demon immortals were amused. They couldn't believe that a few mere beings in the lower world had the nerve to actually want to catch them all together. The gorilla expressed that he was glad that Haou pulled that stunt. They had been looking for a way to make contributions for Suk Shu and Jun, so they were determined to take Haou and the skeletons group down and bring back the Dementor blade. Haou challenged the gorilla to come to him if he had the guts. He vowed that if the gorilla could touch even a single hair on his head, he would write his name backwards. The gorilla released his immoral aura. He stated that since Haou provoked him like that, he would willingly answer his words and kill him on the spot. Haou responded that he wouldn't be able to kill him because the skeleton would blow him into smithereens with one punch. The gorilla was intrigued. He stated that the skeleton must be very strong since Haou betrayed Suk Shu and Jun to join him. Haou confirmed that the skeleton was indeed strong, pointing out to the gorilla that he had already said that the skeleton could kill him with one punch. However, when he asked the skeleton if he was right, the skeleton responded that he definitely couldn't do it with one punch. The gorilla laughed wildly. He found the skeleton much more sensible than Haou. After putting everything that he had on him, Haou couldn't help but beg the skeleton not to screw him up. But to his disappointment, the skeleton just asked him if he ever said that he could blow the gorilla to smithereens with one punch. Although he had already seen what the skeleton was capable of, Haou still doubted if the skeleton was really as strong as he had imagined and if he had been deceived. The demon immortals expressed their contempt. They stated that since the skeleton was already afraid of facing them, he would be even more frightened if Suk Shu and Jun acted himself. Seeing that he had doubts, the skeleton mentioned that he was not arrogant enough to follow him. When the skeleton asked Haou why he was afraid of facing a bunch of trash, the demon immortals were inevitably annoyed. The skeleton explained that he was going to criticize him severely for saying that he would kill the gorilla with one punch. After saying that he could turn all those demon immortals into dust with just a finger, the skeleton questioned Haou about why he stated that he needed a punch to blow those trashes into smithereens. He explained that it would be an embarrassment if Haou became the commander of the back of the mountain of Ephang's sect. When Haou asked him what he should do, the skeleton ordered Haou to lift his head, chest, and buttocks. He instructed him to step out and shout at the demon immortals that all of them are nothing but trash. The demon immortals' patience ran out. They were the best in the immortal world, so they couldn't accept that someone from the lower world dared to insult them. They determined that the skeleton deserved a heavenly punishment for displaying such disgraceful behavior. The skeleton instructed to stop waiting and shout at the demon immortals. Without raising his voice, Haou stated that they were trash, and when the immortals glared at him, he was horrified and immediately asked for the skeleton's guidance. The skeleton remarked that he didn't have to be afraid of a bunch of chickens. He promised him that if the demon immortals dared to attack him, he could easily deal with them if he just shouted the words "Lord Skeleton is the most handsome" and punched out. Suddenly, a giant gorilla's foot emerged from the clouds. It stomped on the ground, crushing the trees like they were mere grass. A giant bird's foot also emerged from the clouds. The ground shook vigorously as the bird immortal stepped on the mountain. After feeling the huge fluctuation of their immortal power, Haou became certain that those demon immortals were the real deal. Seeing that the skeleton wasn't planning on doing something, Haou became certain that there was no turning back for him. He decided to just steel himself and jump towards the gorilla. With a determined look on his face, he punched forward and shouted that the skeleton was the most handsome. The gorilla found it ridiculous that Haou really did believe that with such a petty tactic and a slogan, he could challenge the authority of heaven. While the gorilla was saying that on that day, Haou would be judged on the spot, Haou's punch landed on his cheek. Out of nowhere, songs that he didn't recognize started playing in his head. The gorilla screamed in pain as the songs "You Are My Only Love" and "Lonely Warrior" made him want to split his head. The gorilla didn't know what to do. That power was completely beyond his cognition. He felt so weak that he reverted back to his original form and crashed headfirst into the ground. The demon immortals were extremely surprised. They couldn't believe that the gorilla was posing in a fascinated posture and was killed. Seeing that the skeleton didn't lie to him, Haou couldn't help but laugh wildly. When he asked the skeleton if he could continue to use that power, the skeleton declared that he could and informed him that the louder he shouted, the stronger his power would be. Haou was glad that he made the right choice. He felt so confident that he asked the skeleton to watch how he would take care of the bunch of ants. Hearing Haou call them a bunch of ants, the demon immortals got furious. However, despite being the best of the best, they were still defenseless against Haou's punches and insults. While he prepared a powerful punch, Haou eyed the demon immortals dangerously. As he punched forward, he asserted that all of them present there were all trash because the skeleton is the most handsome. Haou's power suddenly increased. The increase was great that the mountains shook vigorously. Moments later, Haou was done dealing with the demon immortals. Seeing how overwhelming the harvest was, the skeleton couldn't help but be pleased. He ordered Haou to buckle up the demon immortals and bring them back to Yi Feng. The next day, somewhere in the Shanhao mountain range, Hu Xiaoqi exclaimed the moment she saw that the skeleton had returned with a great harvest. Although she had already rebelled, the elephant immortal still asked Hu Xiaoqi to let them go for the sake of their past. He stated that if she did so, they would not owe each other anything. Hu Xiaoqi apologized to the three great rulers and explained that she couldn't do it. She asked them to believe that she was doing it for the good of the Western Demon Forest and also for the good of all three of them. The three snorted. They claimed that the skeleton and Ephang being strong had nothing to do with her and that what she mentioned about destroying the sky with one punch and making immortals with bare hands was simply a fantasy. Ignoring the three immortals' words, Hu Xiaoqi greeted the skeleton, and when the skeleton praised her for doing a good job, she immediately thanked him. Since he was in a good mood that day, the skeleton decided to promote Hu Xiaoqi just once. The elephant immortal's eyes widened in surprise when the immortal irrigation suddenly appeared. Hu Xiaoqi's cultivation base quickly increased from 7 Fates Demon Supreme to 9 Fates Demon Supreme, and moments later, a shrill scream escaped her mouth as she broke through and became an immortal. The three great rulers were shocked. They couldn't understand how it was possible to make immortals with bare hands. At the same time, on Ephang's island, Yi Feng woke up full of positive energy and a happy, good mood. While he was cheering himself up, he suddenly clenched his fist and swung his arm. As he screamed in excitement, he cheerfully jerked his arm upward. For the third time, a powerful suppression was felt on the Xianzhong continent, and a beam of light pierced through the sky. The demon beasts and cultivators couldn't help but panic when they felt the suppression and noticed the hole in the sky. Seeing that the sky was really destroyed, the three great rulers were alarmed and at a loss as to what was going on. To guide them on what to do, Hu Xiaoqi sent the three some cues through her eyes. The three great rulers immediately lowered themselves. They declared that they were faithful to him and that they pledged their loyalty to the end. They also asserted that he was the most handsome person in the world. Later that day, when the skeleton arrived at the island, Yi Feng greeted him and mentioned that he didn't expect that he would catch so many beasts. When the skeleton responded submissively to Yi Feng's words, the three great rulers inevitably got confused. They couldn't believe that the skeleton, a terrifying being, would become sincere in the presence of Yi Feng. They couldn't feel any fluctuations from Yi Feng, but the moment he approached, they couldn't exert their power and their capability to speak was suppressed. They couldn't help but wonder what Yi Feng's identity was. Yi Feng immediately checked what beasts the skeleton had brought back. The moment Ephang laid his eyes on her, Hu Xiaoqi quickly wagged her tail and acted cute. And when Ephang mentioned that Hu Xiaoqi was reluctantly accepted, Hu Xiaoqi felt so happy that she couldn't keep herself from shedding tears. Ephang looked at the three great rulers. Following Hu Xiaoqi's lead, the three also acted cute. However, Ephang didn't accept them. Ephang instructed the skeleton to throw the three away, stating that they didn't look very sincere and were too shabby. Without saying anything, the bear and the skeleton dragged the confused three great rulers away. They threw them away like they were trash and didn't have any value. The three great rulers couldn't keep themselves from cursing. They regretted not being sincere enough and not giving in the first time. For losing such a diving opportunity, the three great rulers couldn't help but hate themselves. Moments later, by the time the skeleton and the bear arrived at where Yi Feng was, Yi Feng had already checked all the beasts and determined that they were all satisfactory. After confirming that the beasts were caught from the same place, Yi Feng asked the skeleton if he had caught the leader of those beasts. The skeleton gloomily stated that he didn't catch the leader. After telling the skeleton that they could just go again some other time and catch the leader as well, Yi Feng mentioned that those B-grade demon immortals were sufficient enough. The demon immortals were extremely surprised. They stated that Ephang's target was Suk Shu and Jun all along. They all believed that they needed to tell Suk Shu and Jun about the news there as soon as possible. Suddenly, Ephang turned to look at the gorilla. Seeing that the gorilla looked too stupid, Ephang ordered the skeleton to throw him away. The gorilla was confused. He didn't expect that Ephang was brave enough to let him go and report to Suk Shu and Jun. He wondered if Ephang was already strong enough to have nothing to fear. A few days later, in the immortal world, on the Green Jade Immortal Continent, one of Suk Shu and Jun's men expressed his concern as to why the Haou and the demon immortals hadn't returned yet. They all knew that, with the strength of those people, it shouldn't have taken long to clean up the dead spirits. However, Suk Shu and Jun still believed in Haou's and others' loyalty. After stating that they must have encountered a small accident and should be back soon, Suk Shu and Jun requested his men not to be impatient. While everyone tried to convince Suk Shu and Jun to send someone to check things out by reminding him that Haou carried his Dementor blade, someone reported to Suk Shu and Jun that the gorilla had returned. Suk Shu and Jun snorted and asserted that he was right. His men immediately praised him for being wise and mentioned that they still had a lot to learn. Outside the hall, the gorilla kneeled down the moment he saw Suk Shu and Jun. When Suk Shu and Jun asked him what had happened, the gorilla reported that a few terrifying people had appeared in the lower world, and that they had all been caught. Suk Shu and Jun and his men were taken aback. Suk Shu and Jun immediately asked the gorilla where Haou was and what had happened to the Dementor blade that he carried. He couldn't believe that Haou didn't have a fighting chance against their enemies either. The gorilla stated that Haou was the reason why things ended up that way. He revealed to him that Haou had already betrayed them long ago, and that Haou also gave the Dementor blade and elixirs to their enemies in front of them. Suk Shu and Jun trusted and thought so highly of Haou, so it was hard for him to accept that he was betrayed by him. He got so angry that he ignored his men's concerns and ordered them to get out. Suk Shu and Jun activated a spell. He declared that he didn't give Haou the Dementor blade simply because of trust and that it was easy for him to kill Haou. Moments later, something fast left the Green Jade Immortal Continent and flew towards the Zionjiang Continent. At the same time, on Ephang's island, when Haou offered to the skeleton all the treasures that were scavenged from the demon immortals, the skeleton instructed Ao King to take the treasures to Ephang and let him enrich the garbage heap. The demon immortals stated that Suk Shu and Jun would come for him soon and that he wouldn't be able to withstand his wrath even if he had the skeleton backing him up. Haou was annoyed. He couldn't believe that the demon immortals still dared to threaten him. Suddenly, a glowing light came down from the sky and stopped on top of Haou and the demon immortals. The demon immortals became excited, knowing that the glowing light was Suk Shu and Jun. As soon as Suk Shu and Jun revealed himself, he immediately inquired why Haou betrayed the person who treated him so well. Haou insulted Suk Shu and Jun by calling him an old bastard. He reminded him that he treated him like an animal and fed him raw meat for 10,000 years. Suk Shu and Jun was lost for words. He just threatened Haou that if he didn't return the immortal weapons and immortal elixirs, he wouldn't leave him in one piece. Taking his threat as a joke, Haou playfully invited Suk Shu and Jun to go ahead and kill him. Suk Shu and Jun lost all of his patience. He stopped caring about the immortal weapons and decided to just kill Haou on the spot. However, he was suddenly alarmed by something. Suk Shu and Jun stared intently at Passerby, an old man who had followed Yi Feng for many years. He was alarmed by the people on the island. Realizing that Passerby, the woman who was sweeping the floor, was not an ordinary person as well, Suk Shu and Jun wonder why those two people were there. He was certain that with Passerby and B's cultivation, they didn't have a reason to stay in the lower world. Out of nowhere, people who were carrying Yi Feng's sculpture passed near Suk Shu and Jun. The dragon sculpture suddenly sprang to life and roared fiercely at Suk Shu and Jun. Suk Shu and Jun got so scared of the dragon that he shrieked. Moments later, Yi Feng came to supervise the people carrying the sculpture. He instructed them to move slowly and not to bump themselves. After mentioning that they had a lot of work to do, Yi Feng ordered Passerby to row the boat quickly. He asked Passerby to clear the rocks off the floor so the people carrying the sculpture wouldn't trip. Suk Shu and Jun couldn't believe that the sculpture could actually intimidate his spirit. He was also surprised that the two people who had disappeared for a long time were actually there. While he thought that he must not let passersby find out that he was there, Suk Shu and Jun suddenly felt something that sent chills down his spine. Without a second thought, Suk Shu and Jun immediately fled, and while he was doing so, he heard Ephang assert that he would find him for sure. Sometime later, on the Green Jade Immortal Continent, Suk Shu and Jun looked phased the moment his spirit returned to his body. Thinking that it was impossible for someone to find him, Suk Shu and Jun believed that he was just hallucinating when he felt that he was being watched. The gorilla congratulated Suk Shu and Jun. He expressed that since Suk Shu and Jun took action himself, Haou must have been killed already. Suk Shu and Jun was annoyed. He commanded the gorilla to shut up and to tell him about the person that Haou had betrayed them for. Moments later, inside the hall, the gorilla informed Suk Shu and Jun that Haou had betrayed them for Yi Feng. When Suk Shu and Jun asked if Yi Feng was an old man or an old woman, the gorilla stated that Yi Feng was a young man in white robes. Suk Shu and Jun was shocked. He wondered if the inconspicuous young man that he saw and completely ignored was Yi Feng. He remembered that the young man was the owner of the sculpture and was treated with respect by some of the most terrifying people in the world. Recalling how the old man and woman obeyed his orders, Suk Shu and Jun became certain that the young man he saw was indeed Yi Feng, the boss. The gorilla suddenly started laughing. He expressed that it was funny that Yi Feng had the audacity to state that he wanted to catch Suk Shu and Jun. Suk Shu and Jun turned pale. He was horrified to know that Yi Feng was targeting him. Ignorant of Yi Feng's strength, the gorilla assured Suk Shu and Jun that Yi Feng was nothing but a mere person who was not even worth his time. Suk Shu and Jun suddenly fell on his ass, causing the gorilla to panic. The gorilla tried asking Suk Shu and Jun what was wrong, but Suk Shu and Jun didn't reply. Suk Shu and Jun cry. He was starting to believe that it was not a hallucination or coincidence when he heard Yi Feng state that he would find him for sure. When Suk Shu and Jun instructed the gorilla to send someone to keep an eye on the entrance of the Xianzhong continent to their Green Jade Immortal Continent, the gorilla enthusiastically agreed. He assured Suk Shu and Jun that if anyone from the Xianzhong continent dared to come, he would kill them. Suk Shu and Jun scolded the gorilla for being dumb. He stated that he just needed to squat on the entrance and inform him if someone would come up. The gorilla immediately acknowledged Suk Shu and Jun's instructions. He asked him what had happened to the Dementor Blade and the other demon immortals. Annoyed, Suk Shu and Jun just declared that he had his own way. Simultaneously, in a certain corner of Yi Feng's island, Yi Feng expressed that he would definitely find it, no matter where it was. Yi Feng actually lost his money bag. He had already asked all the workers, but no one had seen it or picked it up. Sometime later, on the date of the commencement of construction, the immortal bricks that were created were gathered at one point. Moments later, Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun brought the people that they had recruited to let them see the immortal bricks. The ones they found were at least 6 Fates Martial Supreme, so they were confident that they were good enough to do Yi Feng's set task. When they were convincing them, those people didn't care about them. But after showing them Yi Feng's handiwork, it didn't take any time for those people to get convinced. Zhu Yun and Lu Qingshan were the management authorized by Yi Feng. And whether it was 6 fates or 10 fates, they saw them as mere trash on that island. After seeing that the people they brought were not weak, Yi Feng praised Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun for doing a great job. Lu Qingshan immediately whispered to everyone that they would have to say goodbye to their former identity, and that they should learn to read the eyes. Noticing that the workers were motivated, Yi Feng didn't comment much. He just mentioned that they could immediately start working. While they were staring at the workers' backs, Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun both agreed that on that island, the two of them pulled the most crotch. They think about when they would get a little bit of opportunity from Yi Feng. Looking at how many immortal bricks Lan Zhu had refined with Yi Feng, they determined that her future was boundless. Suddenly, Yi Feng announced that since the people they found looked quite good, he would give them candy. Feeling the unending stream of power that was exuding from the candy, Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun became certain that it was an elixir. Yi Feng was slightly surprised when the two suddenly kowtowed. He didn't expect Lu Qingshan to be so poor that he would be that thankful because of a candy. Meanwhile, on the Green Jade Immortal Continent, Suk Shu and Jun was contemplating if Passerby and Passerby were really the people who had disappeared for a long time. He believed that those two people should have been long gone from that world. Suk Shu and Jun trusted that if Passerby and B were really not the people he knew, Yi Feng was not as powerful as he had imagined. He determined that he needed to go to the island again in order for him to know the truth. Suk Shu and Jun immediately went to the Green Jade Immortal Continent's dead cell interior. He asked the guard there to let him meet some of the prisoners. Suk Shu and Jun ordered one of the prisoners to come with him. He mentioned that he would give him an opportunity to live. The prisoner didn't think twice. He quickly agreed and thanked Suk Shu and Jun. Moments later, the prisoner was killed by Suk Shu and Jun. Suk Shu and Jun extracted a little bit of his essence and shot it towards the prisoner's soul. After condensing it, he successfully created a divine soul. Because of his blood and essence, the soul of the martial supreme prisoner could last a day. The divine soul was completely under Suk Shu and Jun's control, and it was still an empty body, so even someone strong couldn't detect it. And even if they encountered it, they'd have to retreat completely. Suk Shu and Jun expressed that if he was really wrong, not only would he feel at ease, but he would also be ashamed of it. Suk Shu and Jun steeled himself. He wanted to see whether Yi Feng was a dragon or a worm. At the same time, on Yi Feng's island, King was narrowly dodging the bear's fast and powerful barrage of attacks. When the bear requested another round, King excitedly stated that he would like to see what the bear would do next. The bear suddenly jumped and let himself fall heavily on King. Simultaneously, a golden light was approaching the island at great speed. Just as King pounced away, Suk Shu and Jun's divine soul landed. Suddenly, Suk Shu and Jun noticed that something was above his divine soul. The bear smiled cheerfully as he unknowingly squashed Suk Shu and Jun's divine soul. Suk Shu and Jun curse. He wasn't even able to move his feet a bit after he landed on the island. He vowed that the moment he got the chance, the bear would be the first one that he would kill. Suk Shu and Jun came back to the dead cell and ordered another prisoner to come with him. He created another divine soul and immediately flew towards Yi Feng's island. At that time, it was raining on the island. Lu Qingshan reported to Yi Feng that he was done gathering the workers. After telling them that they had worked hard, Yi Feng informed everyone that he would treat them to a good meal because the weather was bad and because their performance was good. The workers immediately thanked Yi Feng. They expressed that he was really kind and that they made the right choice in following him. They asked Zhu Yun and Lu Qingshan if it was an opportunity for them. Suddenly, Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun remembered the time when those workers offered them some treasures and served them. They were amused to see the martial supremes act like little brats who wanted to eat candy. The two scolded the workers. They instructed them not to make a commotion and to not be impatient. When one of the workers explained that they just couldn't remain calm in the face of Yi Feng's opportunity, Lu Qingshan assured everyone that they would naturally receive an opportunity when it was time for them. Yi Feng suddenly interrupted their talk. He instructed Lu Qingshan to lead the workers to the Ephang restaurant in Jiangping City. Lu Qingshan immediately acknowledged Yi Feng's instruction. While everyone was getting into the boat, Yi Feng headed to the back of the mountain along with the skeleton. Moments later, at the bottom of a cliff. It took a lot of effort to catch the beasts, so Yi Feng didn't want to let the rain make them more stupid. And since he wanted to invite everyone to dinner, he felt that he needed to show them his hand. All of a sudden, 3 brave demon immortals growled aggressively at Yi Feng. Looking at their fierce and untamable look, Yi Feng determined that they had caused a lot of trouble before, so he decided to butcher and cook them for everyone to eat. He ordered the skeleton to take those 3 demon immortals with him to Jiangping City. With the skeleton dragging them out, the demon immortals could do nothing but scream. Sometime later, when his divine soul was already near the island, Suk Shu and Jun remarked that at that time around, he would definitely explore the small island and find out everything. A few moments later, after looking around the area, Suk Shu and Jun found out that no one was on the island. He couldn't believe that he would be humiliated like that. Although the divine soul was not a physical entity, it had physical sensations, so Suk Shu and Jun was suffering the humiliation of wind and rain. At the same time, on the Green Jade Immortal Continent, Suk Shu and Jun started sneezing. Even though he was feeling cold, he was persistent. He believed that Yi Feng and others would surely come back within a day. Meanwhile, on the Dingsheng continent, people gathered in Tianwu Plaza. Tianwu Plaza was where the major events in Dingsheng, a sect's exchange meetings, or other matters were held. Although they didn't know why the major sect in the central continent came to them all of a sudden and gave them advance notice to come over to meet and greet, the people still came since the major sect in the central continent was not something that they could afford to ignore. Moments later, the people that they had been waiting for finally arrived. As if they owned the place, the people from the major sect on the central continent landed unceremoniously in Tianwu Plaza. The people present immediately bowed their heads and greeted the young man in front. Seeing that the people who greeted him were only a bunch of martial saints and a 2-fate martial supreme, the young man determined that not a single sect master was present. Afraid that the young man would be angry at them, everyone immediately informed him that their sect masters had all disappeared for almost a month already. The young man expressed that the elders must have come as substitutes for the sect masters. However, knowing that the elders of the prominent sects on the continent should at least be a 6-fate martial supreme, he questioned why the strongest one present was only a 2-fate martial supreme. Understanding that it was hard to believe, everyone was meek when they informed the young man that their elders were missing as well. Thinking that they told him some nonsense, the young man got furious and suddenly released his aura. He believed that it was impossible for the sect masters and elders of all sects in Dingsheng to disappear collectively, so he stated that those people just played tricks on him. The people chose to remain silent. They knew that the young man wouldn't believe them even if they asserted the truth. After saying that he expected that they would be useless, the young man informed everyone that they were ordered by Jiang Wuda to come to Dingsheng to investigate the matter of the ancient statue. He declared that he and his team would stay there for a while and that everyone there had to cooperate with them fully. Suddenly, the young man asked a female cultivator if their Juicy Valley only accepts female disciples. The female cultivator quickly confirmed that the young man was right. When the young man informed her that he would stay in their sect and instructed her to go back and make arrangements immediately, the female cultivator despaired. The young man ordered everyone to find him a map. He mentioned that what he needed was the map of a region called Nansha in Dingsheng. A man from the crowd immediately offered the young man the map that he just so happened to have. The young man revealed that a few days ago, through an astrological deviation, Jiang Wuda learned that an ancient statue with auspicious signs had appeared in Zhongping City in Nansha. But just the day before, Jiang Wuda found that the statue was gone, seemingly shielded by some force. Believing that Zhongping City was the key place, the young man ordered his 6 subordinates to go there immediately, and to make sure to find the clues to the statue. After reminding them that the ancient statue has a great deal to do with whether Jiang Wuda could see the light again, the young man instructed his subordinate not to act rashly, and to report to him first if they find a clue. He asserted that he would go to the Juicy Valley and wait for their news. Simultaneously, in Zhongping City in the Ephang restaurant, the people inside glanced at Ning Xuanwu, who exuded a gloomy atmosphere. Yao Linger worriedly asked Ning Xuanwu why he frowned so often. Ning Xuanwu explained that the reason was obvious, that she should have known about it already. Since their plan to befriend Ephang failed, the Xuanwu sect declined day by day until they became something that existed in name only. The only thing Ning Xuanwu was thankful for was that he was able to keep his only hand. Ning Xuanwu expressed that he frowned because, other than their sect's decline, his cultivation had also dropped to martial spirit. When Yao Linger suggested going to Yi Feng to ask for his help in reviving their sect, Ning Xuanwu mentioned that she really was just a little girl. He remarked that with Yi Feng's status, they were not even qualified to pay him a visit. Ning Xuanwu observed that he had seen her many times holding Yi Feng's book in a daze and was often preoccupied at Xuanwu Cliff. After telling her that it was impossible for her to be with Yi Feng, Ning Xuanwu advised Yao Linger to just give up. While Yao Linger felt dejected, the restaurant's attendant suddenly informed his boss that they had customers and that their business was going to be big that day. The newly arrived customers were actually Ephang and his people. It shocked Ning Xuanwu and Yao Linger so much that they exclaimed. When Yao Linger asked Ning Xuanwu if they should greet Ephang, Ning Xuanwu stopped her and instructed to look at the people behind Ephang. Ning Xuanwu shared with Yao Linger that those seemingly ordinary people could all be martial supremes. He also didn't want to be seen by his former sworn enemy. Ning Xuanwu believed that with Ephang being surrounded by martial supremes at every turn, he and Yao Linger, with their cultivation level, should never think of going there. All of a sudden, Ephang recognized and greeted Ning Xuanwu and Yao Linger. He was surprised to know that the two were actually family. When Ephang got a closer look at Yao Linger, he felt awkward. The scene of Yao Linger having an affair with another woman was still vivid in his mind. After being greeted respectfully by them, Ephang mentioned to Ning Xuanwu that they were acquaintances, so they didn't need to be polite, and that since fate had brought them there, they should have a meal together. Feeling Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun's gazes, Ning Xuanwu asked Ephang if it wouldn't be inconvenient. He pointed out that so many of Ephang's people were strong, and meekly stated that he was just a martial spirit. Ephang expressed that he wanted to apologize to him for the way the old men had bullied him and that he and his daughter are also considered acquaintances. Ning Xuanwu was confused. Ephang stated that they were all the same and that they were all friends. Ephang thought to himself that although one was a disabled person and the other was part of the sexual minorities, they were all the same poor people and that no one was more noble than the other. After telling everyone that he'd go say hello to the steward first, Ephang left. Ning Xuanwu and Yao Linger were suffocated by the awkward atmosphere. They hadn't seen Lu Qingshan since the Xuanwu sect declined, and their past entanglements were not something that could disappear with time. Ning Xuanwu believed that a martial spirit like him could be killed by Lu Qingshan in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Lu Qingshan talked to Ning Xuanwu. He reassured that he didn't have to be nervous. Lu Qingshan explained to Ning Xuanwu that in the presence of Yi Feng, it doesn't make a difference whether one is a martial spirit or martial king. He pointed out that in Yi Feng's eyes, they are just a speck of dust in the mortal world. Ning Xuanwu and Yao Linger's eyes were opened. They realized that their sect rivalry doesn't mean anything in the context of Yi Feng. Ning Xu and Wu laugh, realizing that he was shallow. Moments later, the people in the restaurant brought out round tables and chairs. Yi Feng actually had the steward vacate the seats at once. Lu Qingshan informed the sect masters and elders that the people who greeted Yi Feng were not ordinary people. The sect masters and elders were surprised to see that the roaming killer of Dingsheng, who had long disappeared, actually appeared there. They also saw the bloodthirsty demon that appeared and killed a lot of people on the central continent 3 years ago. They realized that the people sitting at the lowest level were all martial supremes. It made them think that inside the restaurant, there might be some unfathomable experts who had become immortals long ago. Seeing that there was not a single ordinary person sitting there, the sect masters and elders be shocked as to how they didn't know that Dingseng actually had a city where there were that many experts. Noticing that they were feeling uncomfortable, Yi Feng invited the sect masters and elders to sit down. He offered that since they had worked hard, they could eat whatever they wanted. Everyone immediately thanked Yi Feng. Yi Feng declared that before they ate, he would play a guitar for everyone to cheer up. Lu Qingshan instructed the newly recruited to take a seat. He informed them that it was the opportunity that they had all been waiting for. In Yi Feng's previous life, he would often have dinner with his friends, carry a guitar on his back, drink a little wine, and sing along. They were cheered up by songs and chatting and farting. Although he had traversed that immortal cultivation world, Yi Feng still believed that he had to love life. As soon as Yi Feng started singing the song Cloud from Hometown by Phase Yangs, everyone immediately stood up and cheered joyfully. Meanwhile, outside the restaurant, someone listened secretly. The woman expressed that the Xianzhong continent was becoming more and more interesting. She was intrigued to see that some of the old guys who were silent before had all emerged one after another, and she'd be curious as to who Yi Feng was. The woman suddenly exclaimed. She was surprised when she saw the skeleton blow a kiss towards her. She found it interesting that she had been discovered. When Yi Feng asked for the wine to be served, the woman immediately left so as not to be seen by the person who carried the wine. Moments later, Jiang Wuda's people landed in front of the Ephang restaurant. They had already looked around the entire city of Zhongbing, but they still couldn't find any clues regarding the ancient statue. They were afraid that if they couldn't even do that job properly, they wouldn't be able to explain it to their senior brother. The only woman in their group expressed that it was best if they asked for information in restaurants and that they should try their luck there. After noticing their arrival, the steward informed Jiang Wuda's people that there were no more seats there. He politely asked them to change to another restaurant, but the woman didn't listen. The woman nonchalantly sent the steward flying with a punch and barged into the restaurant. The woman's face darkened the moment she saw the old men inside the restaurant. She approached them arrogantly and ordered them to get lost. Not knowing what to do or say, the sect masters just stared at each other. Annoyed, the woman threatened everyone that something bad would happen to mere ants like them if they didn't listen. One of the elders suggested to the woman that she should go back to where she came from. She warned her that that place was not a place where she was qualified to run wild. While she clenched her fist, the woman claimed that she had finally succeeded in pissing her off. The elder immediately raised her palm to block the woman's powerful punch. She found out that the woman was actually an 8-Fate Martial Supreme, 2 fates higher than hers. Everyone exclaimed the moment they saw the elder crash into Yi Feng's table. They noticed that some soup splattered into Yi Feng's food. Everyone immediately reported that everything was over and that something big was going to happen. At the same time, somewhere in Jiangping City, there was a sudden gust of strong wind. A dog started barking all of a sudden, and the person who passed by was inevitably confused. Inside the restaurant, while they stared at his frowning face, everyone wondered if the Xianzhong continent could withstand the wrath of Yi Feng. Everyone was stricken with fear. They were afraid that if Yi Feng acted himself, everything would be destroyed. They get annoyed with the woman. Everyone simultaneously stood up and prepared to punish the woman for daring to offend Yi Feng. The woman couldn't understand why she felt a sense of fear. She still believed that those people were just a bunch of mere ants. She wondered what was in that small place that made her feel scared. The woman screamed at everyone. She stated that she couldn't believe that a bunch of trash like them wanted to fight. Everyone didn't dare act rashly. They all waited for Yi Feng's decision first. Yi Feng declared that since the woman hurt their people and was still showing such arrogance, they should go and beat them up. Jiang Wuda's people couldn't believe what they were seeing. They were terrified after finding out that everyone in the restaurant was actually a martial supreme. Jiang Wuda's people realized that they had stirred up a hornet's nest. They immediately went out of the restaurant and fled desperately for their lives. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, Yi Feng cursed. Afraid that he would have to pay a lot of money if the woman's injury was really serious, Yi Feng started to wonder if it could be counted as a work-related injury. He noticed that it was not only medical expenses that needed to be compensated. Yi Feng believed that there was an injustice. He thought to himself that a debt has a creditor, so he shouldn't be the one to pay the price. To make sure that he wouldn't be the one to take responsibility, he ordered Ning Xuanwu to tell everyone to catch Jiang Zhang Wuda's people alive. As loud as he could, Ning Shu and Wu announced that Yi Feng wanted them to catch Zhang Wuda's people alive. Yi Feng felt awkward. He was surprised at how loud Ning Shu and Wu's voice was. The person who heard what Ning Shu and Wu stated immediately informed the people in front that Yi Feng wanted those people alive. Seeing that Yi Feng's people were catching up to them, one of Zhang Wuda's men urged the woman to quickly use the boat that Zhang Wuda had given them. The woman immediately took out a token and pressed it. Suddenly, everyone heard some rumbling, and a boat appeared out of nowhere. Seeing that Zhang Wuda's people were flying towards the boat, Yi Feng's people were alarmed. Moments later, Zhang Wuda's people successfully got into the boat. The woman laughed frantically. She mocked Yi Feng's people by challenging them to chase after their boat. The speed of the flying boat was comparable to that of the immortals in the immortal world, so the woman was confident that on the Xianjiang continent, no one could catch up with them. While the woman said that the Xianjiang continent would be under their control sooner or later, people from Jianping City simultaneously flew out of their houses. Witnessing the emergence of the group of people with powerful auras, the woman stopped laughing. One of the men reported to the woman that the group of people who had just emerged were all 300 people. 300 auras of Martial Supreme level were all coming their way. The 60 or so Martial Supremes from the restaurant were already scary enough for them, so they complain about why more of them suddenly appeared. One of the pursuers expressed that, for trying to run away after daring to offend Yi Feng, Zhang Wuda's people think too highly of themselves. The 300 pursuers simultaneously attacked the boat using their auras. The woman panicked. She was horrified that she called for her mommy and even admitted that she was wrong. The boat exploded as soon as it got hit by the pursuers' attack. The new recruits were surprised. They couldn't believe that the people who suddenly appeared were able to easily catch up with the boat and destroy it. Knowing that those people were at the very least immortal level experts, they wonder how there could be so many experts of that level in that city. When they were in the restaurant, they said that the people there were already the peak level experts, but compared to the 300 people standing in front of them, they actually felt like nothing. The new recruits were terrified. They were thinking that there could be more powerful experts hiding in the city. While he was staring at Zhang Wuda's people, one of the 300 pursuers expressed that it was really not easy to fight against Martial Supremes. He was afraid that if they were not careful, Zhang Wuda's people would be killed. An old man expressed that they should go. He said that he hadn't packed his basket of radishes that Yi Feng would surely pick up. Since they all have work to do, everyone immediately left. The new recruits ignored everyone and decided to just bring Zhang Wuda's people to Yi Feng first. Moments later, inside the restaurant, after praising them for catching and bringing back Zhang Wuda's people, Yi Feng stated that he was going to the bathroom first. He instructed them to collect everything that Zhang Wuda's people had on them. The new recruits immediately agreed, and after gathering everything that Zhang Wuda's people had, they were amazed. They wondered where Zhang Wuda's people got so much good stuff. They also found 2 immortal treasures, and with the flying boat that was destroyed, they realized that those people's backgrounds were not simple. However, they all agreed that those people still wouldn't dare come to Jianping City to cause trouble. Yi Feng came back. Seeing that there were a lot of treasures, Yi Feng excitedly took a closer look to inspect them. The moment Yi Feng picked up a blue sphere, the new recruit spoke to explain what it was, but he was immediately stopped by Zhu Yun. Despite being scolded by Zhu Yun, the new recruit whispered that it was the Dewdrop Pear, a supreme-grade treasure that could be used to easily break through the water and treat the water as nothing. When Yi Feng asked what those craps were, everyone wondered if they had just heard him wrong. There were more than a dozen supreme-grade treasures and 2 immortal-grade treasures, so they couldn't understand why Yi Feng called those pieces of crap. Hearing the new recruit say that the lamp was not a piece of junk, Yi Feng thought to himself that since the new recruit was a poor man, no matter what he saw, it would look like a treasure to him. Yi Feng suddenly dropped the lamp. He stated that they all still needed to raise their horizons a little higher, so their hearts would be as high as the sky. The new recruits got depressed. They couldn't believe that Yi Feng stomped on the treasure that experts would fight for and would shed blood for without blinking an eye. After telling everyone that they needed to get their thinking straight and stop looking at useless things, Yi Feng pointed out that men should have big ambitions. Everyone agreed. Their eyes were opened by Yi Feng's words. Yi Feng instructed everyone to tie Zhang Wuda's people up in the backyard first. He wanted to finish his meal before dealing with them. Moments later, in the backyard, the woman screamed at her team members to wake them up. They were still in shock. They couldn't figure out what that place was and why there were many strong people there. One of the men noticed that there were also demonic beasts there. Zhang Wuda's people got furious. They expressed that being put together with those disgusting beasts was a humiliation that they would never forget. Seeing that they actually dared to stare at them, one of the men stated that they were not qualified to glare at them. While they released their aura, Zhang Wuda's people claimed that animals should have the consciousness of an animal and should just stay aside. However, when the beasts simultaneously released their aura and roared at them, Jiang Wuda's people flinch. They found out that those beasts were all golden immortal level demon immortals. Knowing that they were no match for them, they quickly made a break for the furthest place away from the beasts. The last person desperately squeezed in as he almost got bitten. After running into dozens of martial supremes, getting clapped by hundreds of immortals, and meeting 3 demon immortals, Jiang Wuda's people wonder who the young man was who was acting like the leader. They speculated that those 3 demon immortals should be Yi Feng's hidden trump card. A while later, Yi Feng arrived. When Yi Feng asked the shop owner if he could stew those 3 beasts himself, the shop owner happily replied that he could. Yi Feng left the task of killing the beast to the skeleton. He instructed him to be quick in doing it. Jiang Wuda's people were extremely shocked. They couldn't believe that those beasts weren't trump cards but were actually meant to be eaten. Thinking that it was all over for them, they regretted not leaving their final words on their wall. They became certain that the presence of Yi Feng and his people was enough to pose a threat to Jiang Wuda's plans. Sometime later, the stew was almost done. After smelling the wonderful aroma of the stew, Lu Qingshan and Zhu Yun say that the ingredients prepared by Yi Feng himself are truly extraordinary. Jiang Wuda's people expressed that although things such as golden immortal demon immortals getting stewed were really happening before their eyes, they shouldn't just sit back and do nothing. They believed that they must find a way to inform Jiang Wuda, even if it would cost them their lives. Realizing that it was their only way to escape, one of the men decided to use his trump card, which would consume Jiang Wuda's power. It was not allowed to be used without special circumstances, but he was determined to use it nonetheless since he was feeling that someone was already trying to threaten Jiang Wuda's unassailable position. Moments later, inside the restaurant, the dishes that Yi Feng cooked were served to everyone. The new recruits found the food delicious. The power contained in the meat made them feel like they were about to break through. An old man asked the new recruits to calm down a little bit. He mentioned that they would get used to it slowly. Meanwhile, Yi Feng revealed a wide smile after finishing a bowl of the delicious stew that he had made. The steward informed Yi Feng that since it was almost dark, the president had stated to prepare the overnight stay for him and his group and that they had also invited Mo Xian from Fengyu House, the #1 warren in Jiangping City. After appreciating the president's politeness, Yi Feng immediately informed everyone that they had invited a troupe of opera singers and an warren to entertain them. He instructed them to eat slowly and drink slowly so that their party would go on. Everyone thanked Yi Feng and immediately continued drinking. A while later, one of the old men got distracted when he noticed that a group of women had arrived. The woman who was leading the group immediately approached Yi Feng and greeted him. While the woman was introducing herself to Yi Feng, the people in the restaurant got excited. The woman was actually Dingsheng's blossom fairy, Mo Xian. Yi Feng remembered that Mo Xian was the warren of the Fengyu house. He praised her by telling her that she was really much more beautiful than the rumor had claimed. The new recruit stated that legend has it that Mo Xian has an ageless face and that back in the day, she led the Juxi Valley to the top of Dingsheng. They also heard that she died afterwards, so they wonder how she became an warren. The sect master of Juxi Valley tremblingly approached Mo Xian. With a glance, Mo Xian ordered the sect master not to lose her self-control. When the sect master had returned to her seat, Mo Xian offered Yi Feng a toast first. She went to the stage to play a song for Yi Feng and his people. She expressed that she hoped that they would all enjoy her performance. Yi Feng wasn't expecting much of the performance. Although he found Mo Xian really pretty, he believed that the music in that world was something that he couldn't compliment. However, when Mo Xian started playing, Yi Feng was surprised. Yi Feng couldn't remember how many years ago it had been since the last time he heard that tune. He couldn't believe that he was hearing it there. Mo Xian was actually playing Jie Chu's Nocturne. Bewildered by how she knew about that music, Yi Feng wondered if Mo Xian was a traverser as well. When the performance was finished, everyone cheered and praised Mo Xian. They expressed that Mo Xian's music was the heavenly music of the former times. Unable to control his curiosity, Yi Feng asked Mo Xian how she knew Jie Chu's Nocturne. Mo Xian stated that she only got Jie Chu's Nocturne by coincidence and that she didn't know where it came from. Yi Feng was confused. He couldn't figure out if Mo Xian was a traverser or not. To check how much Mo Xian knew about his world, Yi Feng recited some sayings to see if Mo Xian had ever heard of them or not. While Yi Feng recited sayings, Mo Xian just stood still and looked at Yi Feng with a confused look on her face. She stated that she didn't have an idea what he was reciting. Meanwhile, thinking that he helped Mo Xian write lyrics, everyone admired Yi Feng's kindness. When Mo Xian mentioned that she was too ignorant to understand the profound meaning of his word, Yi Feng didn't have a choice but to give up. He thought to himself that homesickness must have been what made him so desperate. To make himself forget the loneliness, Yi Feng decided to just drink and have fun with everyone. At the same time, on Ephang's small island, Suk Shu and Jun cursed as he wondered why everyone hadn't returned yet. No one was on that island, and there was nothing for him to see. He saw where the demon immortals were, but his divine soul was not able to save them. So he could hold on. Suk Shu and Jun convinced himself that such a storm was not a big deal for him. He believed that he was just a little less fortunate, so he decided to wait a little longer. The next day, the storm was finally gone. Suddenly, Suk Shu and Jun exclaimed. On the boat, when Lu Qingshan asked Yi Feng why he just let Jiang Wuda's people run away, Yi Feng explained that he let them go because they were nothing but a bunch of rubbish. What Yi Feng cared about the most at that moment was Jie Chu's nocturne. He believed that even if Mo Sehan was not a traverser, she must have seen the traverser. While they were on their way to his island, Yi Feng wondered where the traverser was. Seeing that the master of that island had returned, Suk Shu and Jun expressed that it was a blessing that he persisted in seeing the light of day. He was excited to find out who Yi Feng was and how strong he really was. However, before Yi Feng could step into the dock, the duration of Suk Shu and Jun's divine soul ended. On the green jade immortal continent, Suk Shu and Jun screamed at the top of his lungs. He'd be furious. He was tormented all day, but in the end, he didn't accomplish anything. Again, Suk Shu and Jun went to the dead cell and dragged a prisoner with him. He vented his anger towards the prisoner first before creating a new divine soul. The next day, on Yi Feng's island, Yi Feng brought out the treasures and gold coins that he kept. Those things were all soaked by the rain before, so he exposed them to the sun to let them be properly dried. On the other side of the island, Suk Shu and Jun's divine soul landed. Suk Shu and Jun was glad to see that there were no surprises and everyone was there. He expressed that he would make sure to observe everyone well. By just glancing at the new recruits, Suk Shu and Jun immediately determined that they were martial supremes. He stared at an old man and found out that he was an immortal. Suk Shu and Jun was surprised to know that most of the people there were martial supremes, believing that everyone there was at best a rat that was not even qualified to carry his shoes. Suk Shu and Jun wondered if he was just overly cautious. Suddenly, Suk Shu and Jun saw something that alarmed him. Seeing that passerby was actually around, Suk Shu and Jun thought to himself that he should be more cautious. He decided to use that chance to confirm if passerby was really King Huingsang or not. Suk Shu and Jun believed that if passerby was King Huingsang, he would be able to notice him if he looked directly at him. He stared intently at passerby, but passerby just slept carelessly. Suk Shu and Jun became convinced that he just made a mistake last time and that passerby was actually just an ordinary old man. To confirm his speculation, Suk Shu and Jun revealed his entire divine soul to passerby. Passerby just yawned and didn't even glance at Suk Shu and Jun's divine soul. Suk Shu and Jun laughed. He couldn't believe that he scared himself by thinking that passerby was King Huingsang. With him being the only uncertainty on that island, Suk Shu and Jun looked for Yi Feng. Moments later, Suk Shu and Jun found Yi Feng. He slowly moved closer to him, thinking that if he was really strong, he should be able to detect the subtle fluctuations within 100 feet. Without realizing that a divine soul was 100 feet away from him, Yi Feng continued to look for his money pouch. Suk Shu and Jun was not convinced enough, so he approached Yi Feng until he was 20 feet away from him. It took Suk Shu and Jun so long to confirm everything. He was in seclusion for more than a month and didn't go out. Since Yi Feng wasn't able to detect him, Suk Shu and Jun determined that everyone on that island was nothing but rubbish. He was the lord of an immortal continent, so he couldn't accept that he had been humiliated by some random group of trash. Suk Shu and Jun left the Green Jade immortal continent and directly went to Yi Feng's small island. Yi Feng and his people wasted Suk Shu and Jun's time, cost him his essence and blood, captured his subordinates, and took possession of his immortal weapons. With such an unbearable offense, Suk Shu and Jun decided to personally destroy them all. Suk Shu and Jun landed behind Yi Feng. The moment he attacked, he noticed a plain, mediocre sculpture of a kitten that was also covered in mud. Suddenly, the kitten sculpture released a golden aura. When the aura formed into a giant cat, Suk Shu and Jun got so scared that he shrieked and fell on his ass. He focused on the cat that he didn't realize that he had leaned on a scythe. And as soon as he realized it, he hurriedly moved to the side so he wouldn't get cut. Suk Shu and Jun found himself in the middle of Yi Feng's treasures. He was extremely surprised when he found out that those treasures scattered all over the place were actually immortal grade. Seeing how those treasures were left there like some piece of junk and without any protection, Suk Shu and Jun became certain that there really was a terrifying existence that he hadn't discovered yet. Meanwhile, Yi Feng decided to just give up looking for his money pouch, as he thought to himself to just think of happy things and strive to complete the task of becoming a cultivator as soon as possible. Yi Feng punched up. Suk Shu and Jun thought to himself that he was truly blind and dumb, a dumb guy riding a donkey while looking for a donkey. Seeing how he effortlessly made a hole in the sky, Suk Shu and Jun finally realized that Yi Feng was the terrifying existence famous in the immortal world. Suk Shu and Jun immediately went back to the Green Jade immortal continent. He was sure that it was Yi Feng who caused the turmoil in the immortal world but made the heaven's immortal palace unable to find its source. Suk Shu and Jun wondered if the punch was for him or for the immortal world. He strongly believed that, with Yi Feng's strength, he must have known that he was there and that if he had attacked him, he would not have let him go. Out of nowhere, a person approached and asked Suk Shu and Jun if he was the Lord of the Green Jade Continent. After saying that he was an emissary from the Heaven's Immortal Palace and that he was there to inquire about the appearance of the fist, the person stated that he hoped that he would tell him the truth. Suk Shu and Jun gritted his teeth. He had a hard time overcoming the suffocating sense of oppression that he felt. The emissary asked Suk Shu and Jun if he saw the fist appear with his own eyes and if he found anything or caught any auras or clues. Suk Shu and Jun replied that, although he had seen the appearance of the fist, he would like to ask a question first. The emissary immediately gave Suk Shu and Jun permission to ask. When Suk Shu and Jun asked the emissary if he was stronger than the source of the fist, the emissary informed Suk Shu and Jun that the strength of the fist had already reached the realm of heaven. He explained that to contend with the source of the fist, at least the strength of the old men in the immortal palace was required. Suk Shu and Jun made a decision. He declared that he was too weak to grasp the clues of the person who released the fist. The emissary didn't ask more. He seemingly believed that Suk Shu and Jun really didn't know anything. Although he didn't know why the emissary let him go, Suk Shu and Jun was certain that if he revealed the clues, he would be digging his own grave. He didn't think that the immortal world could protect him or even offer resistance if the truth were told. 6 months later, the island was already 45% complete. The martial arts arena's completion was 55%. Ephang planned on setting up a dragon carving there when the two old men got the wood. The library's completion was 65%. After putting some sutras, Ephang mixed a little more chicken soup recipes to fool a lot of people. The weapon pavilion, martial arts pavilion, and entertainment area's completion was 98%. With everything almost over, Ephang's next step was to fool some disciples and get the qualifications for the establishment of the sect. Sometime later, Ephang left the island. Ephang mentioned that the system would screw him up again, so he didn't expect that Haou would be fast enough. He felt like riding Haou was not much different from a small electric scooter but was also amphibious. From the island, he planned on going straight to Zhongping City. A while later, at the city gate, Ephang and Lu Qingshan saw each other. Ephang immediately dragged Lu Qingshan. He asserted that he didn't need to be polite and that he came there to look for him. When Ephang asked him again about the qualifications needed for the establishment of the sect, Lu Qingshan informed Ephang that each region of the continent has its own auditing organization jointly organized by all sects. He explained that the main purpose was to balance the power and avoid chaos. Therefore, if one wanted to establish a sect, permission from the organization must be obtained first, and to have the permit, the founder of the sect must have a basic cultivation base or have a history of working under another sect. Ephang turned pale. He had neither of the two qualifications needed. Lu Qingshan stated that if one establishes a sect without the qualifications, the organization would intervene and simply destroy the sect. Thinking that he couldn't afford to provoke the organization, Ephang just hoped that some blind clan would take him in. He asked Lu Qingshan what he was doing there. Lu Qingshan couldn't respond immediately. He couldn't tell Ephang that he was obsessed with XP of the Beast Girls even if he asked him. Ephang thought to himself that since that place had been a recruitment point for hard labor, Lu Qingshan must have come looking for a job and was just embarrassed to say so. He sympathized with Lu Qingshan's indigence. He assured Lu Qingshan that he understood that kind of thing and that there was nothing for him to be ashamed of. When Ephang mentioned that that kind of thing hurts the body and asked him if he was still able to carry on at his age, Lu Qingshan became certain that Ephang knew everything, so he asked him if he would dislike him because of it. Thinking that there was no hard work in that world that does not hurt the body, Ephang explained that he wouldn't hate him for it and that there was a time when he was just like him as well. Lu Qingshan was surprised to know that Ephang used to like that kind of thing too, and he was amazed by how frankly Ephang expressed it to him. He was moved that he became willing to let Ephang draw on his resources in that area as much as he liked. After asking Lu Qingshan to go to the island to manage some things if he had time, Ephang immediately went back. Later that day, Ephang recalled the saying that when the forest is big, there are all kinds of birds. He believed that only by going to a larger territory with more sects would he be more likely to meet someone who was blind enough to take him into the sect. The map didn't have a distance marker, so Ephang got afraid that it would take tens of thousands of miles to get to those places. Knowing that the speed of his mount was 40 or 50 yards, he estimated that he would arrive at his destination in a month. Ephang immediately called for a meeting. He determined that the major issues of cultivation must be finalized as soon as possible. When the people in charge had gathered, Ephang informed them that he was going out soon. He mentioned that he was not sure when he would return, so they had to arrange things on the island during that time. Everyone immediately assured Ephang that they would do their best to fulfill his request. Ephang gave the skeleton the major task of continuing to expand the beasts at the back of the mountain. He wanted him to catch at least 100 of those beasts. Since the group of beasts at the back of the mountain were all subdued and tamed by him, Yi Feng believed that letting the skeleton handle the beasts was a good idea. He promised that he would give him a big reward when he came back. Yi Feng confidently stated that he would reward him with 10 gold coins at once. The skeleton got so disappointed that he cried. Yi Feng informed King Huingsang that he would also give him a task. He knew that he reads a lot, so he gave him the task of looking for books that are out of the ordinary, rare, and ideally have some reasoning in them. After leaving everything to his people, Yi Feng immediately went on his way. He was excited to finally finish creating his sect and officially step into the path of cultivation. Half a day later, in the Mufu Mountain, Yi Feng expressed that he seemed to have underestimated how fast Haou was. He didn't think that they would arrive there within half a day. Suddenly, he realized that he hadn't seen Bio Paio for a long time already. Since he was there already, he decided to go and greet her. While she was feeding the chickens, Mao noticed that there was someone in front of their gate. She'd be surprised the moment she realized that it was Yi Feng. At the same time, in the courtyard, the Grand Protector named Yunlan pointed out to Bio Paio that the continent was in turmoil. He explained that, as one of the awakened ones, since she didn't want to come back to the headquarters with them, they would have to guard her closely and rearrange the formation to hide her traces. Bio Paio complained to Yunlan that they were directly restricting her movements. She asked them if they could just set up the formation at a later date. Yunlan didn't agree. He pointed out to Bio Paio that her safety was more important than anything. Bio Paio sighed. There were actually 2 people that she would like to see. The first person was the writer of the sad and beautiful love story of Zhai Zunbao and Zai Zia. The second one was someone that she had only met once and couldn't even count as a friend. However, the elegance under the white robe as well as the extraordinary style of conversation of that person were hard for Bio Paio to forget. She was looking forward to seeing him again before the awakening because she believed that once she became awakened, it would be impossible for her to have any more encounters with that person. Moreover, the formation that was set up by the 4 men was hard to trace even for a martial supreme, let alone mortals. Bio Paio lost hope of seeing that person once again. Suddenly, Mao came running towards Bio Paio. She informed her that the man named Lai Bai had come. Bio Paio be surprised. Even when she was on the verge of awakening, she still couldn't see through the strength of the 4 people after the surge in cultivation. They had just set up a high-level formation there, so the courtyard and even the entire mountain peak were shrouded in illusion. Knowing that even people with upper-level cultivation should not be able to find that place, Bio Paio wondered how a mere mortal found that place. While Bio Paio was running to greet Yi Feng, Yunlan questioned his men if they had made a mistake in setting up the formation. One of the men stated that it should be impossible for the core of the formation to be found and destroyed since the position of the formation was chosen by him personally. Yunlan gritted his teeth. He decided to just go and see where Yi Feng came from first. Meanwhile, Bio Paio was stupefied the moment she laid her eyes on the young man that she was hoping to see. With a smile on his face, Yi Feng remarked that it had been a while since they had seen each other. Bio Paio smiled and responded kindly to Yi Feng's greeting. Simultaneously, Yunlan and his men hastened their pace. While Yi Feng was asking Bio Paio how she had been, Yunlan and his men just observed them from afar. They were surprised to know that Yi Feng was actually just a mere mortal. The eye of the formation was also there, so they were able to confirm that there was nothing wrong with the formation. Yi Feng apologized to Bio Paio. He mentioned that he came there in a hurry and didn't bring any gifts, so he would just give her something from there. Yunlan and his men were alarmed the moment Yi Feng walked towards the eye of the formation. Yi Feng reached for a particular flower. Yunlan and his men started sweating heavily. As if he knew that it was not an ordinary flower, Yi Feng cheerfully picked up the eye of the formation. Yunlan and his men got so shocked that they stare at Yi Feng, eyes wide and mouths agape. When Yi Feng expressed that he hoped that his fragrance would last forever, Bio Paio was taken aback. It was actually the first time that she had received flowers from a man. Yi Feng expressed that he needed to be wise since he had been there a couple of times without bringing any gifts. Yunlan and his men were furious. They had used a lot of resources for the sake of Bio Paio and the formation, so they wanted to punish Yi Feng regardless of whether his actions were intentional or not. While he was accusing him of purposely coming there to cause trouble, Yunlan prepared to attack Yi Feng. But when Bio Paio moved in front of Yi Feng, Yunlan was forced to stop. He requested Bio Paio to step aside and let him take Yi Feng's life. Bio Paio didn't move. She demanded Yunlan to explain why he was trying to hurt her friend. Annoyed, Yunlan asked Bio Paio if she ever wondered how Yi Feng found his way to that place. Bio Paio snorted and simply returned Yunlan's question to him. She requested Yi Feng to go inside first. She assured him that she would give him an explanation. Yi Feng regretted his actions. Through the system, he determined that they were just 4 pieces of trash, But since he gave Bio Paio a flower, he'd be concerned that maybe Yunlan was Bio Paio's man. Bio Paio scolded Yunlan for blaming Yi Feng for the loopholes they made in the formation that they all kept on bragging about. She thanked him and stated that if it weren't for the loopholes in the formation, Yi Feng wouldn't be able to find her. Yunlan stated that although there may be loopholes in the formation, it was not the reason why he tried to kill Yi Feng. He informed her that the reason he tried to kill Yi Feng was because he destroyed the eye of the formation that they had worked so hard to set up. When Bio Paio inquired when Yi Feng did such a thing, Yunlan let Bio Paio know that the flower in her hand was the eye of the formation. Bio Paio stated that there must be a misunderstanding. She pointed out to them that they saw it as well that Yi Feng picked the flower at random and not with the intention of destroying the eye of their formation. Bio Paio returned the flower to Yunlan so he would forgive Yi Feng. Yunlan stared at the flower with an annoyed look on his face. He decided not to pursue Yi Feng. However, he demanded that Bio Paio cooperate with them in the future. Yunlan suddenly trampled the flower. He suggested that they should get back to their rooms and get some rest. Moments later, Yi Feng asked Bio Paio what had happened. Bio Paio explained that he didn't need to worry because there was just a misunderstanding. When Yi Feng asked her if Yunlan was her man, Bio Paio hurriedly replied that Yunlan could never be her man. She explained that she had never been intimate with a man before. Noticing that he had a wide smile on his face, Bio Paio asked Yi Feng if it was good for him. Yi Feng remarked that it was good that Yunlan was not her man. He was confident that no man could bear to have his own woman given flowers by others in front of him. He thought to himself that since Yunlan was not Bio Paio's man, he wouldn't be polite to him if he kept on pushing him. Bio Paio asked Yi Feng how long he would be staying there. Yi Feng mentioned that he would have to leave at dawn the next day. He informed her that he had a long trip to do. Since Yi Feng was leaving immediately, Bio Paio didn't think twice about asking him if she could chat with him all night long. Yi Feng was shocked. It was the first time that he had been asked by a girl to chat, and he didn't know what he should do. He responded that it was not a good idea. He explained that they were both single, so it was not appropriate to spend the night together. Mao requested to stop thinking about inappropriate things. She informed him that she would be accompanying them. Yi Feng decided to agree to Bio Paio's request. He told Mao that he would be waiting for them in his room. Mao got excited. She asked Yi Feng if he had grilled chicken legs for dinner, sometime later at night. As she watched Yi Feng and Bio Paio cheerfully talk to each other, Mao felt that spring had come. She think that the two were really suited for each other. The next day, the time for Yi Feng to leave had come. After thanking her for her hospitality, Yi Feng promised Bio Paio that he would come back next time when he had time. Bio Paio wanted to tell Yi Feng that they might not meet again. However, she decided not to. She just nodded her head and smiled politely at Yi Feng. With nothing more to say, Yi Feng went on his way. Moments later, Bio Paio approached Yunlan. She declared that she would cultivate with peace of mind and try to awaken as soon as possible. Yunlan immediately instructed his men to quickly prepare and rearrange the formation. He stated that in order to avoid the same problem from appearing, he would personally control the arrangement of the formation. When Yunlan's men expressed that the formation would be surefire since Yunlan himself would be in charge, Yunlan explained that it was only natural because he was not like them, who let a mere mortal walk right in. He urged them to go and get things ready. The next day, near the waterfall, Yunlan informed Bio Paio that the formation had been rearranged. He mentioned that for the rest of the time, she just needed to stay there in seclusion until she awakened. Yunlan assured Bio Paio that since the formation was personally set up by him, there wouldn't be any problems like last time. While Yunlan said that it was impossible for them to be found unless the immortals came down from heaven, someone suddenly knocked on the door and looked for Bio Paio. Yunlan was extremely shocked. He was sure that he rearranged the formation perfectly, so he couldn't believe that Yi Feng still found that place. He claimed that what they heard must be a hallucination. However, to his surprise, Yi Feng was really behind the door. Yi Feng mentioned that he seemed to have dropped his wallet at her place. When Yunlan forced Yi Feng to say what devious methods he used, Bio Paio stated that instead of asking Yi Feng, he should reflect on his own issue. She made it clear to him that she wouldn't allow him to hurt Yi Feng. She warned him that if anything happened to Yi Feng, she would never cooperate with him. As soon as Yunlan let go of him, Yi Feng stated that he would like to go to the room and pick up his wallet himself. Bio Paio started having cold sweats. She tried to stop Yi Feng, but Yi Feng was too anxious because his wallet contained several hundred gold coins. Bio Paio got nervous and she didn't know what to do. Yi Feng went straight into the room. Yi Feng didn't listen to Bio Paio when she tried to convince him to go to other places first to look for his wallet. He explained that since he had only been in and out of that guest room, if his wallet was not there, it was even more unlikely to be anywhere else. The moment he saw the bed, Yi Feng was confused. He remembered that he took care of the quilt before he left. Bio Paio immediately suggested that maybe he just remembered it wrong. Yi Feng stared intently at Bio Paio. He acknowledged that maybe she was right. While Bio Paio was releasing a sigh of relief, Yi Feng found something. Bio Paio turned red when Yi Feng asked her why there was a woman's cloth on the bed. She felt so embarrassed that she just wanted to disappear. She scolded herself for forgetting to put away the pajamas she changed last night. Bio Paio wondered what Yi Feng would think of her if he found out that she had secretly slept in his bed. Seeing that she was panicking, Yi Feng advised to calm down. He asked her why she was acting that way. Out of nowhere, Mao barged into the room. Bio Paio hurriedly claimed that Mao slept in his bed after he left and that the pajamas must have been left behind by her. The moment Mao started talking, Bio Paio quickly threw the pajamas at her. She used her cultivation to send her away. And when Yi Feng asked her where Mao was, she responded that Mao might have run away because she was afraid of being ridiculed. Yi Feng just acknowledged Bio Paio's words. Later that day, Yi Feng found something again. Having located his wallet at last brought him great joy. Moments later, Yi Feng stated that he had to keep going because he had already lost a lot of time looking for his wallet. Honoring his decision, Bio Paio waved goodbye to Yi Feng with a smile. She thought to herself that once she awakened, that farewell would be the last one. She believed that it was her destiny. Bio Paio suddenly called Yi Feng. She asked him if he could give her a present. When Yi Feng asked her what present she wanted, she responded that anything would do. Yi Feng took out his stamp. He offered that he would give it to her if she didn't mind. After thanking him and promising him that she would cherish the stamp, Bio Paio mentioned that she would also like to give him a gift and that he could just ask if he needed anything. Yi Feng stated that he didn't lack anything when he suddenly noticed the wind chime. He asked Bio Paio if she could give that wind chime to him as a gift. A while later, Bio Paio told him to take care as he went on his way. While Bio Paio was hoping that Yi Feng would be reminded of her existence when he saw the wind chime, Yunlan asked his men which one of them turned off the formation. The three stated that none of them did. Yunlan was alarmed and was startled when he noticed something. When he asked where the wind chime was, Bio Paio nonchalantly responded that it was pulled out by Yi Feng. Yunlan couldn't believe what he just heard. He felt so frustrated that blood gushed out of his mouth. The three quickly supported Yunlan. They asked him to calm down and to stay strong. Annoyed, Yunlan asked his men how he could calm down when Yi Feng ruined his formation again. Although she really sympathized with Yunlan, Bio Paio still smiled. She found it funny that the same accident happened twice. Without taking a break, Yi Feng continued his long journey. Yi Feng suddenly realized that, in contrast to the Northern Sea, where the environment was cold and bad, there were many sects in the central continent that were known as the Cradle of the Strong, so he determined that it would be easier for a mortal like him to get into a sect in the Northern Sea. Yi Feng stated that they went to the Northern Sea first. Since he hadn't taken a break ever since he left Bio Paio's place, Yi Feng couldn't help but feel sleepy. On that night, something unusual happened on the Xianzhong continent. Ordinary people lamented at that sudden and extremely dark night. The starry sky was covered with dark clouds, and without a single ray of moonlight, it was impossible for them to know what went on. But at the same time, there was a huge uproar among the sect masters and experts. For a while, some people concealed their aura, and some people simply secluded, because they clearly knew that it was not a dark cloud at all, but one that they had never seen before. They initially claimed that the unknown, terrifying existence flew over the sky. However, they immediately realized that it actually squirmed. They were surprised to know that it was actually a giant snail. Sometime later, at the crack of dawn, because of how cold the weather was, Yi Feng started coughing the moment he woke up. Yi Feng looked around him and was inevitably surprised. He couldn't understand how he was able to cross the ocean in just one night. Yi Feng also couldn't understand why that place was cold. He decided to ask a fisherman for some information. Yi Feng was able to confirm that that place was indeed the Northern Sea. He was in disbelief. He remarked that it was far away, but according to his sleeping time, he determined that the distance should only be a few hundred kilometers. After taking out the flame orb and collecting Ketao, Yi Feng planned on finding a city or village to inquire about some of the forces in the Northern Sea. Unaware that a number of people were above him, Yi Feng nonchalantly expressed that, with the warm pearl given to him by Lu Qingshan, he was not afraid of the cold weather. In the sky, Rau Xu Xi, a Northern Sea high-level expert, recognized that the orb in Yi Feng's hand was a flame orb. Rau Xu Xi had searched all over the Northern Sea, even on the central continent and in the western demon forest, just to find a flame orb. His brothers immediately congratulated him for finally finding what he was looking for. Seemingly excited to get his hands on the flame orb, Rau Xu Xi and his brothers swiftly dove towards Yi Feng. Yi Feng finally noticed Rau Xu Xi and his brother's presence. Thinking that they were mountain bandits, Yi Feng was surprised that there were many of them at once. After telling him that he was curious as to how a little mortal like him was able to grab the flame orb, Rau Xu Xi assured Yi Feng that he would spare his life if he handed over the flame orb. Yi Feng bluntly refused to give Rau Xu Xi the flame orb. He retorted that he was using the flame orb to warm himself and that if he wanted it, he should go and buy it. Rau Xu Xi pointed out to Yi Feng that he was not asking him. Thinking that it was pointless to talk to a mere mortal, Rau Xu Xi decided to just kill Yi Feng and pick up the goods. At the same time, two passersby saw what happened on the ground. Yi family's Yi and her attendant, Xiao Chun, determined that Yi Feng was in big trouble. They immediately knew that Rau Xu Xi and his brothers were not good people. When Yi suggested that they should go and help, Xiao Chun expressed that it was better for them not to meddle, saying that they couldn't even protect themselves. Just as the two women landed behind him, Yi Feng reminded Rau Xu Xi that he had already mentioned that he would not give him the flame orb. Yi suddenly stepped in. She asked Rau Xu Xi and his brothers who they were and why they bullied a mortal. Rau Xu Xi stared intently at Yi as he released his overwhelming aura. Yi found out that Rau Xu Xi was a martial supreme. She couldn't believe that the one who intercepted a mortal was actually a martial supreme. Yi never declared that she would dig her own grave. However, thinking that they still couldn't escape death even if they didn't encounter that incident, Yi believed that they just got ahead of schedule. Yi apologized to Yi Feng. She confessed that she was afraid that the three of them wouldn't be able to get away. Yi Feng tried his best to hold back a laugh. He was amused by how fast Yi gave up after getting glared at by Rau Xu Xi. Believing that a kind-hearted person should not be let down, Yi Feng assured Yi that things were not that serious, pointing out that Rau Xu Xi and his brothers were just pieces of trash. Yi and Xiao Chun were extremely shocked. They exclaimed that Rau Xu Xi and his brothers could crush them to death in a moment. While the two women said that Yi Feng was undoubtedly out of his mind, Yi Feng thought to himself that he wouldn't dare to be so mouthful if he still hadn't detected Rau Xu Xi and his brother's talents. Knowing that Rau Xu Xi was enraged, one of his brothers asserted that he didn't have to make a move, saying that they would deal with Yi Feng themselves. Rau Xu Xi's brother suddenly appeared in front of Yi Feng. Seeing how fast their attacker was, the two women became certain that they wouldn't be able to escape. Yi Feng swiftly swung his arm, and blood immediately started gushing out of Rau Xu Xi's brother's throat. Rau Xu Xi's brother couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the kitchen knife in Yi Feng's hand. He fell heavily to the ground and died on the spot. Everyone couldn't believe what they just saw. They couldn't understand how a mere mortal could cut down a martial supreme with a kitchen knife. Yi Feng ridiculed Rau Xu Xi's brother for trying to kill him while moving like a dog. He nonchalantly taunted Rau Xu Xi and his brothers that if they didn't have any more nonsense to say, they should just come at him together. Rau Xu Xi and his brothers couldn't help but grind their teeth as they listened to Yi Feng call them pusses. They simultaneously released their aura, which created strong shockwaves that made Yi Feng's hair flutter. While performing some hand signs, Rau Xu Xi's brothers aggressively ran towards Yi Feng. However, to their surprise, Yi Feng managed to easily cut their throats. Noticing that they did some weird hand signs, Yi Feng couldn't keep himself from asking the two if they watched too much Naruto. Yi Feng swiftly dealt with the next person, Rau Xu Xi's last two brothers. With the nuisances out of his way, Yi Feng quickly slashed Rau Xu Xi's throat before he could even react. Yi and Xiao Chun were shocked by how fierce Yi Feng was. They couldn't believe that the mortal they tried to protect had already gone crazy and killed lots with just a kitchen knife. Yi Feng turned to look at Rau Xu Xi as he dropped to the ground. When Yi Feng asked Rau Xu Xi if he still wanted to rob him, Rau Xu Xi admitted that he was wrong and begged for his life to be spared. Yi Feng ordered Rau Xu Xi to speak louder. Thinking that Yi Feng was naive, Rau Xu Xi planned on teaching him a lesson. The moment she noticed that Rau Xu Xi released his full power, Yi hurriedly shouted to watch out. Rau Xu Xi gathered his power in his palm and swung it towards Yi Feng. Caught off guard, Yi Feng was hit by Rau Xu Xi's palm. As if dead, Yi Feng stopped moving. Xiao Chun expressed that it should be their end since Yi Feng was caught defenseless and received a fatal blow from a martial supreme. Rau Xu Xi growled to die in regret for not killing him immediately. However, when Yi Feng asked him if he touched him, Rau Xu Xi couldn't help but be confused and start having some cold sweats. Yi Feng commented that he needed some beating since he dared to touch him before dying. He expressed that, although it didn't hurt, it was insulting enough. Yi thought to herself that it seemed like a bad idea to describe a martial supreme's blow as a mere touch. Seeing how the situation had reversed yet again, she felt like nothing could stir up the waves inside her anymore. As they watched Yi Feng beat up Rau Xu Xi, both Xiao Chun and Yi couldn't keep themselves from trembling. A while later, Yi Feng announced that they didn't have to worry anymore. When Xiao Chun and Yi respectfully greeted Yi Feng assured that they didn't have to act like that because he was just getting rid of a few pieces of trash. Yi believed that they should not argue with what Yi Feng had expressed. After introducing herself and Xiao Chun, Yi asked Yi Feng to forgive them for not being able to do anything to help. Yi Feng replied that they were too polite and that he probably wouldn't be able to make such a great effort if it weren't for the two beauties like them. The moment Yi Feng asked if there was a city nearby, Yi immediately informed him that a city named Guantan was just a few dozen miles ahead. Yi Feng expressed how glad he was and advised to stop calling him a senior. He pointed out that he was just a mortal, so there was no need to treat him like some cultivator. Yi was shocked. She thought to herself that it was true that before Yi Feng took care of Rau Xu Xi and his brothers with ease, she declared that he was just a mere mortal. While she was looking at Yi Feng's inconspicuous face, she remembered that he didn't use any cultivation techniques while fighting. Suddenly, Yi's eyes widened in surprise as she realized that Yi Feng killed 7 martial supremes by using only mortal means. After talking for quite some time, Yi Feng decided to be on his way. He announced that he would take his leave first. Yi couldn't help but wonder if Yi Feng, the man who killed 7 martial supremes with only mere mortal ability, was an immortal. Remembering that there was a rumor that many big shots began to regard themselves as mortals, Yi remarked that Yi Feng was one of those big shots who liked to live a low-key life. When Xiao Chun reminded Yi that her master wanted them to leave the Northern Sea as soon as possible, Yi replied that she didn't intend to leave anymore. Yi gave Xiao Chun a storage ring that contained a lot of cultivation resources. She advised that her innate ability was not bad and that she should find a place to hide and cultivate well. Xiao Chun scolded Yi. She declared that if she really wanted to go back, she would also come with her and die with her. Xiao Chun showed Yi how serious she was. Yi was taken aback. She didn't seem to expect that Xiao Chun was that loyal to her. Acknowledging her resolve, Yi decided to let Xiao Chun come with her. Sometime later, Yi Feng stared in joy at what was in front of him. He finally arrived at Guantan City. With it being bigger than any of the cities he had been to in Dingsheng, Yi Feng knew that it would be enough to brag for a year when he went back. Looking at the city that stood before him like a lion, Yi Feng recalled some of the records in the book. In ancient times, the spiritual energy of the Xinjiang continent was prosperous, and at that time, everyone on the whole continent wanted to cultivate immortality. A variety of geniuses and abilities emerged endlessly, and were called by later generations the Great Immortal Era. At that time, even a small sect would only accept disciples once every 10 years, so those with slightly inferior talents could not get in at all. But later, due to the turmoil on the continent and the sudden drop in spiritual energy, the number of cultivators became less and less, and the sects began to fight for people. After all, talent is the foundation, and historically, there have also been people with average talent who were able to accomplish a wonderful life because of their efforts and opportunities. At present, anyone who had a bit of cultivation root bone was not afraid of not being able to enter a sect. Coinciding with that day, Yi Feng ran into a major event in Guantan City. An all-sect joint recruitment was actually taking place. Yi Feng immediately went to the registration office to register. The person in charge of the registration office informed Yi Feng that after the registration, his cultivation would be tested. Moments later, when Yi Feng was done with the registration, a lot of people were already waiting to be tested. When one of the men in the queue stated that he wouldn't be dumped again once he got into a sect, another man expressed that it was concerning that less than 10 were selected in the morning. 2 hours later, as he was about to enter the tent, Yi Feng couldn't help but get nervous when he saw how sad the person who just came out of the tent was. Inside the tent, the person in charge of the testing was startled the moment he saw Yi Feng. The man ordered Yi Feng to leave, and when Yi Feng complained that he hadn't even gotten in yet, the man explained that he could see at a glance that he did not have any cultivation. Yi Feng was inevitably annoyed. He had been in line for so long, and the man didn't even want to test him. Suddenly, Yi Feng tossed a pouch on the table. The man was overjoyed. He was glad that, after a day, a man with money had finally arrived. After clearing his throat, the man mentioned that according to the rules, he still needed to be tested. He instructed him to put his hand on the talent detection stone, which would emit different levels of radiance depending on the strength of the talent. The man pointed out that no response means no talent. Yi Feng immediately put his hand on the talent detection stone. To their surprise, the stone suddenly crumbled. Unable to understand why it always happened to him, Yi Feng was inevitably pissed off. Meanwhile, the man wondered what was wrong with the stone. He asserted that Yi Feng deliberately destroyed the stone, so he praised him for being cunning despite being a mortal. Without saying a word, Yi Feng tossed another pouch on the table. The man protested that a man of honor like him wouldn't accept his bribe. He pointed out that the test was already done and that the result was clear already. When Yi Feng tossed another pouch, the man's eyes widened in surprise. The man scolded Yi Feng. He made it clear to him that he would never accept his bribe. The man was about to say what would happen if they were found, but when Yi Feng tossed more pouches, he started laughing and remarked that nothing would happen if they could cover it. After saying that he already knew that Yi Feng was a talented person the moment he came in, the man confirmed that he passed because he saw a glimmer of light just before the detection stone cracked. Yi Feng couldn't help but curse. He started to believe that every time the talent stone shattered, it was just a coincidence and not because he was too talented. He had also practiced the skill books on the market, so he admitted that he really had no spiritual roots. The people around the tent were jealous of Yi Feng. They commented that Yi Feng was a fish leaping over the dragon's gate. Seeing how the girls tried to get his attention, Yi Feng couldn't help but feel euphoric. He thought to himself that it was what men should enjoy. Although he was well respected in Jinegping City, Yi Feng believed that those old women and old men could not be compared to those white and sweet smiles. He got even more determined to become a cultivator. Meanwhile, a fight seemed to happen in the Yi family, one of the great families of the Northern Sea. The patriarch of the Yi family, Yi Neng, expressed that he didn't expect the Yi family would end up in that situation. He declared that if any of them wanted to leave, they could just leave, and he would not say anything about it. The elders reminded Yi Neng that they were also part of the Yi family. They vowed that they would protect the Yi family and that they were sworn to follow it till death. Yi Neng was glad that the Yi family had men like them. After saying that he had no regrets, he asked everyone to join him in driving out the enemy. Moments later, while they shouted their support to the Yi family, Yi Neng and the elders noticed two people coming their way. When the two got closer, Yi Neng noticed that they were not their enemies. The two were actually Yi and Xiao Chun. The moment she landed in front of him, Yi Neng immediately asked Yi why she came back. Yi declared that, as a child of the Yi family, she could never be greedy for life and afraid of death because her family is in danger. She added that she also couldn't bear to be in the dark about why a big family like them got dispersed. Seeing the serious look on his daughter's face, Yi Neng couldn't help but express his sorrow. Yi Neng revealed to Yi that their Yi family was targeted by a mysterious organization. He explained that he didn't know why they were targeted because the mysterious organization just stated that the time had come for his Yi family to perish. Yi couldn't believe that some people actually tried to destroy the Yi family for no reason at all. She couldn't accept that some assholes dared to treat her Yi family with such disdain. When Yi asked if it was just to scare them, Yi Neng informed that the previous destruction of the Fang and Yun families was also the mysterious organization's doing. He revealed that the mysterious organization calls itself Rau. Yi Neng explained that Rau was composed of 7 people in total and that each one of them had the peak strength of a martial supreme. He was certain that with the Seven's alliance, they would have no problem destroying any of the forces in the Northern Sea. Knowing that Yi Neng was no match for Rau despite also being a martial supreme, Yi finally understood why he insisted that she should leave. She couldn't help but feel anguish as she wondered if her Yi family was really going to die like that. Out of nowhere, an image of a group of 6 people suddenly popped into Yi's mind. She thought of a group of 7 martial supremes dressed in black robes. Yi's eyes widened in shock as she thought of the bloody kitchen knife. She wondered if what she was thinking was right. Noticing the sudden change in her expression, Yi Neng couldn't help but ask Yi what was wrong. When Yi asked Yi Neng if the members of the Rau he mentioned were dressed in black robes and if the one in the lead had a scar on his face, Yi Neng was surprised at how she knew about those details. When Yi Neng asked Yi to explain, Yi explained that, by mistake, the members of Rau were all killed by a seemingly mortal senior. The elders were annoyed. They believed that it should be impossible and that Yi just made a joke. Yi confidently asserted that what she claimed was certainly not a joke. She assured them that the Rau Yi Neng spoke of were all dead already. Even though it was something that was hard to believe, Yi Neng decided to believe Yi for the time being. He asked her to explain the exact way in which the members of Rau died and how she learned of it. Yi stated that she and Xiao Chun saw the deaths of the members of Rau with their own eyes. Xiao Chun immediately confirmed that what Yi reported was true. Yi related that the person who killed the members of Rau only used the simplest means, pointing out that the person was a peerless power. She remarked that the person was a man of peerless power in a mortal body, out of the ordinary, like a walking god, and that the 7 martial supremes died in his hands like ants. The elders couldn't help but get excited. Afraid that he just dreamed, one of the elders asked to get slapped. One of the elders mercilessly whipped the elder who asked to get slapped, leaving him severely injured. Meanwhile, when Yi Neng asked Yi to take him to see the senior quickly, Yi informed him that Ephang had gone to Guantan City. Yi Neng immediately flew towards Guantan City. He wanted to thank Ephang for saving the Yi family's life. 2 hours later, in Guantan City, the people who passed the cultivation test were grouped into 4. The man in charge congratulated everyone. He declared that they were all talented people and that they would be inducted into the 4 great sects and become their disciples. Ephang got excited. The time for him to enter a sect had finally arrived. Without further ado, the man in charge invited the 4 great sect masters to choose their disciples. Everyone was surprised. They didn't expect that the great sect masters would come there personally. As the 4 great sect masters came into view, everyone looked up and wondered how long they were there. The sect master of Kanghai Mountain and the Eternal Sky Sword House expressed that they never imagined that their 4 great sects called one mountain, one house, and 2 valleys would be reduced to choosing a disciple from among people of that level. The sect masters of Tei Valley and Yunlong Valley added that despite the decline of the Xianzhong continent since ancient times, it was still too unusual to have only such a level of disciples. They felt that their northern sea was not producing any good talent, and disciples got worse every year. Following a brief silence, the sect masters determined that there was no point in arguing at that level, so they decided to just split the disciples up casually. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master declared that from that moment on, the disciples in the first row would be their people. Tei Valley's sect master announced that from that day onwards, they could call themselves Tei Valley disciples. Kanghai Mountain's sect master welcomed the third row to join them, and he expressed his liking for them. Thinking that their row would surely be taken by the last sect, Yi Feng thought to himself that things were going too well. It was a stepping stone for him to enter the door of cultivation. His next step was to mix there and go back to Dingsheng to get the qualifications, complete the system tasks, and reach the pinnacle of life. Just as Yi Feng predicted, Yunlong Valley's sect master declared that from that moment on, the disciples in the fourth row belonged to their valley. With him on the fourth row, Yi Feng felt so happy that he let out a celebratory cry. When Yunlong Valley's sect master stated that the disciple in white clothes didn't count, Yi Feng snickered and thought to himself that the one in white clothes was really miserable. Suddenly, Yi Feng realized that the person in white clothes was actually him and that the clown was actually himself. Yi Feng tried asking Yunlong Valley's sect master why he was excluded, but Yunlong Valley's sect master just responded that he already knew the answer. Yi Feng determined that he already got caught, so he decided to just admit that he didn't have any talent. He implored that he was really eager to join his sect and that he hoped that he would give him a chance. After saying that he couldn't help it because their Yunlong Valley has never broken the precedent of accepting untalented people, Yunlong Valley's sect master replied that he could ask other sect masters instead. Yi Feng was left standing alone on the platform, and since the sect masters ignored him, the crowd left, seemingly disappointed that Yi Feng turned out to be a muggle. Yi Feng was forced to just leave. He couldn't help but resent the sect masters for ignoring him. At the same time, when the sect masters were about to leave, a man suddenly came running towards them. The man announced that he had an urgent report. He informed them that the spies had sent a message that the Rau organization was eyeing the Yi family and that they would take action against the Yi family on that day. The four sect masters believed that they couldn't just ignore that matter. They were afraid that after dealing with the Yi family, the Rau organization would come after their sects next. Since they were on the same page, the four decided to hurry up and rescue the Yi family. They could only hope that they wouldn't be too late. The four sect masters flew as fast as they could. They were worried that they didn't even bother to talk to each other along the way. Sometime later, the four sect masters unexpectedly encountered Yineng and Yi. After confirming that it was really Yineng, the four sect masters were confused. They couldn't help but ask him why he was there. Annoyed, Yineng asked the four why they made it sound like he shouldn't be there. When the sect masters let Yineng know that they went to assist him because they received information from their spies that his family was targeted by Rau, Yineng thanked them for their trouble. Yineng assured them that there was no need to worry because the crisis of his Yi family had been resolved and that the organization had also been destroyed. The four sect masters were shocked. They immediately asked Yineng when it happened and if he was the one who destroyed Rau. Yineng expressed that, although he'd love to, he was not the one who did it. Yineng instructed Yi to tell the sect masters what she saw. He wanted her to let the four pull their ears too. As they listened to Yi's story, the sect masters' eyes widened in shock. Yineng felt good watching the horrified look on the sect masters' faces. It was something that was hard to believe, but since Yineng was in front of them, they were convinced that what Yi recounted was not a lie. The sect masters asked Yineng if he knew where the senior was. Believing that such a person was worth a life to meet once, the four demanded that Yineng take them to see the senior. Yineng replied that the senior was in Guantan City, and Yi immediately confirmed it. The sect masters were extremely shocked. Yi couldn't help but get worried as she watched her father get pulled away by the sect leaders, who were desperate to return to Guantan City as soon as possible. Meanwhile, somewhere in a snowy mountain, inside a temple, Yi Feng grumbled about his losses. He used 13 bags of gold coins but was still unable to get into the sect. Moments later, Yi Feng's kettle started whistling. Yi Feng couldn't help but express how glad he was that the tea was finally done. Suddenly, the system popped out of nowhere. It congratulated Yi Feng for reaching the level on par with God in the art of tea. Since Yi Feng completed all the tasks, he would be rewarded with the halo. The system also upgraded. Yi Feng started grinning. He knew about the halo reward beforehand, but the system upgrade was completely an unexpected surprise. He was excited to know what the system upgrade would bring him. After some time, the system informed Yi Feng that the system upgrade was complete. Yi Feng immediately asked the system what the halo's use was. To Yi Feng's disappointment, the system just replied that it was unable to respond to it, so he should just explore it by himself. The system immediately left, so Yi Feng decided to just summon the halo. A halo formed above Yi Feng's head, but he was still unable to see what the use of it was, so he started guessing that maybe it could prevent him from being hurt. To see if his guess was right, Yi Feng hit his head with a rock. Yi Feng found out that his guess was wrong. He wondered if the halo was something like a decree or order since it was all written like that on the internet. Yi Feng pointed at the sky and ordered it to make it rain. He waited for quite some time, but nothing happened. Yi Feng couldn't help but curse. He got convinced that the halo was another scam. Suddenly, the sky started rumbling. White things started falling from the sky. Moments later, it really did start raining. Seeing that the sky really did follow what he said, Yi Feng was overjoyed. He expressed that the halo was really awesome and that he felt like he had become invincible. As soon as he finished his words, Yi Feng noticed that the raindrops were big. He realized that it was actually not rain, but hail. After getting hit a couple of times, Yi Feng desperately ran towards the temple to take shelter. 3 hours later, inside the temple, Yi Feng studied the halo for a long time. However, except for shining on his head and having an obscure shape, he didn't find any use of it. In addition to rewarding a skeleton, Haou, and a light that could be summoned at any time, the function of the whole system was to detect the talents of others. The function itself was just like that, so Yi Feng wondered what else could be improved. He expressed that he no longer had any expectations for the system. All of a sudden, Yi Feng thought of something. He speculated that maybe after the upgrade, the function of detection had also been upgraded to allow him to detect other people's cultivation level or other secrets. A while later, cultivators flying in the sky caught Yi Feng's attention. Yi Feng immediately activated the system. He wanted to use those immortal cultivators to test the system upgrade. To Yi Feng's surprise, the system just responded that it was unwilling to detect his target. Enraged, Yi Feng cursed the fraud system and vowed that he would erase its entire community. Meanwhile, the Sect masters, who had just passed over Yi Feng, started to wonder why they hadn't found any trace of the senior yet. The Eternal Sky Sword House's Sect master couldn't help but ask Yi if she was sure that she didn't miss the senior. Yi replied that it shouldn't be the case. She mentioned that she remembered the appearance and back of the senior very well, so she would have recognized him immediately if she had seen him. Suddenly, Yi realized something. Thinking that the senior didn't want to reveal his identity, Yi suggested that the senior was purposely avoiding them because they flew around so much. Everyone believed what Yi stated. They immediately landed and resumed looking for the senior. Sometime later, the Sect master's communication devices suddenly started ringing. When Yi asked him if something was wrong, the Eternal Sky Sword House's Sect master reported that he was informed by his people that a heaven and earth vision came through from the sky above the Yixian Valley, and that they guessed that a heaven and earth treasure had appeared. The other Sect masters confirmed that they received the same information as well. Eternal Sky Sword House's Sect master announced that the 4 of them had to go over because the heaven and earth vision sign was very tremendous, and many hidden forces had also emerged one after another. Yi knew that it was truly a big deal, so he didn't stop the 4 from going. Before leaving, the 4 repeatedly reminded Yi that if he found the senior, he should not forget to introduce them to him. Yi assured the 4 that he would. When Yi asked how they should find the senior, Yi explained that since the senior has the kind of heavenly means that she says he has, if he doesn't refuse to see them, they would see him soon. Just as Yi finished his words, Yi Feng appeared and approached Yi. Yi immediately recognized Yi Feng's voice. Yi was surprised when he turned around and saw Yi Feng. While she was greeting Yi Feng, Yi thought to herself that, just as she predicted, as soon as they landed and concealed their cultivation, they found the senior in a flash. Meanwhile, Yi was observing Yi Feng. He found that he was exactly as described by Yi. The white robe appeared to be out of the ordinary, and there was not the slightest trace of cultivation in his body. Yi Feng insisted to Yi that she really didn't have to keep calling him senior. He pointed out to her that he was really just a mortal and that there was no need for mortals to treat fellow mortals like cultivators. Yi decided to simply address Yi Feng as Mr. And when she prepared to introduce Yi to him, Yi Feng informed them that he already knew Yi was her father. The 2 were utterly amazed. They became certain that Yi Feng was indeed a peerless expert. Yi Feng thought to himself that predicting the 2's relationship was not that difficult. He believed that with how much they looked alike, anyone could tell they were a father-daughter duo. Yi informed Yi Feng that they rushed to Guantan City because she wanted to bring her father to see him and thank him for saving her life. Yi expressed that he came to thank him for saving not only Yi's life but also his entire family. Yi Feng assured them they didn't have to be so polite, saying that the matter had already passed, so they should just turn the page there. The 2 were convinced that Yi Feng was indeed a big shot. They remarked that in Yi Feng's eyes, destroying the Rau organization and saving the Yi family from such calamity was not worth mentioning. Yi Feng invited the two to come in and have a seat in the shabby temple. He mentioned he was broke, that he could only make do there. The two were surprised. They assumed that living in a shabby temple must be Yi Feng's style. A while later, inside the temple, when Yi asked Yi Feng if he was not from the Northern Sea, Yi Feng revealed he was from Dingsheng. Yi Neng expressed his amazement. He observed he must have gone through a rough time since he traveled such a long distance. Yi Feng noted it was not that far away and that it was just a matter of one night. The two were inevitably shocked. The distance between the two places was 1,000,000 miles. In addition to the terrifying and dangerous Black Sea that had to be crossed in between, there were also countless sea taboos that could make people get lost in the sea. Therefore, in the history of the Northern Sea, there were very few people who could directly go from the Northern Sea to Dingsheng. Likewise, not many people from Dingsheng have come to the Northern Sea. Knowing those things, Yi Neng had a hard time understanding how Yi Feng was able to lightly say that traveling from Dingsheng to the Northern Sea was just a matter of one night. Out of nowhere, Yi Feng expressed that the Northern Sea became somewhat abrupt and unpredictable. Both Yi Neng and Yi got anxious. They wondered if Yi Feng tried to tell them something. Thinking that Yi Feng alluded to the situation in the Northern Sea, Yi Neng and Yi couldn't help but be alarmed. They immediately linked the blizzard Yi Feng mentioned to the sudden appearance of an outrageously powerful force such as Rau. The two believed that Yi Feng referred to the Fang family and the Yun family when he mentioned that a lot of people died due to the sudden blizzard. Yi Neng asked how long the blizzard would last. Yi Feng replied that it would last a long time and that he was afraid the big storm was still ahead. Yi Feng was actually annoyed. He wanted to ask Yi Neng if he was blind to not see the hail coming down. Yi Neng was at a loss as to how they would face such a storm. He thought to himself that since Yi Feng had disclosed such important information, he should also be able to give them some guidance. Yi Feng noticed that he already ran out of firewood. Although he could use the flame orb, he determined that it was better not to use it at that time. As Yi Feng brought out an object emanating blinding rays of light, Yi Neng and Yi desperately tried to cover their eyes. Their eyes adjusted to the light, and they were surprised to see that it was actually a gourd doll. Yi Feng informed that the gourd doll was something he carved for fun and sometimes played with. Yi Feng suddenly tossed the gourd doll into the flames, so Yi Neng got so shocked that he asked why he cruelly destroyed such a divine object. Yi Feng nonchalantly explained that there was no firewood to burn, so he had no choice but to destroy the defective goods he used to practice carving before. Knowing that each of those wood carvings could be regarded as family heirlooms, Yi Neng and Yi couldn't understand why Yi Feng claimed those were defective goods. Yi Feng braggingly remarked that they must feel good. He immediately regretted saying such things, realizing that those gourds would only keep them warm for a short while. Suddenly, Yi Neng and Yi exclaimed as they felt a powerful martial intent rapidly pouring into their bodies. People's natural talents and bone roots were inherently predetermined, unless they held some amazing treasure that could change a thing or two. Yi Neng never imagined Yi Feng's ability to be on such a level. He felt like he, a short man in his 40s, suddenly grew a few dozen centimeters taller. Yi also felt that her shackles and restrictions burst. The two couldn't help but think that the reason Yi Feng mentioned feeling good was that he wanted to give them such a huge opportunity. They expressed their gratitude to Yi Feng, and Yi Feng responded that there was really no need for them to be so polite. Yi Feng asserted that if they were really grateful to him, they should just pass on that kindness and help more people. While the two walked out of the temple, Yi Feng cheered for them. He encouraged that they could pass on the love and shine the Northern Sea with their love. The two expressed that Yi Feng must be a universal man who cannot bear to see the Northern Sea shrouded in darkness. They also believed that they were the ones chosen by Yi Feng to save everything. Meanwhile, inside the temple, Yi Feng wondered when the cold would end. Yi Neng and Yi stated that Yi Feng knew it would be difficult for them to do anything with their strength, so he improved their cultivation and reconstructed their talents and bone roots. Yi Neng was certain that Yi's meeting Yi Feng was not a coincidence, as was Yi Feng's entanglement with the Rau organization. Yi Neng shared with Yi that he suspected Yi Feng was also responsible for the heaven and earth vision in the Yixian Valley, which was intended to divert the attention of the four sect masters. Yi Neng explained that Yi Feng did it so that fewer people would know the person he would choose as the savior. Yi expressed that it must be true since Yi Feng showed himself as soon as the four left. Yi Neng and Yi determined that they couldn't let the sect masters know about their meeting with Yi Feng. They shouldn't let Yi Feng down, so the two decided to hurry back to seclusion and make a breakthrough first. A few days later, in Yixian Valley, the four sect masters asked their opponents' identities. They were surprised that they lost even with four of them, each being one Fate Marshal Supreme. Calling them four wastes, one of the unknown individuals declared that all they needed to know was that they would die there on that day. The sect masters couldn't help but be alarmed when the unknown individuals suddenly charged towards them. They desperately tried to defend themselves, but the unknown individuals were still able to easily connect their attacks. The sect masters started thinking that they might really die there on that day. They despaired. The thought of dying just wouldn't get out of their heads. Out of nowhere, 2 streaks of light swiftly passed in front of the unknown individuals. Simultaneously, the unknown individuals screamed, and blood gushed out of their chests. The sect masters were shocked. They immediately tracked down the source of the 2 swords that had killed their opponents. Knowing that they were the ones who had killed their enemies, the sect masters thanked the 2 people in the sky and called them seniors. Their saviors landed in front of them, and the sect masters' eyes widened in disbelief. They couldn't believe that the 2 were actually Yi Feng and Yi. They noticed that Yi Feng had actually broken through to the 5th Fate Martial Supreme despite being only 1 Fate a few days ago, and from Martial King, Yi became a Martial Saint. Knowing that such a level couldn't have been achieved even with some high-grade elixir, the sect masters couldn't help but ask the 2 what opportunities they had found. Yi Feng replied to the sect masters that all they needed to know was that it was the father-daughter duo who had saved the day. The Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master suggested to just forget about their questions. He asked to explain what was going on. Yi Feng wryly retorted that he wouldn't tell them, leaving them extremely annoyed. The Canghai Mountains sect master suddenly remembered to ask Yi Feng if he had found the senior that he talked about. Yi Feng refused to answer. The 4 felt even more frustrated. The Yunlong Valley's sect master reminded that it was agreed that he would be responsible for finding the senior, and would let them know first as soon as there was news. Yi Feng asserted that he hadn't stated that he would tell them first, pointing out that they just made it all up by themselves. He had something to do, so Yi Feng suggested that they should go since they had wasted so much time with the sect masters already. The Canghai Mountains sect master expressed that Yi Feng must have found the senior and gotten an opportunity from him. The 3 agreed with what Canghai Mountains sect master remarked, so they decided to go to Guantan City and look for the senior immediately. 2 days later, Yi Feng expressed that joining a sect in Guantan City should have been impossible. Guantan City was controlled by the 4 great sects, and there were no other sects at all, so Yi Feng determined that if he wanted to find a smaller sect, he should go to a small city. A while later, Yi Feng chose Bio City as his destination. He kept his spirits up because he heard that Bayer was a small and crowded city, and that there were many large and small sects recruiting there. Yi Feng cheerfully remarked that from the temple, they just needed to pass through a Grand Canyon, and Bayer City would not be far after that. Within 3 days, Yi Feng crossed the valley and reached Bayer City. As soon as he arrived, he walked around the city to look for sects he could join. Some time later, Yi Feng found a recruiting sect named Homecoming. Although the name was a bit of a stretch, it was fine with him as long as he could get in. While Yi Feng queued to enter the sect, someone inside the sect expressed that it was really tiring that they still weren't able to find any news about the senior after looking for him for 3 days. Canghai Mountains sect master suggested that since they were there already, they should take a rest first and do whatever it took to find the senior and get the opportunity. After taking a look at the recruitment list, Yunlong Valley's sect master informed that there was not even a single decent one there. They determined that the situation in Bayer City was indeed worse. Tei Valley suggested that they just pull the plug since, ever since they joined together to open that homecoming sect in Bayer City, they had not yet received a single decent disciple. Yunlong Valley's sect master didn't agree, saying that even if they used that sect as a base, they could still take 1 disciple at a time. Moments later, the Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master was annoyed by the noise coming from the outside. One of the sect master's men immediately reported a mortal without any talent, insisting on joining the homecoming sect, and refusing to listen to anything. While the others remembered the shameless mortal that they met in Guantan City, the Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master ordered the man to drive the mortal away. The Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master heard the mortal say that they would surely regret it in the future, so he got so furious that he had the urge to shoot the mortal to death. The other sect masters remarked that it was very inappropriate for him to pick a fight with a mere mortal. Even though everyone was laughing at him for looking so desperate to compete with a mortal, the Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master still didn't care. Yi Feng vowed that when he completed the system tasks, started cultivation, and became the most famous person in the entire continent, he would make everyone regret that day. Turning around the entire city, Yi Feng found that it seemed that there was really no one who wanted him. Suddenly, someone approached Yi Feng. The person mentioned that although his talent was very poor, his calm temperament could make things happen if he carved and grinded well. The person was actually an old man. He asked if he wanted to join his Kingu sect. Yi Feng was overjoyed. However, he immediately composed himself, thinking that him being invited into a sect was an anomaly, so the old man might be a fraud. Ephang asked if his Kingu sect was the sect of cultivators, and the old man immediately confirmed that it was. The old man added that the origin of his Kingu sect scared the bulls to death, and that his ancestor, Wang Kingu, was a martial king powerhouse and had a great reputation. Ephang was amazed. He found the title of the martial king reliable and sounding awesome. The old man stated that he was Zhu Shiguang, the third master of the Kingu sect, and Ephang observed that he must also be very strong and should be at least in the martial spirit realm. Zhu Shiguang was taken aback. He admitted that he was indeed a martial spirit. Thinking that a sect with a martial spirit elder in charge couldn't be any worse, Ephang was overjoyed that he finally found someone who was blind enough to want to accept him. Ephang enthusiastically paid respect to Zhu Shiguang. Zhu Shiguang was glad that he finally coaxed one. He started to believe that that year's sect assessment was still a possibility. The sects in the Xinjiang continent were both graded and assessed annually. Among the 9 grades, the first grade was the highest and the 9th grade was the worst, so the 9-grade sect should have a minimum of 100 disciples and a minimum of 10 newcomers each year. Under the leadership of its first sect master, the Kingu sect reached the 8th grade in its heyday. However, it later went through a decline and was reduced to the 9th grade. On that day, the Kingu sect had less than 100 disciples and was facing dissolution. That situation forced the sect master himself to go down the mountain and pull people. Zhu Shiguang didn't expect the competition to be that big. Those who were slightly talented had already been pulled away by the 4 great sects, and small sects like them couldn't even participate. He thought to himself that mortals are mortals and that they must not let Ephang know about their embarrassing situation so he wouldn't run away. Zhu Shiguang informed that he would take him back to the sect, so Ephang suggested that they should fly back, saying that he had seen disciples of other sects being brought back in that way. Zhu Shiguang reluctantly agreed. A while later, ignorant of how Zhu Shiguang shook vigorously and tried his best not to fall, Ephang cheerfully expressed his enjoyment. He asked why it was a little shaky, so Zhu Shiguang explained that the airflow was just bumpy. Ephang suggested to Zhu Shiguang that they should hurry up because it was getting late. However, Zhu Shiguang didn't agree, saying that although he could accelerate, things might get scary and that there was a possibility that Ephang couldn't stand that bump. Zhu Shiguang actually wanted to hurry up as well, but his strength wouldn't allow it. The martial spirit realm was the threshold to govern the sky, so it was inevitable for him to have a hard time flying, especially since he carried Ephang. 1 hour later, Zhu Shiguang's flight clearly became a lot more unstable. Moments later, Zhu Shiguang lost his strength and fell. Luckily, he was able to muster a bit of strength. Ephang got so nervous that he couldn't keep himself from panting heavily. Zhu Shiguang forced himself to persist. He was desperate not to fall off the wagon and let Ephang see how weak he was. Suddenly, Ephang and Zhu Shiguang started screaming at the top of their lungs as Zhu Shiguang finally reached his limit. While Zhu Shiguang said not to be afraid, Ephang expressed that he would suffocate to death first before falling to death. The two plummeted into the trees and fell heavily to the ground. Ephang immediately checked Zhu Shiguang's condition. He asked why he suddenly fell down while flying. Zhu Shiguang hurriedly tried to think of an excuse. He claimed that someone attacked them while they were in the air. Ephang looked for their attacker, so Zhu Shiguang informed that he wouldn't be able to see them because they use space attacks. Ephang was unsure what a space attack meant. Zhu Shiguang explained to Ephang that a space attack is a very advanced technique that could kill people invisibly. He claimed that while they were still in the air, 3 experts used space to mount a sneak attack on him and that he fought while flying with Ephang. So in the end, while protecting Ephang, he used monstrous means to kill the enemy and failed to avoid falling down. Ephang earnestly declared that he's a great man and truly righteous. Zhu Shiguang acted humble and replied that it was just a trivial matter. Although he was hurt, Zhu Shiguang was glad that he reacted in time and saved the stuffing. He announced that he would continue on the road after a good rest, making him think that the battle consumed a huge amount of his power. 1 hour later, after being told that they had arrived at their Kingu sect, Ephang exclaimed in amazement. He thought to himself that Zhu Shiguang must be a low-key expert since he protected him against 3 enemies and also killed them back. Moments later, someone greeted Zhu Shiguang. Zhu Shiguang noted that she was just in time. He introduced her to Ephang and instructed her to show Ephang around and find a place to stay. Yunwu cheerfully acknowledged her master's instructions. She immediately grabbed Ephang's hand. Ephang's eyes widened in surprise as Yunwu started dragging him around. Yunwu announced that she was his martial sister and that she was pleased to meet him. The next day, some of Zhu Shiguang's disciples began cultivating diligently early in the morning. Meanwhile, the other disciples had just finished washing the clothes and started cleaning the sect. Simultaneously, inside a room, a person could hear a person giggling joyfully. The person was actually Lai Yong, an immortal who possessed a body and began living by the name Wuao. In order to avoid being chased, he escaped to that small sect in a barren land thousands of miles away, changed his face and appearance to conceal his identity, and became a handyman disciple. Although all his seizing barriers were destroyed and the underground palace was overturned, he was still thankful that he didn't die from the urine. At that time, he had the opportunity to run into two old men and managed to bring himself back to life. Although he lost 99% of his cultivation, he was confident that, as long as Yi Feng would not find him again, low-key practice would restore his cultivation. Wuao started laughing wildly. He strongly believed that Yi Feng would never find him again. Moments later, Wuao heard a woman inform her junior brother that they had arrived at the place. The woman reminded that although Wuao was a nice person, he still had to call him senior brother. Wuao expressed that it seemed that he needed to give his new junior brother some beating so that he would listen to him honestly in the future. The woman notified that the new disciple who just arrived was arranged together with him, and Wuao responded that it was not a problem. Wuao confidently assured his senior sister that he would definitely take good care of their junior brother. However, the moment he saw that the new disciple was actually Yi Feng, he got so shocked that his eyes bulged and his mouth opened wide. Wuao was afraid of Yi Feng that he subconsciously backed away. Ignorant of what he did to him, Yi Feng inevitably became confused as to why Wuao reacted that way. Wuao was certain that Yi Feng was the same person who peed on him. He couldn't help but wonder how he managed to find him. Wuao was preoccupied with the idea that Yi Feng was keeping him in his clutches, that he just ignored Yi Feng's concern for him. He was terrified, believing that Yi Feng was still able to see through him despite changing his face a few times. Suddenly, Wuao remembered that he already placed a teleportation formation there long ago. It was a single-person teleportation, so after using it, it would self-destruct and prevent Yi Feng from chasing. However, before Wuao could even try to escape, Yi Feng accidentally stepped on a pot and broke it. Out of nowhere, a fly appeared and looked back at Wuao while it flew out of the room. Yunwu wondered why there was a flower pot at the doorway. She assured Yi Feng that it was alright because Wuao wouldn't mind it. Yi Feng immediately apologized to Wuao and admitted that he was careless, since he destroyed his teleportation formation. Wuao couldn't help but view Yi Feng as a devil. He claimed that Yi Feng was after him and was there to kill him. She still had things to do, so Yunwu instructed Yi Feng and Wuao to talk and get to know each other first. Yi Feng assured Yunwu that she could go back to her work. Wuao became depressed. Despite taking some desperate measures, Yi Feng still found him, and his plan of returning to the immortal world after another 10,000 years might not be realized. Nevertheless, Wuao still refused to give up. Since Yi Feng didn't kill him right away, he believed that there was still a chance. In that courtyard, there was a game of chess that embodied his life's wisdom. There were several built-in formations that could be easily activated by the corresponding moves to protect his life. Everything had its flaws, and in that game of chess, there was a particular piece that, if moved, would destroy the formation. However, it was not something that could be seen through unless the person was at the pinnacle of chess skill. Wuao believed that a person with such skills couldn't be found, even in the entire Xianzhong continent. Moments later, when Yi Feng found Wuao's game of chess, he stated that that game didn't count as the end game. He moved a chess piece to show Wuao and prove that he was right. Suddenly, a light escaped from the game of chess and pierced through the sky. Yi Feng proudly informed that the game of chess had been broken. Wuao was extremely shocked. He couldn't believe that Yi Feng just treated his game of chess like nothing and broke it. He no longer had tricks up his sleeves anymore. Yi Feng had taken everything from him once again. All the formations that he prepared were seen through in a second. Wuao couldn't help but think that the reason why Yi Feng didn't kill him was to play with him. He believed that Yi Feng wanted to torture him, to let him experience fear and despair by destroying everything that he had done. He had gone through a lot of suffering, all because he tried to take over the body and offended the terrifying existence in front of him. Using the system, Yi Feng detected that Wuao was just a mortal, and he speculated that Wuao was scared of him because he believed he was a cultivator and would likely bully him. Yi Feng stated that he didn't have to be afraid because they were the same kind of people, but Wuao was perplexed as to what Yi Feng meant. Yi Feng gave Wuao a wood carving as a small greeting gift. It was emanating such a dense immortal aura that Wuao's eyes bulged in surprise. Remembering that Yi Feng stated that they were the same kind of people, Wuao wondered if Yi Feng was also from the upper world. He thought of Yi Feng's seemingly murderous and unkillable way of making him feel that he had nowhere to run and turning his hope into a bubble of illusion. Feeling like Yi Feng was playing with him, Wuao couldn't help but wonder if all the big shots in the upper world were perverted. Wuao determined that, for the time being, he was not going to die yet, so he decided to take things one step at a time and see what happened. Yi Feng didn't expect that he would not be alone there. He thought to himself that since they were all poor people, they must have a good relationship to keep the regiment warm. Some time later, in the homecoming sect, the 4 sect masters received a lot of information. The Yi family's father and daughter destroyed a mysterious organization, and Yi Neng killed 3 Ten Fates martial supremes by himself. Yi received an ancient inheritance in the Northern Sea, and her cultivation had increased greatly. The father and daughter of the Yi family had broken through the human immortal realm, reached the earth immortal realm, and became the Northern Sea's first major. Since Yi Neng was one realm below them before, the sect masters became certain that he had gotten some guidance from the senior in Guantan City. The Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master conveyed that when he saw Yi Neng, he would definitely not spare him for keeping all the benefits. But when Tei Val's sect master inquired if he could even touch Yi Neng with his level, he couldn't help but feel awkward. Yunlong Val's sect master refused to let things be. He insisted that they had to find the senior no matter what. Everyone agreed. They believed that if they worked together, they would definitely find the senior. At the same time, a cultivator who was flying in the sky landed in the Kingu sect. It was actually Zhu Xiguang. He thought to himself that the sect assessment in a month's time would be a possibility since, including the 2 mortals, there were exactly 100 people in their sect. He felt that it was not in vain that he, the sect master, personally went down the mountain to coax 2 fools to come there, and he believed that he still had to appease them before the assessment so they couldn't run away. Out of nowhere, Yunwu approached Zhu Xiguang and greeted him. She informed that Ephang was very good at playing chess, and that she was learning chess from him. Zhu Xiguang remarked that it was not bad. He instructed Yunwu to take him in to have a look. Moments later, Ephang respectfully greeted Zhu Xiguang as soon as he saw him. Zhu Xiguang inquired how the 2 of them were doing, and Ephang responded that they were doing well and asked to corroborate. Wuao hurriedly confirmed that he and Ephang were doing well. Seeing how miserable Wuao's face was, Zhu Xiguang couldn't help but doubt the truthfulness of his words. He stated that he would believe him since he said it himself. They not to be discouraged just because they were handyman disciples, and Zhu Xiguang promised the 2 that since they had joined the sect, he would certainly let them learn skills. He advised them to be mindful of their ideals and to take one step at a time through strong will. Zhu Xiguang asked if he understood, so Ephang nodded his head vigorously. Zhu Xiguang asserted that even if Ephang's talent was not good, the Kingu sect could still break the world's stereotypes since it had a long and deep heritage, and that back in the day, even when their Kingu sect was a martial king expert, no one in 100 miles knew about him. He stated that although the old man had fallen, he had left countless resources and legacies to their sect. So as long as Ephang dedicated his heart and cultivated, those great legacies might come to him in the future. Zhu Xiguang assured Ephang that he would eventually succeed. He thought to himself that after listening to such a feel-good motivational story, Ephang ought not to run away. Zhu Xiguang left. He stated that he should cultivate well and that it was just a matter of time before he could also fly like him. Moments later, Zhu Xiguang felt glad that no one saw how his clothes were ripped apart because of a branch. From that day on, Ephang lived an undisturbed sect life. Thinking that Ephang purposely let go of his immortal life to pretend to be immortal, Wuao wondered how long Ephang was going to play. A few days ago, he used his last resort to get a teleportation talisman, but Ephang destroyed it before he could even get his hands on it. He was afraid of Ephang that he offered him drinking water without getting asked. Ephang guessed that Wuao was afraid of him because he still stated that he had cultivation. He thought to himself that it was a good feeling to be feared, unlike the old men and women who were polite to him. Unsolicited, Yunwu brought Ephang some delicious food. Ephang mentioned that she was too kind and that it was not good to call him brother all the time because she was a senior sister. Yunwu explained to Ephang that she was just returning the favor for teaching her how to play chess, carve, and write, and that he was older than her, so it was more comfortable to call him brother. Yunwu inquired what his opinion was, so Wuao hurriedly replied that she was right. Wuao was ignored as Yunwu asked to come closer to her for a moment. Yunwu stated that he might be able to cultivate if he consumed the elixir that she got from Zhu Xiguang. She instructed not to let Wuao know about it. Ephang was touched by Yunwu's kindness. He determined that Yunwu was a weak 3rd level martial practitioner, so he was shocked that she was willing to give such an opportunity to him instead of eating it herself. Yi Feng didn't accept the elixir. He mentioned that it was not okay and that the elixir was even more important for her as a cultivator. However, Yunwu insisted. Yunwu cheerfully stated that cultivation was not significant to her, and that the most important thing for her was happiness. Yi Feng finally discovered that the reason why Yunwu was wandering around all day was that she didn't want to cultivate. Yi Feng decided to accept the elixir. He was excited to know if it could really make him a cultivator. As soon as Yi Feng put the elixir in his mouth, Yunwu immediately inquired if it was delicious. Yi Feng found the taste of the elixir even worse than dog food. However, he still forced himself to tell Yunwu that it was delicious. Yunwu instructed Yi Feng to quickly try the effect of the elixir, mentioning that it might work right away. Half an hour later, Wuao was startled when Yi Feng suddenly expressed that it seemed like he was really a trash. Yunwu explained that although he didn't become a cultivator, he shouldn't feel dejected because it was not a big deal. She was going back home that day, so Yunwu asked if he would like to come with her and try her mother's cooking. Yi Feng agreed, stating that he'd be bored otherwise. The two invited Wuao to come with them, and Wuao reluctantly consented. He mentioned that Yi Feng was afraid that he would be found out there, so he wanted to go somewhere else to kill him. Yi Feng discovered that Yunwu's family was in Betrayal City, so he thought that 100 miles was quite a distance. He decided to show them some of his secrets. He believed that it was not a problem since Yunwu was innocent and Wuao was an honest man. He had a mount that could bring them to Betrayal City in no time, so Yi Feng advised that they should not tell anyone about it. A loud noise echoed in the courtyard the moment Yi Feng summoned Haou. Yunwu found Haou so cute that she was excited. Seeing that Haou seemed to like Yunwu very much, Yi Feng allowed Yunwu to climb up Haou's shell. He looked at Wuao and thought to himself that Wuao probably had never seen such a big snail. Yi Feng attempted to convince Wuao to ride Haou, but Wuao insisted that he still couldn't. Wuao was certain that Haou was the thing that shrouded the entire northern sea in that extremely dark night a few days ago. He couldn't believe that Haou was actually related to Yi Feng. Once again, Yi Feng encouraged him not to be afraid and to just come up, and Wuao decided to comply. 1 hour later, the Yi family father and daughter could be seen flying in the sky of Betrayal City. As soon as she saw Yi Feng, Yi immediately notified Yi Neng. Yi Neng confirmed that the person was indeed Yi Feng. He suggested that they should hurry up and go greet Yi Feng. Moments later, Yi Feng and Yunwu's conversation was interrupted when Yi and Yi Neng suddenly appeared in front of them. Yi and Yi Neng greeted him, so Yi Feng expressed that he was surprised to see them there. Yi Feng informed that they were going to a friend's house to have a meal. He introduced Yunwu and Wuao. Yi and Yi Neng immediately greeted Yunwu and Wuao. Yunwu kindly returned the two's greetings, noticing that Wuao was exuding an elusive aura all over his body as if he were pressing the flood of power within his body. Yi and Yi Neng became certain that the people around Yi Feng were certainly not ordinary people. Yunwu invited Yi and Yi Neng to join them, but Yi and Yi Neng didn't respond immediately. Instead, they waited for Yi Feng to say something. Yi Feng suggested to Yi Neng that they should go together since Yunwu asked for it, mentioning that the more people, the better. Some time later, inside Yunwu's house, Yi Feng and the others were warmly welcomed by Yunwu's parents. Yunwu's mother requested them to stay there and talk while she cooked something delicious for them. Yi Feng offered some help, but Yunwu's mother declined and stated that there was no need and that they should just enjoy themselves. However, Yi Feng still insisted on helping. He expressed that if he could help her, he would be happy too. Yi and Yi Neng were amazed by Yi Feng's simplicity. They were certain that no one would believe that a big shot who could shake the northern sea just by stamping his feet would be picking vegetables. Yi Neng proposed that they should go and help as well. Suddenly, the kitchen became lively. With Yi Feng giving instructions, everyone assisted Yunwu's mother in cooking. A while later, Yi conveyed that she had a feeling that the soup would let them have an advancement that was even more satisfying than the advancement in cultivation. Yi Neng agreed, stating that the soup would make their future advancement smoother. Everyone, along with Yunwu's parents, sat around a table together. Yi Feng inquired if Yunwu's mother had any wine. As soon as Yunwu's mother responded that they didn't have wine because their family doesn't usually drink, Yi Neng immediately volunteered to go and buy some. At the same time, 4 cultivators could be seen flying in the sky, seemingly searching for something. Eternal Sky Sword House's Sect Master felt frustrated because, after searching for quite some time, in that vast sea of people, they still had no news of the senior. Suddenly, the Sect Masters spotted Yi Neng go into a small liquor store by himself. They noticed that Yi Neng was acting weird. They couldn't understand why a 10 Fates Martial Supreme like him would act like a mere commoner. To know why he was acting that way, the Sect Masters decided to go over and ask Yi Neng. The Sect Masters greeted Yi Neng as soon as they landed in front of him. Yi responded that they shouldn't waste his time because Yi Feng was still waiting for him. The sect masters became excited and inquired if Yi Feng was the senior that he was talking about. Yi hurriedly covered his mouth. He stated that it was none of their business and that they should just do what they needed to do. The sect masters were certain that Yi was talking about the senior because they believed that, with his strength, no one else should be able to make him buy some wine. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master suggested to everyone that they should follow and keep an eye on Yi. Without a second thought, everyone agreed with the Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master's idea. After following him for quite some time, the sect masters saw Yi enter a house. The sect masters believed that it was possible that the senior was in that house. However, they didn't dare act rashly, so they decided to just wait and see what happened. Yi mentioned that Ephang had his own plans, so he just let the sect masters do what they liked to do and did not take the initiative. Yi hurriedly went to the dining room and presented the wine to Ephang. While they were enjoying the food and wine, Yunwu informed that Yi Feng was not only her fellow disciple but also her half-master since he was teaching her how to play chess, draw, and carve. Yunwu's mother became curious. She asked to show her what she had learned. Determining that Yunwu was favored by Yi Feng, Yi stated that they must befriend her. Yi agreed with Yi, but she wondered why the ordinary-looking Yunwu was chosen by Yi Feng. Yi reprimanded Yi for daring to talk nonsense. He explained that the great wisdom of Yi Feng could never be fully grasped by them. Moments later, when they saw the things that Yunwu drew and carved, Yi and Yi turned pale in surprise. They didn't expect that the painting actually contained the power of the great Tao. They also couldn't understand how a young girl who was only a third-level martial practitioner created a sculpture that could release such a mellow and rich pressure and energy. Yi and Yi thought to themselves that the people chosen by Yi Feng were indeed extraordinary. Yunwu's mother thanked Yi Feng for teaching her child, and Yi Feng responded that he didn't do much because it was just all because of Yunwu's innate talent and intelligence. Yunwu mentioned to her mother that the sculpture and painting were for her to look at if she missed her. Yunwu's mother accepted Yunwu's work and stated that she would frame it and show it to her family and friends. Another hour later, Yi Feng determined that it was already time for them to leave and return to the Kingu sect. Outside the house, Tei Valley's sect master hurriedly informed that the people inside were coming out. The sect masters saw Yi but they chose to ignore him since the person behind him was the one they were actually looking for. Moments later, someone stepped out of the house. Yunlong Valley's sect master exclaimed. He was certain that the person who came out after Yi was the senior that they had been looking for. The sect masters felt so blessed that they thanked the heavens. They expressed that they must clearly see what the senior looked like. While Yi Feng thanked Yunwu's parents for their hospitality, the sect masters took the opportunity to take a look at his face. The sect masters were taken aback. Tei Valley's sect master conveyed that Yi Feng was indeed a peerless expert since he was handsome. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master concurred, mentioning that just seeing Yi Feng was like a spring breeze and warm sunshine in that icy atmosphere, which felt good. While the three thought about how to seize the opportunity, Kanghai Mountain's sect master abruptly inquired if they noticed that Yi Feng looked a bit familiar. The three were shocked. Yunlong Valley's sect master and Tei Valley's sect master realized that Yi Feng really did look a bit familiar. However, none of them could remember where they saw him before. Out of nowhere, Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master yelled. He repeatedly stated that he remembered who Yi Feng was. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master suddenly began slapping himself. The others was confused. They suggested that if he remembered something, he should just tell them. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master reminded that in Guantan City, when they recruited disciples in the central plaza, they all saw Yi Feng. The three finally recalled that the mortal who begged them to let him into their sect, which they had just ignored, was Yi Feng. The three simultaneously raised their hands. They slapped themselves so hard that the birds were startled. The sect masters admitted that it turned out that Yi Feng had already prepared an opportunity for them at first and even wanted to join their sect. But they were blind enough and regarded the senior as immortal and pushed him out of the door. They regretted having missed the great opportunity to make their sect rise for nothing. Tei Valley's sect master suggested that they should just forget about it, saying that no one was to blame if they didn't know. She was confident that with Yi Feng's temperament, he wouldn't take it to heart, so she proposed that they should just discuss how to approach him next. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master insisted that they must not step forward abruptly, especially since Yi Neng, who would probably stir them up, was around. Tei Valley's sect master recommended that they should first go to Yunwu's parents' small store to find out the information before making a decision. Moments later, Yunwu's mother was startled when people came looking for her. She inquired if they wanted to buy something. The man in the lead clarified that they were not there to buy anything, and that she should just tell them everything that she knew. Terrified, Yun Wu's mother questioned what they wanted. Yi Feng's sect master advised her to just ignore Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master. They were there to find Yi Neng and Yi Feng, and she claimed that they were friends with them and that they heard from someone that they stopped over in her store. Yun Wu's mother was relieved to know that the four were Yi Neng and Yi Feng's friends. She immediately invited them to have a seat. Yun Wu's mother informed that both Yi Feng and Yi Neng had just eaten there, and that they had left not long ago. She mentioned that, although she was not really familiar with them, Yi Feng and her daughter were fellow disciples of the same sect. The sect masters didn't believe that Yi Feng was actually a fellow disciple of Yun Wu. Yi Feng's sect master promptly asked which sect Yun Wu belonged to. Yun Wu's mother cheerfully announced that Yun Wu's sect was the Kingu sect outside Bayer City. Seeing how shocked the four were, Yun Wu's mother added that she heard from Yun Wu that Yi Feng had just entered the Kingu sect a few days ago. The sect masters was envious of the bargain that the Kingu sect received. Yun Wu's mother praised that Yi Feng was really a good person. After showing them the paintings and sculptures, she informed that it was Yi Feng who taught Yun Wu how to do those things. The sect masters suddenly felt that the cultivation within their bodies was constantly surging. They determined right away that it was the effect of the paintings and the sculptures. Yi Feng's sect master cautioned the others that before they acted, they should think about the consequences and that they should just take a look and have no other ideas. Bothered by the sudden silence, Yun Wu's mother inquired if the four were all right. The sect masters thought to themselves that those paintings and sculptures should have been placed in their four great sects and not in that small, mundane store. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master mentioned that he'd take his leave because his chest hurt. The others revealed that their chests hurt as well. The sect masters couldn't keep their tears from flowing out of their eyes as they walked out of the store. The four great sect masters were branded the four great fools. Later that day, in the forest, Yi Feng's sect master reflected on three important points. She stated that their four sects should first try their best to make friends with Yun Wu's mother, especially Yun Wu, who would be a big shot in the Northern Sea in the future. She mentioned that the second thing was to get closer with the Kingu sect. She admitted that, although it was painful to say so, they still had to acknowledge that in the future, the Kingu sect would rise to the top of the Northern Sea and would even surpass their four great sects. Yi Feng's sect master emphasized that the last point, which was the most important, was to inform their people to manage the disciples under their tutelage so that if someone with great fortune met a senior, they would leave a good impression. Canghai Mountain's sect master immediately requested Yunlong Valley's sect master to draw a portrait of Yi Feng. He stated that he would notify the person in charge of homecoming and ask him to take the portrait and inform the four great sects. Yunlong Valley's sect master agreed immediately. Some time later, the person in charge of the homecoming arrived at the place where the sect masters were. As soon as he landed, he greeted the sect masters promptly and inquired what he was wanted to do. Yunlong Valley's sect master requested the man to take a good look at Yi Feng's portrait first. As he examined the portrait, the man recalled something. He had seen Yi Feng before, and the man asked if there was a reason why they had painted that portrait. The sect masters expressed their surprise, and the man revealed that Yi Feng had come to their homecoming. Canghai Mountain's sect master desperately inquired when Yi Feng had visited the homecoming. The man responded that just a few days ago, they had a mortal in their homecoming who insisted on joining them. He reminded that when he had asked for their opinion, they had instructed him to throw Yi Feng out, so he had followed their instructions and expelled him. The sect masters were overwhelmed by how foolish their decision had been. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master lamented, saying that he would shoot that mortal to death. Blood suddenly gushed out of the sect masters' mouths, leaving the person in charge of the homecoming confused about what was going on. A while later, the sect masters informed who Yi Feng was and why they were looking for him. The person in charge of the homecoming expressed surprise that such a thing had actually happened. The person in charge of the homecoming stated that he would go back and inform everyone immediately, so the sect masters departed, mentioning that they had some things to do, so they would return to their sect first. Canghai Mountain's sect master immediately called one of his people. He ordered his sect to prepare the Imperial Grade, the Ancestral Grade, the Holy Grade, and several Supreme Grade elixirs and send them to the Kingu sect. Eternal Sky Sword House's sect master also instructed his sect to send a batch of their sect's flying swords, spiritual treasures, and other great treasures of all grades to the Kingu sect. Meanwhile, Yunlong Val's sect master directed his people to tell his disciples to immediately do whatever it took to pursue the female disciples of the Kingu sect one by one and become Dao companions. At the same time, Tei Val's sect master commanded her people to quickly send a message to the Kingu sect that Tei Valley was willing to join forces with them and that no matter what happened in the future, they would be in the same boat. She instructed them to prepare a gift as a sign of sincerity from their sect. The sect masters were determined not to let the others get the upper hand. Simultaneously, Yi Feng observed the view in the Kingu sect. In another half a month, he should be able to get the sect disciples token, after which he could leave the Kingu sect and return to Jiangping City to establish a sect. He would take in a lot of disciples, complete the system task, and successfully embark on the path of cultivation. Remembering that he had to take in disciples, Yi Feng glanced at Yun Wu and Wu Tao. Yi Feng viewed the two as a girl who preferred carving and drawing over cultivating, and an honest and sincere person who was very easy to deceive. Yi Feng thought to himself that if he could meet people who were just like those two, the task of recruiting 100 disciples would be over in an instant. He looked forward to it. While Yi Feng lived a peaceful life in the Kingu sect, the entire Xianzhong continent was in great turmoil. Somewhere on the Xianzhong continent, a severely injured man stared aggressively at the person in front of him. Yi Feng's boatman, King Huanxiang, informed that he had heard that his sect had a book of heavenly Tao. He assured the man that if he handed over the book, he would give him an opportunity. While King Huanxiang was telling the man that he wouldn't let him off the hook if there was a delay in Yi Feng's plans, the man thought to himself that he had never seen such a shameless person as King Huanxiang, who blatantly robs and says that he'll give people an opportunity. King Huanxiang naturally aroused the hatred of all the major powers with his rampant speech and behavior, so dozens of powerful individuals decided to rally together to suppress him. As for the result, they were all slapped to the ground by King Huanxiang. King Huanxiang nonchalantly walked away as he decided to go to the next place. The fight was over, however. The shadow that King Huanxiang brought to the major forces on the continent had not yet disappeared. Meanwhile, in a forest somewhere on the Xianzhong continent, a beast could be seen crying. There was a dog, a bear, and a centipede who suddenly appeared in the sky under the leadership of a black-robed man. They started from Dingsheng, and like locusts, they plunged all over the western demon forest, the southern wasteland, and the northern sea region. Subsequently, on the central continent, the annual Central Continent Martial Arts Conference had finally started. Everyone was excited to see who among the hundreds of sects would win the first prize. Moments later, the host wondered why it was dark all of a sudden. Out of nowhere, 3 figures suddenly appeared in the sky. The figures landed on the stage, causing the host to panic and fall. The skeleton announced his arrival. He ordered everyone to hand over all the demon beasts, exotic pets, and divine beasts in their mountains to him. The contestants for the annual Central Continent Martial Arts Conference became furious, believing that the 4 were like ants who simply wanted to disrupt the conference. As the contestants charged towards them, the bear swiftly jumped. The bear cheerfully fell on top of the contestants' heads, and with how ginormous the bear was, the contestants could only wail and get squashed. Everyone immediately surrendered and begged the 4 to spare them. They turned in all of their rare and exotic beasts. When the skeleton remarked that the qualities of their sect's demonic beasts were not good, everyone was taken aback. They wondered what the origin of the 4 was. That May, the Xianzhong continent suffered from King Huanxiang as well as the skeleton's group, who were both sweeping the borders like locusts. People started calling it Black May, and it was also recorded in the history of the continent. Some time later, while they were looking for beasts, Ao King declared that they wouldn't get the job done with those bunches of trash. He pointed out that if they went on like that, they wouldn't even get the 3 gold coins. The skeleton admitted that he knew and that although 3 gold coins were not much, they could still go to the Yihang Academy with them. Night Breeze urged the skeleton to think of a way. The skeleton replied that since they didn't have a choice, he would have to use the method, which was a bit unsightly. Suddenly, the skeleton demanded something to immediately reveal itself. He threatened it that he would beat it to death if it kept hiding. In the sky, the thing that was eyeing the 4 was surprised that the skeleton actually found it. The unknown thing tried warning the skeleton that he shouldn't interfere with them as they were not the same as the trash that he had dealt with. But the skeleton retorted that in front of him, they were all trash. Furious, the unknown thing sent powerful lightning strikes towards the skeleton and his sworn brothers. At the same time, something surfaced from underground in the north. A beast with a terrifying aura emerged from the depths of the Black Sea. In the west, a structure was destroyed when, out of nowhere, a fiery beast suddenly shot up into the sky. In the south, a strong beast was seen breaking out of one of the mountains. The people around the area panicked as they saw the beast and felt the earthquake it caused. They fell on their knees as they got overwhelmed by the strong power of the heaven and earth vision. A while later, the 4 powerful beasts simultaneously arrived where the skeleton was. Eager to punish him for his insolence, the 4 beasts immediately surrounded the skeleton. Haou King expressed his amazement. He could feel that the 4 beasts' aura exceeded that of a human immortal. As they revealed their ferocious forms, the 4 beasts declared that they hoped that he had the strength to match his tone. Haou King excitedly told the skeleton that with those fine beasts, they would definitely get the gold coins. The skeleton advised him to calm down. He observed that those 4 beasts just looked a little bigger, nothing more. Assuming that the skeleton was just speaking nonsensical things, the beasts got even more furious. They decided to just end his life and send him to hell. Simultaneously, the 4 beasts aimed their strongest attacks at the skeleton. The skeleton just nonchalantly raised a finger in response to the attacks. Suddenly, a huge palm appeared and slapped the 4 beasts. The slap was so strong that the 4 beasts' faces got distorted, causing them to gasp in pain. When the dust had settled, the beasts had already transformed back to their original form. The skeleton glanced at the beasts and instructed his brothers to pack up. Meanwhile, in the Kingu sect, someone was expressing how upset he was. Zhu Shiguang cursed. His sect originally had enough people, but one stupid disciple just fell down the mountain. Moments later, a disciple informed Zhu Shiguang that the Eternal Sky Sword House had sent goods and a letter to their Kingu sect. Zhu Shiguang immediately took a look at the goods, unable to figure out a reason as to why all those precious treasures were given to a 9th grade small sect like them. Zhu Shiguang suspected that the Eternal Sky Sword House was doing charity. All of a sudden, 3 disciples simultaneously informed Zhu Shiguang that Tei Valley, Yunlong Valley, and Kanghai Mountain also sent goods and a letter. It was written in the letter of the Eternal Sky Sword House that one of their disciples had a relative who once served as a disciple of the Kingu sect, and that it was a sign of God's providence to let their sects be friends. After a brief silence, slapping noises echoed inside the hall. The disciples pleaded with Zhu Shiguang to stop hitting them. They assured him that what was happening was really not a dream. A while later, when a disciple notified Zhu Shiguang that there was a man who wanted to join their Kingu sect, Zhu Shiguang instructed to let the man in first, stating that he would talk to the man when he was done with the matter at hand. After a long time, Zhu Shiguang gave up trying to understand why the big sect suddenly sent those goods and letters. Remembering that there was a man who wanted to join his sect, Zhu Shiguang quickly composed himself. He glanced at the man and started talking. Zhu Shiguang was utterly shocked when he saw the man's face. The man who wanted to join his sect was actually the sect master of the Eternal Sky Sword House sect, Jian Hengtian. After inquiring why he came to the Kingu sect, Zhu Shiguang immediately apologized to Jian Hengtian for keeping him waiting. Jian Hengtian responded that it was fine. He explained to him that they were like a family, so it was only right to wait for him for a moment. Resisting the urge to tell him to stop messing with him, Zhu Shiguang inquired what brought him to the Kingu sect. Jian Hengtian attempted to explain to Zhu Shiguang that he wanted to join the Kingu sect, but Zhu Shiguang didn't believe him and simply told him to stop joking around. Out of nowhere, a man abruptly entered the hall and advised Zhu Shiguang that he better not let Jian Hengtian join the Kingu sect because Jian Hengtian was already a peak-level expert. After identifying himself as Lai Kanghai, the man apologized to Zhu Shiguang for being so abrupt. Knowing that Lai Kanghai was the sect master of the Kanghai Mountain, Zhu Shiguang started sweating heavily. Suddenly, 2 more people entered the hall. They stated that it was fortunate that they managed to catch up with Lai Kanghai and Jian Hengtian before they could take the lead. The 2 people who just arrived were actually Tei Valley's sect master and Yunlong Valley's sect master, Yun Tianluo. Overwhelmed by what was happening, Zhu Shiguang collapsed. The 4 sect masters hurriedly ran towards Zhu Shiguang to check his condition. While they were urging Zhu Shiguang to respond, the 4 speculated that maybe Zhu Shiguang was exhausted due to overwork. Zhu Shiguang secretly took a peek at the sect masters. The sect masters desperately tried to wake up Zhu Shiguang. They started quarreling as to whose elixir Zhu Shiguang should take. Unable to keep on lying still, Zhu Shiguang questioned the 4 what kind of tricks they were playing and what their goal was. The 4 revealed that they came there to join his sect and that from that moment on, the 4 of them would all be his people. Shocked by what he just heard, Zhu Shiguang reluctantly inquired what position he should give them. Jian Hengtian responded that he didn't have to be polite because he had been longing to do odd jobs for a long time. Val's sect master expressed that she wanted to do some odd jobs as well, claiming that her family had been doing odd jobs for 3 generations. Without the slightest bit of shame, Yun Tianlong declared that their goal was to start the era of odd jobs. Simultaneously, Lai Kanghai requested Zhu Shiguang to call him the king of odd jobs. Determining that their expressions were those of fanaticism, Zhu Shiguang became certain that the 4 really desired a position as a servant in the Kingu sect. He panicked when the sect masters insisted on giving him their valuable elixirs and urged him to be accommodating. Zhu Shiguang suddenly had a heart attack, and when his soul escaped his body, the sect masters hurriedly tried to grab it. A few days later, in the courtyard, Yun Wu attempted to speak to Yi Feng. Yi Feng cut her off and told her he already understood what she intended to convey. He added he also knew that those 4 people who had just joined their sect a few days prior were constantly peeking from the side. Meanwhile, after observing for quite some time, Lai Kanghai assumed Yi Feng must be the kind of person who experiences life. When Jian Hengtian proposed that they could pretend to be mortals and get close to Yi Feng, Val's sect master argued Yi Feng would likely recognize their pretense and claimed they could only make a good impression by genuinely putting in effort. Yun Tianlong concurred with Val's sect master. He laughed and remarked that the opportunity stood right in front of them. All of a sudden, there came a loud noise throughout the entire area. Lai Kanghai nervously urged them to look at the anomaly in the sky. After identifying that the hole in the sky was the legendary Void Realm, the 4 reacted with astonishment. They hadn't expected that realm to truly exist. At the same time, in the Yi family, Yi inquired what exactly the Void Realm was. Yi Neng explained that on the Xianzhong continent, every billion years was regarded as an epoch, and during each epochal transition, the entire continent underwent catastrophic destruction. In the epoch of Great Destruction, 99% of the population perished, and only a few powerful forces managed to survive through self-sealing, reincarnation, and other methods. However, even if some people survived, the civilization of the continent still vanished. That was why, in order to continue, someone in a certain epoch created a small world through unconventional means, known as the Void Realm. Alarmed, Yi questioned whether the Void Realm contained remnants of the last epoch and people from several epochs ago. Yi Neng confirmed she was correct. He explained the Void Realm not only escaped the Great Destruction but also bypassed the laws of the Xianzhong continent, including the former severance of the path to immortality. Yi broke into a heavy sweat. She realized the cultivation level of individuals inside the Void Realm would not compare to that of people on the Xianzhong continent, who were restricted to the 10 Fates Martial Supreme. She became certain that the appearance of the Void Realm would overturn all existing power structures on the Xianzhong continent. Yi Neng stated the good thing was that they still had Yi Feng behind them. He reasoned that an existence like Yi Feng, who didn't belong in the Northern Sea, must have come for a purpose. Yi concurred. She voiced her belief that Yi Feng came for the Void Realm. Simultaneously, something moving at an incredible speed emerged from the Void Realm. The object turned out to be a massive boat. It could be seen traveling in a specific direction at great velocity. The master of the boat remarked that although the people in the Northern Sea were pathetically weak, there were things present there that the Void Realm lacked. She commanded her men to summon the 6 Fates Martial Supremes or stronger living in the Northern Sea. After receiving the woman's command, one of the old men instantly released his aura. Using telepathy, he simultaneously conveyed that the Void Realm's Beiyangzhen Palace's goddess, Bai Qiani, invited them all on the boat. Worried, Yi inquired of Yi Neng what they should do. Yi Neng assured Yi that they'd be fine. He recommended that they go ahead and take a look first. Moments later, in the boat, cultivators arrived one after the other. Yi Neng was surprised to see that the 4 sect masters were there as well. He concentrated on the people of the Void Realm, who gave him a sense of oppression. He couldn't believe that even he, who received the opportunity from Yi Feng, found it hard to breathe. The aura that the 2 old men and Bai Qiani exuded was so strong that Yi Neng couldn't help but stare at them in awe. Bai Qiani abruptly extended her arm in the direction of the cultivators, who reacted slowly to the message. Without anybody even knowing how, the cultivators exploded one after the other. The cultivators on the boat were shocked. They couldn't believe that those Martial Supremes, including an 8 Fate Martial Supreme, were killed with just a hand. When Bai Qiani declared that from that moment on, everyone in that part of the Northern Sea would be under the control of her Beiyangzhen Palace, everyone exclaimed. They were all the peak-level experts and forces in the Northern Sea, so they couldn't tolerate being treated as slaves by the Beiyangzhen Palace, which just popped out of nowhere. One of the cultivators protested. He demanded who they were and why they wanted to put everyone under their jurisdiction as soon as they arrived. Through one of the old men, Bai Kaini learned that the man was the sect master of the Yunfu sect, Lu Yun, a six-fate martial supreme. She recognized that the Yunfu sect was second only to the existence of the four major sects. Bai Kaini clarified that he shouldn't get her wrong. She emphasized that she was not negotiating with him but was giving him an order. The image that Bai Kaini showed to Lu Yun was actually the image of the Yunfu sect. Lu Yun grew nervous as he demanded from Bai Kaini what she was trying to do. Bai Kaini suddenly raised her hand. She clenched her fist, and the Yunfu sect exploded. She proclaimed that from that day on, the Yunfu sect would dissipate like clouds of smoke. Seeing his sect get destroyed, Lu Yun frantically rushed towards Bai Kaini to make a desperate attempt to kill her. Bai Kaini just nonchalantly raised 2 fingers in response. Before Lu Yun could even reach Bai Kaini, he exploded and turned into a pool of blood. Everyone was so shocked that they just stared blankly at the empty space where Lu Yun was. They kneeled in front of Bai Kaini. They simultaneously pledged their willingness to submit to her. Bai Kaini smiled as she listened to the cultivators pay their respects to her. Suddenly, she noticed that there were actually 2 people who didn't kneel. With their heads held high, Yi Neng and Yi stared at Bai Kaini. Believing that the two were not afraid of death, Bai Kaini remarked that the people of the Northern Sea didn't seem to be all trash, saying that there were at least 1 or 2 tough ones. Yi Neng and Yi smiled in response. They were, in fact, already panicking a lot and just tried their best not to tremble in fear. But since they already had someone in their hearts that they wanted to serve, they had no intention of submitting. Bai Kaini warned that she would give them one more chance. As she made their knees explode to make them kneel, she let them choose whether they would submit or die. Yi Neng apologized to Bai Kaini. He declared that they wouldn't kneel down. Yi Neng and Yi explained that they had long had faith in someone. They affirmed that except for that person, they wouldn't submit to anyone. Bai Kaini finally realized why the two wouldn't submit to her. She insisted that it didn't matter because, in front of her, everyone, even their god, was nothing more than a mere ant. After stating that no one could keep them safe from her, Bai Kaini sent Yi Neng and Yi flying. Blood spurted out of Yi Neng and Yi's mouths as they smashed hard on the boat. Yi Neng grew furious. He shouted that she deserved to die 1,000 deaths for daring to slander Yi Feng. Bai Kaini started laughing wildly, as though what she heard was a joke. She admitted that seeing Yi Neng and Yi act that way made her suddenly feel a little bit of interest in the person behind them. Alarmed by the things that she just took out, Yi Neng demanded what Bai Kaini was up to. Bai Kaini explained that she just happened to need a slave to do errands for her. She stated that she would put them against the person behind them to see whether they were qualified or unqualified to be her slaves. The kneeling cultivators started sweating heavily when they realized that the things that Bai Kaini used to attack Yi Neng and Yi were soul nails. They all knew that if the soul nail was hit on a person's body, it would seal off all the meridians of the person, and within 7 days, the person would suffer great pain and die. Bai Kaini revealed that she would like to see the person who Yi Neng and Yi believed in. She threw the two off the boat. She was curious whether their backer could help them pull out the soul nail or not. Not knowing what to do, Jian Hengtian inquired if they should just watch and let Yi Neng die. Tei Valley's sect master responded that they had only heard of the soul nail in the legend. She emphasized that they never heard that it could be pulled out and that they didn't know if Yi Feng could still bring a person back from the face of death. Tei Valley's sect master presumed that Bai Kaini's cultivation base was at the level of a heavenly immortal. She asserted that in front of Bai Kaini, martial supremes like them were no different from mere ants. Bai Kaini declared that from that moment on, they would all work for her Beiyangzhen palace. She claimed that for a bunch of trash like them, it would be the glory of their lives. When Bai Kaini demanded everyone to give up all their treasures, some showed their reluctance to comply. However, when Bai Kaini questioned them if she should just choose to kill them and take their treasures from their corpses, they immediately shut their mouths. A while later, everyone's treasures gathered in front of Bai Kaini. Bai Kaini picked up one particular treasure and stared at it. After remarking that she didn't need those garbage, Bai Kaini burned the rest of the treasures. The cultivators wanted to scold her, but they were too scared to do so. Bai Kaini indifferently remarked that in the future, they would notify them if there was something for them to do. She ordered them to get lost. The cultivators hated that they were being treated that way by Bai Kaini, and they hated it more that they were powerless to do anything about it. Meanwhile, in a gorge somewhere in the Northern Sea, 2 people landed from the sky. A loud noise echoed in the gorge as the 2 people crashed unimpeded into the ground. A few moments after the impact, someone crawled out of the crater. Yi Neng urged to hold on and to come with him to find Yi Feng. After the arrival of Bai Kaini, a few days passed in a blink of an eye. In the Kingu sect's small courtyard, Ephang questioned Yunwu if she really wanted to be his disciple. Ephang queried Yunwu if she was certain that she wanted to be his disciple. Yunwu assured Ephang that she considered things thoroughly and that she really wanted to follow him and learn carving and drawing. Ephang approved that although it was okay for her to learn from him, she would have to come back to Dingsheng with him sometime later. Yunwu excitedly replied that coming to Dingsheng was not a problem. She conveyed that she could just have fun everywhere. Ephang immediately confirmed that, from there on out, he accepted Yunwu as his disciple. Being the cheerful girl that she was, Yunwu offered Ephang a cup of tea as her obeisance. Ephang managed to successfully gain a disciple. When Ephang posed a question to Wu Tao if he also wanted to be his disciple, Wu Tao was inevitably startled. Wu Tao finally realized that Ephang didn't want to kill him. He believed that Ephang purposely destroyed all his arrangements and saw through all his means to prove by his actions that he has the absolute strength to be his master. Wu Tao was utterly convinced. Following Yunwu's lead, Wu Tao also offered Ephang his obeisance. Ephang was so happy that he burst into wild laughter while praising Wu Tao. Ephang successfully gained another disciple. For so long, Wu Tao bore 1,000 katas of burden every day in his heart and felt the threat of death all the time. At that moment, he finally felt at peace. Suddenly, Ephang remarked that he had often seen him draw some talismans before. He pointed out that his drawings were really not that good and that it was a disgrace to him as his master. Ephang instructed Wu Tao to look carefully. He intended to teach him how to properly draw one. A while later, Ephang proudly displayed the talisman he had drawn. Wu Tao was shocked. He perceived that with the power contained in that teleportation talisman, it may be possible to break through the barrier of the Xianjiang continent and teleport to the immortal world. Seeing that he was about to cry in amazement, Ephang reminded that it was just one talisman, so he didn't have to be so emotional. Ephang mentioned that although he didn't know what that talisman would do for him, he could learn how to draw alongside Yunwu. He assured him that he would soon be able to draw of that quality. Wu Tao enthusiastically thanked Ephang. Having the impression that the world was very safe, Wu Tao pondered if it was what it was like to hold a thigh. He felt great. Out of nowhere, Yunwu inquired how to write the words drink tea. Ephang was surprised that Yunwu couldn't even write the words drink tea. Yunwu explained that with them drinking tea there, she suddenly remembered that she couldn't write those two words. Understanding that Yunwu had her own circumstances, Ephang decided to just teach her. Some time later, Yineng and Yi's eyes widened in shock when they arrived at the Kingu sect. Seeing that Ephang was actually not in the courtyard, they felt depressed. From the place where they were thrown off the flying boat, even if they didn't stop for a moment, it took them nearly 7 days to get there. Yineng stayed on edge because he was aware that people who are attacked by the soul nail only have 7 days to live. He assumed that maybe even heaven wanted them dead. Suddenly, Yineng noticed a dramatic surge in his vitality. When he inquired if Yi felt it as well, Yi affirmed that she was indeed feeling much better. Yineng speculated that it was just a flashback for them, father and daughter, before death. Yi disagreed with Yineng. While she expressed that a fragrance seemed to be making them feel better, she noticed the teapot on the table. After taking a closer look, Yi concluded that it was the fragrance of tea that made them feel better. Yineng moved closer to the table, and as though he saw a ghost, his eyes widened in shock. Realizing that the ink was still wet, Yineng became certain that those two words were left to them by Yi Feng. Yineng and Yi believed that Yi Feng already knew they would be in trouble and even predicted that they would come at that moment. They considered that Yi Feng was really flawless and that he really had everything under his control. After finishing a cup of tea, the two simultaneously exclaimed. Yi felt the warmth of the power immediately spread throughout her body. As if a dry riverbed received a stream of water, her body came back to life again. In order not to hurt the reader's eyes, Yineng's scene was skipped. Yineng immediately instructed Yi to quickly use that power and try to see if they could force out the soul nail. Without wasting time, Yi followed Yineng's instructions. Moments later, Yi and Yineng became emotional when the soul nail in their forehead disappeared. They were amazed to discover that the power of the tea melted the soul nails. Yineng and Yi concluded that Bai Kaiane and the soul nails were nothing compared to Yi Feng, who could instantly resolve the soul nail with just a cup of tea. They found Yi Feng so elegant. Simultaneously, Bai Kaiane abruptly opened her eyes. When the old men questioned what was wrong, Bai Kaiane revealed that the soul nails on the bodies of two trashes were pulled out. Taken aback, the old men queried what they should do. Bai Kaiane responded that it was not a big deal. She explained that pulling out the soul nails was at best regarded as good enough, so it could not be considered a threat. One of the old men concurred with Bai Kaiane. However, he advised her to take the soul nails back and keep them from falling into Yi Feng's hands, reminding her that the soul nails were rare treasures of Beiyangzhen Palace. Bai Qianyi guaranteed that no one could keep what was hers without her consent. She attempted to summon the soul nails. Suddenly, Bai Qianyi fell silent, leaving the old men perplexed. Bai Qianyi disclosed that the aura of the soul nails had completely disappeared. The old men stood dumbfounded. One of them promptly queried if it was possible that Yi Feng erased the aura she left on the soul nails. Bai Qianyi remarked that it was hard for her to say what happened. She pointed out that breaking her connection with the soul nail without her knowledge was a difficult thing to do. Worried, the old man proposed if they should go personally and bring Yi Feng back. Bai Qianyi instructed the old men to just ignore Yi Feng, stating that it was just 2 soul nails and that although Yi Feng had some skills, he still was not worth her attention. When Bai Qianyi commented that they should just make Yi Feng their slave when they needed him, the old men consulted what they should do next. Bai Qianyi remarked that they couldn't just come out, take some junk, and leave. After reminding them that their task on the northern sea continent was to hunt for treasures, Bai Qianyi ordered the old men to bring high-quality treasures back to her, no matter if they were sealed, hidden, or in the hands of someone. The old men confirmed that they would get the job done. Because of the restrictions of the immortal irrigation, the upper limit of the Xianjiang continent was only at the cultivation level of the 10 Fates Martial Supremes for many years. Even if there were some great powers who, because of their many years of heritage and accumulation, broke through the upper limit when the immortal irrigation was reintroduced, there were very few of those people. Advancing in immortal level cultivation was not only an improvement in strength, but also a qualitative leap. Yineng and Yi both felt they were about to break through, so they decided to try and break through right away. Immortals cultivated their own bodies, which were like a small world in which all changes took place. Therefore, the breakthrough of the two did not cause a big commotion. After their breakthrough, Yineng and Yi immediately inspected their bodies. They found out that the cup of tea did not just save them from death, but also made them reach the realm of the earth immortal. While Yineng remarked that everything was all thanks to Yi Feng, Yi noticed something behind her. Ephang waved at Yineng and Yi. He appeared surprised to see that they were there as well. Yineng and Yi immediately greeted Ephang. Ephang invited the two to sit down and told them that they didn't have to be so formal. Yineng and Yi expressed that they were indebted to him for saving their lives. Believing that they were referring to the time when he met Yi for the first time, Ephang grew annoyed. He insisted there was no need to mention the past anymore and that it was not a big deal, so they shouldn't take it to heart. Yineng and Yi believed that Ephang really knew what happened, and the way Ephang put it so lightly astounded them. A while later, Ephang inquired whether Wu still wanted to draw portraits. He noted that it was no fun to just draw him and Wu Tao, so Yi could be her model. Wu became excited. She exclaimed that Yi was so beautiful, and that she had wanted to draw her for a long time. When Wu inquired whether it was fine with Yi responded that she didn't need to ask because it was her honor to serve her and Ephang. The moment she was done preparing, Yi immediately posed so Wu could start drawing her. An hour later, Wu finished drawing. Yineng and Yi found the portrait well drawn. They appeared surprised to see that the painting really did contain the power of the great Tao. Ephang commented that although her drawing was not bad, it didn't adequately capture the charm. He began showing her how to further improve the drawing. Not long after, Ephang completed the finishing touch. He questioned Wu if she understood the reason why he added those strokes. Wu simply responded with a giggle. In Yineng's and Yi's perspectives, the Yi in the painting looked like an ancient powerhouse who was just sitting there inadvertently while exuding a feeling of invincibility. Yi wondered if it was really her or whether there was a chance that she was actually a hidden, peerless expert. Wu noticed that Yi liked the painting, so she gave it to her while thanking her for her help. Knowing how precious the painting was, Yi smiled as she held it in her arms. Remembering that Wu wanted to go back to Dingsheng with him, Ephang requested Yineng and Yi to take care of Wu's parents, who were too old to be left alone. Without even the slightest hesitation, Yineng and Yi promised Ephang that they would take good care of Wu's parents. Some time later, when Yineng and Yi were about to exit the Kingu sect, Ephang reminded them to take care and not to forget what he just said. Yineng and Yi appeared surprised that Ephang never mentioned Bai Qianyi. They assumed that it was just because he didn't take her seriously. After leaving the Kingu sect, Yi inquired what they should do next. Yineng replied that they should go to Wu's house first. He explained that although Ephang didn't say anything explicitly, he was probably giving them some guidance when he mentioned taking care of Wu's parents twice. At the same time, 4 cultivators could be seen flying over the mountains, seemingly searching for something. Jian Hengtian actually wanted to collect Yi Neng's corpse, and after searching for quite some time, he found it strange that he still didn't find his body. When Taiyuval's sect master inquired about Jian Hengtian's opinion regarding Ephang's chances of winning against Bai Qianyi, Jian Hengtian estimated that Ephang was 4 and Bai Qianyi was 6. Jian Hengtian confessed that after seeing Bai Qianyi's ability to make people disappear with just a wave of her hand, he began to believe that Ephang may not be good enough. He added that Bai Qianyi represents the entire Beiyangzhen Palace, so there may be more powerful people behind her. Not wanting to be Bai Qianyi's slave, Lai Kanghai proposed that they should ask Ephang for help. Jian Hengtian urged him to just forget about it. After pointing out that Ephang was not from the Northern Sea and would probably not get involved, Jian Hengtian reasoned that Ephang must understand Bai Qianyi's strength better than they do and must have left already. Accepting Jian Hengtian's words, Yun Tianlong encouraged everyone to continue searching for Yi Neng to at least collect his corpse. Lai Kanghai claimed that Yi Neng was too insane to believe that, just because he knew Ephang, he had nothing to be afraid of. Suddenly, someone approached the four and inquired what they were doing. The four revealed their shock when they saw that it was actually Yi Neng. Yun Tianlong immediately demanded how Yi Neng was still fine even after getting hit by the soul nail. When Yi Neng bragged that something as trivial as a soul nail was no big deal, Jian Hengtian reminded him that he shouldn't talk that way after showing such a miserable appearance on the flying boat. Yi Neng arrogantly declared that since they were at least the sect masters of a sect, they shouldn't act as though they were unfamiliar with the outside world and make a fuss over a small soul nail. He stated that he and Yi still had things to do and didn't have time to chat with them. After sensing that Yi Neng became an earth immortal, Jian Hengtian informed the others that Yi Neng didn't just escape from death, but also directly advanced to a higher realm. Considering the direction from which Yi Neng and Yi came, Taiyuval's sect master concluded that Ephang was the one who helped Yi Neng. Hearing Jian Hengtian mention that they seemed to have underestimated Ephang, Lai Kanghai inquired if they should go and find Ephang right away. Jian Hengtian recommended that they should wait first. He explained that Bai Qianyi must have known that the soul nail was pulled out, so Yi Neng and Yi would inevitably be involved in the conflict. He added that the soul nails could also be regarded as a confrontation between two highly skilled experts, and that with Bai Qianyi's ruthlessness, she would never let it go. Taiyuval's sect master agreed with Jian Hengtian. She expressed that if they were alone, they surely wouldn't have hesitated to follow Ephang. However, because the sect behind them had tens of thousands of lives at stake, it was a big gamble for them. The four decided to follow Yi Neng and Yi and see what happened next. Looking at the direction the two went, they determined that they should be going to Bayar City. Later that day, the sect masters spotted Yi Neng and Yi running in the streets of Bayar City. Moments later, something in the sky suddenly drew everyone's attention. Realizing that it was actually Bai Qianyi's flying boat, everyone questioned what Bai Qianyi was doing there. At the same time, in the boat, Bai Qianyi grew curious when one of the old men remarked that they found something unexpected in that small city that was guaranteed to surprise her. The moment Bai Qianyi jumped off the boat, the men in the street immediately gathered to appreciate her beauty. The men greeted Bai Qianyi and begged her to give them some opportunities. Bai Qianyi grew annoyed. She swiftly raised her arm while glaring at the men. Simultaneously, the men around Bai Qianyi turned into a puddle of blood. The men who were lucky enough not to get caught in Bai Qianyi's spell immediately ran for their lives. Some time later, the streets of Bayar City turned oddly quiet. Before entering the store, Bai Qianyi grumbled that she wasted so much time and that they should hope that the thing they wanted to show her wouldn't disappoint her. The two old men slammed the doors open, revealing Yun Wu's parents, who trembled in fear. Yun Wu's parents could only hug each other as they watched Bai Qianyi look around their store. Bai Qianyi grew startled when she realized that the painting on the wall actually exuded the power of the Great Tao. She noticed that the sculptures on the table were rare treasures as well. Bai Qianyi appeared pleased. She never imagined that that mundane store would have such good things hidden in it. Meanwhile, outside the store, when Yi inquired why Bai Qianyi suddenly came to Yun Wu's house, Yi Neng replied that Bai Qianyi must have been attracted by Yun Wu's painting and sculpture. Yi Neng remarked that Ephang must have already anticipated that Bai Qianyi would go there. That was why he asked them to come there. Yi Neng stated that they should go and stop Bai Qianyi from taking away the things that belonged to Ephang. And when Yi questioned him if they were even capable of stopping Bai Qianyi, he responded that since Ephang asked them to come there, he certainly would not have done so without a purpose, let alone send them to their deaths. Taiyuval's sect master and Jian Hengtian appeared shocked. They wondered whether Yi Neng and Yi were arrogant or were just tired of living. That was why they ran off to die. At the same time, Yi Neng commanded Bai Kaiani to put down the things that she held. Bai Kaiani appeared amused. She remarked that she didn't think that Ephang would not only pull out her soul nail, but would also let 2 pieces of trash break through to the earth immortal. While she expressed that Ephang helping Yi Neng and Yi break through was a bit unexpected, Bai Kaiani gestured to the old men to stay out of the matter. Yi Neng screamed at Bai Kaiani's face, ordering her to immediately put down the things in her hands. Suddenly, Bai Kaiani grabbed Yi Neng and Yi's necks. She informed Yi Neng that there had never been an earth immortal who dared to shout in front of her. Yi Neng warned Bai Kaiani that even she couldn't withstand the wrath of Ephang if she dared to touch his things. Bai Kaiani responded with a frantic laugh. She mentioned that she would like to have Ephang find her, and that she was not going to look for a shrinking turtle. Bai Kaiani stated that she wondered whether Ephang would come looking for her if she killed them. Yi Neng and Yi's complexions grew even paler as Bai Kaiani's hand tightened around their necks. Meanwhile, outside the house, the 4 sect masters struggled to decide whether they should make a move. Tei Val's sect master remarked that since Bai Kaiani could easily handle even 2 earth immortals, they should consider which side of the line they were on. Mustering the strength to talk, Yi Neng declared that those sculptures that were carved by Yun Wu when Ephang was teaching her about carving contained Ephang's painstaking efforts and his love for art. Yi Neng yelled at Bai Kaiani that they would never let her take those treasures away. Suddenly, the sculpture made some movements. Shortly after, it burst into pieces, letting out a blinding light as it did so. Bai Kaiani's eyes widened in surprise as she noticed the sculpture's strange activity. When everyone saw that there was a mysterious figure in the middle of the pillar of light, they stared at it and waited for it to reveal itself. Moments later, a fluttering cape came into everyone's view. The pillar of light disappeared, revealing an existence that the Xianjiang continent never heard of or seen before. Bai Kaiani stared intently at the unknown existence. After feeling its energy, Bai Kaiani concluded that she never saw it before and that it did not belong to the Xianjiang continent nor the Void Realm. One of the old men immediately aimed his sword at the unknown existence. The unknown existence glared at the old man. After grabbing the old man's arm, the unknown existence swiftly turned around. It slammed the old man into the floor, causing him to gasp in pain and release his grip on his sword. All of a sudden, the cracks spread throughout the house. The moment they noticed that cracks also formed on the ceiling, Yi Neng and Yi were inevitably alarmed. A rumbling noise echoed in the whole area as the cracks spread out further from Yun Wu's house. A short while later, Yun Wu's house exploded, along with the structures that were near it. After the explosion, Bai Kaiani stomped on the ground to blow the dust away. When the dust spread out, the unknown existence could be seen looking down on Bai Kaiani. Bai Kaiani became furious. She couldn't keep herself from glaring at the unknown existence while she instructed the remaining old man to follow her. With great momentum, Bai Kaiani and the old man simultaneously flew towards the unknown existence. The unknown existence suddenly withdrew. It struck a pose, facing Bai Kaiani and the old man. As the unknown existence fired a beam of light towards Bai Kaiani also fired a beam of light to counter it. The 2 beams of light collided multiple times, leaving a trail of explosions in the sky. When the explosions stopped, the unknown existence could be seen stepping out of the smoke. The old man immediately took the opportunity to attack. However, to his surprise, the unknown existence managed to swiftly turn to face him. Too late to dodge, the old man was hit by a punch and sent crashing into the ground. The old man crashed into the ground so hard that the impact sent dust flying all over the area. When the dust settled, the lifeless body of the old man was revealed. At the same time, the sect masters could be seen regretting their choice. Tei Val's sect master confessed that if they knew that the sculpture put up by Yi Feng was that powerful, they wouldn't have hesitated to take sides. Lai Kanghai responded that it was already too late for them to regret it. He emphasized that they already lost the chance the moment they didn't rescue Yi Neng and Yi when Bai Kaiani tried to kill them. Simultaneously, after witnessing how the power of a single sculpture managed to beat Bai Kaiani and the old men so badly, Yi remarked that since Ephang possessed such power, it was understandable that he didn't take Bai Kaiani into consideration from the beginning. Yi Neng corrected Yi, clarifying that the sculpture was just the power of Yun Wu. Considering that Yun Wu received Ephang's teachings for only half a month, Yi Neng wondered what kind of prosperous power it would have had if the sculpture were carved by Ephang himself. Meanwhile, in the sky, Bai Kaiani confronted the unknown existence. She felt intrigued by how bizarre its power was. Knowing that normal means wouldn't work, Bai Kaiani resolved to use the immortal methods to kill the unknown existence. The unknown existence regarded Bai Kaiani with a stern look on its face. Bai Kaiani simultaneously summoned the heavenly ice, the heavenly fire, and the heavenly storm. The 4 sect masters quickly left the area out of fear that they would be caught up in Bai Qianni's attack. Feeling the amount of energy that Bai Qianni gathered, Yi Feng speculated whether Bai Qianni wanted to destroy the city. Meanwhile, Bai Qianni screamed at the unknown existence that she would blow it to smithereens. Suddenly, the heavenly storm, heavenly fire, and heavenly ice all began to get drawn in towards the unknown existence. Those 3 energies merged with the unknown existence's ball of energy. Bai Qianni was in such disbelief that she just stared at the ball of energy as it got bigger and more powerful. Moments later, the unknown existence yelled. It threw the ball of energy towards Bai Qianni, and at that moment, the words Gaia Energy Cannon rang in everyone's ears. Bai Qianni groaned in pain as she took the Gaia Energy Cannon head-on. She screamed in disbelief the moment her body started disintegrating. The Gaia Energy Cannon shone in the sky like the sun, causing onlookers to do nothing other than stare. It looked so beautiful that a child thought it was fireworks. Simultaneously, in the middle of the Gaia Energy Cannon, the figure of the unknown existence emerged. The sect masters couldn't believe that Bai Qianni, who was so domineering that she made many experts in the entire northern sea dare not even breathe a sigh of relief, got annihilated just like that. Yi Feng remarked that the unknown existence had only been around for a dozen breaths since it appeared. He realized with astonishment that, all during that time, the unknown existence seemed to have used only 2 moves. On the ground, the broken pieces of the sculpture could be seen. All of a sudden, the unknown existence was pulled towards the sculpture. Yi Feng and Yi recoiled as they saw the sculpture absorb the unknown existence's power. A while later, the sculpture was unexpectedly restored. While Yi Feng struggled to comprehend what he just witnessed, Yi observed that the energy in the sculpture seemed to be not as good as it used to be. Outside the city, when Tei Vala's sect master remarked that the disaster seemed to be over, Jian Hengtian responded that he never imagined that the seemingly undefeatable Bai Qianni would die that way. As the sect masters discussed the hell ride that they went through, a portal suddenly appeared somewhere in the northern sea. Shortly after, Bai Qianni emerged from the portal. Bai Qianni clenched her teeth. She couldn't accept that she had actually been killed. When she looked at her arm, she noticed one of the marks slowly dissipate. Bai Qianni burned with rage. She vowed that she would never forgive the master of the sculpture. Meanwhile, in the Kingu sect, in the courtyard, Yun Wu, Wu Tao, and Yi Feng were all busy doing things they wanted to do. Yi Feng smiled while staring at the vivid and lifelike sculpture that he just made. Noticing that the more he carved, the more excited he became, Yi Feng speculated if the spirit of the glue guys from his past life burned inside him. Yi Feng carved 2 sculptures whenever he had some spare time, and because of it, his collection reached 100 pieces. Believing that the sculptures were too numerous and useless to store in the ring, Yi Feng resolved to give them to Yun Wu's parents and let them sell them in the store. Yi Feng immediately summoned Wu Tao over. After Yi Feng instructed Wu Tao to deliver the sculptures to Bayer City, Wu Tao departed right away. Wu Tao couldn't understand why Yi Feng requested him to deliver so many sculptures to Bayer City. However, he trusted that Yi Feng had his own arrangements and that he would naturally know when he went there. At the same time, in Bayer City, 2 people could be seen standing in the midst of the area that was destroyed. Before dealing with the corpse, Yi Feng remarked that that particular dead person's condition appeared more tragic than the others. Yi emphasized that when cleaning up dead bodies, everyone should pay attention to disease prevention. Yi observed that the sculpture really was amazing. She felt surprised when, after the fight, it used its remaining energy to restore the store. Moments later, Yi Feng and Yi noticed that a portal formed in the sky. From the portal, someone who flew extremely fast swiftly flew between Yi Feng and Yi and directly entered the store. Simultaneously, inside the store, the sculpture became alarmed. As Bai Qianni thrust her sword toward the sculpture immediately created a shield to protect itself. However, since the sculpture's energy was already depleted, it didn't take long before the shield began to crack. Soon after, the sculpture was overwhelmed, and it burst into pieces. Bai Qianni laughed frantically. She declared that no matter how powerful the sculpture was, it was just an expendable item that would eventually run out of power, and would be just a piece of garbage at the mercy of others. Yi Feng and Yi were inevitably shocked the moment they saw Bai Qianni. They felt confused as to why she was not dead and what the corpse outside was. Bai Qianni demanded what made them think that the goddess of Beiyangzhen Palace would die so easily. Bai Qianni indeed died before. However, to prevent her from having an accident, Beiyangzhen Palace used a forbidden technique and put 3 marks on her hand. With those 3 marks, it meant that she had 3 more lives. 1 mark already disappeared as she was killed by the sculpture. Bai Qianni warned that since the sculpture had been destroyed, they would be the ones to die next. She threatened that after she killed them, she would look for Yi Feng and refine him into a truncheon to relieve her hatred. Without waiting for Bai Qianyi to make a move, Yi Neng and Yi hurriedly ran for their lives. Bai Qianyi expressed her contempt, stating that she couldn't believe that two wastes dared to run away in front of her. She fired beams of light directly at Yi Neng's and Yi's backs, causing them to cough up blood and groan in pain. To finish them off, Bai Qianyi swiftly swung her sword toward Yi Neng and Yi. As Bai Qianyi's sword was about to cut them, Yi Neng and Yi speculated if, that time around, Yi Feng made a blunder. Suddenly, a scroll that was with Yi moved on its own and attacked Bai Qianyi's hand. Bai Qianyi was utterly shocked. She struggled to comprehend what just transpired. Seeing that the scroll was actually the painting and Yi Feng added finishing touches, both Yi Neng and Yi felt surprised. They were touched, believing that Yi Feng never miscalculated and that he long anticipated everything that would happen. Bai Qianyi couldn't believe that the outside world, which has been passed down for only 20 million years, had so many things that could intimidate her. Compared to the unknown existence, the painting actually gave her a greater sense of oppression. Refusing to back down, Bai Qianyi flew toward the painting to try and destroy it. Unexpectedly, a woman's head emerged from the painting. The woman's likeness to Yi became noticeable when she was fully out of the painting. Yi was so surprised that she inquired aloud if the woman was another her. Without warning, the woman from the painting fired a beam of light toward Bai Qianyi. Bai Qianyi couldn't keep herself from screaming as she narrowly dodged the woman's attack. Seeing how powerful the woman was, Yi Neng declared that the woman was not another her because the woman was much better than her. Realizing that the beam of light could directly evaporate space into nothingness, Bai Qianyi felt scared at the thought of getting hit. Bai Qianyi decided to withdraw immediately. She was certain that fighting with the woman was akin to committing suicide. Seemingly unwilling to let her go, the woman from the painting fired a beam of light at Bai Qianyi once again. Bai Qianyi quickly dodged to the side and boasted that the woman couldn't hit her. However, she panicked the moment she realized that the beam of light moved toward her. Bai Qianyi could only scream before she got hit by the beam of light and exploded. Simultaneously, just outside the city, the Sect masters stared at the explosion slack-jawed. They were in disbelief after seeing the woman from the painting kill Bai Qianyi number 2 in an instant. Moments later, Yi noticed that the woman from the painting looked like she was going to do something. Suddenly, the woman from the painting fired beams of light in a certain direction. Meanwhile, somewhere in the northern sea, after passing through the portal, Bai Qianyi remarked that she couldn't believe that she, the goddess of Beiyang Palace of the Void Realm, died twice in that shitty place. Out of nowhere, Bai Qianyi turned pale as she felt that something ominous was approaching her. Two beams of golden light were what greeted Bai Qianyi the moment she turned her head around. She panickedly confessed that she was wrong, but the beams of light still struck her and made her explode. Some time later, in a forest somewhere in the northern sea, a portal appeared and someone stepped out of it. Bai Qianyi couldn't believe that the life that had just been resurrected moments ago was destroyed before she even moved half a step. All 3 marks disappeared, so if she died one more time, she would really be done. Suddenly, Bai Qianyi sensed the same ominous feeling that she felt before. She hurriedly used the Beiyang Palace teleportation axis to escape immediately, but to her disappointment, the portal appeared far away from her. Bai Qianyi sprinted as quickly as she could in the direction of the teleportation array. Clearly, Bai Qianyi was only a little distance away from the teleportation array. However, with the beams of light chasing after her, it felt like a gulf in heaven for her. At that moment, a brilliant golden light shone throughout that forest. Simultaneously, in the Beiyang Palace, Bai Qianyi crashed into the ground with great momentum. Seeing that the teleportation array was disappearing, Bai Qianyi declared that she seemed to have returned safely. She was the goddess of Beiyang Palace, the future successor of the palace, and her first trip to the outside world cost her so much that she lost 3 lives. Bai Qianyi felt so aggrieved that she vowed she would pay back 100 times over to whoever the master of the sculpture and painting was. All of a sudden, Bai Qianyi noticed 2 beams of light coming towards her. As the 2 beams of light got closer to her, Bai Qianyi realized that they were the same as the beams of light that killed her twice in a row. When Bai Qianyi pleaded for her master to save her, a group of people that had gathered somewhere in the palace heard her call for help. The group of people who heard Bai Qianyi hurriedly went out to help her. The sect master of Beiyang Palace, Lu Zheng, and a few of his men immediately put up a shield as soon as Bai Qianyi was on their side. The shield shook vigorously as the beams of light impacted it. Shortly after, a massive explosion erupted between the shield and the beams of light, bathing the Beiyang Palace in a dazzling light. When the smoke dissipated, the destruction caused by the explosion became apparent. Lu Zhengyi demanded that Bai Qianyi explain. He couldn't understand what kind of attack the beams of light were and why they were so powerful that it took so many of them combined to resist it. Bai Qianyi recounted that they met a person outside who not only killed the two elders but also made her use up the 3 marks that the sect put on her. Bai Qianyi explained that if it weren't for those 3 marks and the teleportation scroll that he gave her, she would have been tortured to death. Lu Zhengyi was shocked. When Bai Qianyi urged him to avenge her, Lu Zhengyi proclaimed that he would like to see who was so arrogant and dared to treat the people of Beiyangzhen Palace like an ant. Lu Zhengyi instructed the elders, who are above the heavenly immortal level, to remain there to guard the palace and ordered the rest of his people to follow him outside to meet with the arrogant person. He declared that he would destroy that arrogant person's cultivation, torment him, and avenge his beloved disciple. Their Beiyangzhen Palace's flying boat was immediately brought out. Lu Zhengyi's men wasted no time. They quickly flew towards the boat and boarded it. After Lu Zhengyi invited Bai Qianyi to also come with him so she could see for herself how her bullies tremble under the power of Beiyangzhen Palace, Bai Qianyi admitted that she was a little scared. Lu Zhengyi assured her not to worry, promising her that no one would be able to hurt her. Believing that Lu Zhengyi was right, Bai Qianyi regained her confidence. There are powerful experts with them, and there are also elders who love her. With such a lineup, Bai Qianyi convinced herself that there could never be any kind of danger. As their boat flew towards Bayer City, Bai Qianyi mused that she was such a little fool for not knowing what she had been blessed with. Meanwhile, in Bayer City, Yineng and Yi couldn't keep themselves from staring at the painting in amazement. The sect masters realized that they missed a lot of opportunities. With Nang and Yi having the cultivation base of Earth Immortals and a powerful painting, they felt that their so-called 4 great sects became just a name. The sect masters could only cry as they recounted every single chance they wasted. Suddenly, Yineng and Yi felt that something approached. From the forest, a shining thing could be seen flying towards Bayer City with great speed. The thing was actually a flying boat. The residents in the city couldn't help but feel scared as it was even bigger than the boat that Bai Qianyi used. In the boat, numerous individuals who gave off a very powerful aura looked down on Bayer City. Sensing that those people were all heavenly immortals, Yi speculated that the entire Beiyangzhen Palace might have been mobilized. A single Bai Qianyi almost turned the northern sea upside down, so Yineng inevitably grew nervous, seeing that a dozen of them arrived. Out of nowhere, a crack appeared in the sky. Inside the crack, when his servant remarked that the person from that world might be of use to him, the mysterious man responded that he was yet to see if that person possessed the ability or not. Confused, the servant inquired what the mysterious man meant. The mysterious man explained that although the strength of that person's wood carving and painting was not bad, he still needed to at least resist a little in front of Beiyangzhen Palace. Knowing that the Beiyangzhen Palace was not a weak force in the Void Realm, and that Lu Zhengyi reached the cultivation level of Golden Immortal which was above that of Heaven Immortal, the servant believed that resisting would be difficult. The mysterious man remarked that he did not expect the person to win. He pointed out that if the person was just trash who couldn't fight, he was not going to step in and save him. The mysterious man added that they should go down and observe. At the same time, Yi then assured Yi that she didn't need to be afraid because they had Yi Feng. Seeing that things worsened, Lai Kanghai suggested to others that they should hurry up and get going. Tei Vala's sect master urged Lai Kanghai to wait. She mentioned that it could be an opportunity with them. Yun Tianlong agreed with Tei Vala's sect master. He pointed out that if they chose Beiyangzhen Palace, they would be more at ease under their control in the future, and that if they chose Yi Feng, they might also have the opportunity to be like Yineng and Yi. When Lai Kanghai expressed that it would be a devastating blow if they stood on the wrong side, Yun Tianlong and Tei Vala's sect master immediately debated about who had a better chance of winning. Shortly after, everyone ceased speaking so they could think. Unable to decide which side to choose, they resolved to just forget about it, to simply be wise and keep themselves safe. Suddenly, Giant Hengtian stepped on the broken wall. As he walked away from them, Giant Hengtian informed the 3 that he decided to stand on the side of Yi Feng. He revealed that he already missed the opportunity to do so many times, so he didn't want to miss it anymore. Moments later, after seeing the surprised look on his face, Giant Hengtian stated that, since he was also one of Yi Feng's followers and was fortunate enough to receive the opportunity from Yi Feng, he would face Beiyangzhen Palace with him. Yineng did not question Giant Hengtian's intention. He just focused on the massive problem in front of him. In the boat, Bai Qianyi said that it was the power released from the painting that knocked off her 3 marks and that she already destroyed the sculpture. She explained that as long as they suppressed the painting, they could find out the person behind it. Without a second thought, Lu Zhengyi commanded all of his men to use the formation and destroy the painting. The people of Beiyangzhen Palace immediately flew towards the painting as they acknowledged Lu Zhengyi's words. In response to their aggression, the painting fired beams of light towards Lu Zhengyi's men. However, no matter how hard it tried, it could not pierce through the barrier that Lu Zhengyi's men created. At that moment, Lu Zhengyi himself seized the opportunity to attack the painting. Lu Zhengyi's attack was so strong that it directly broke the barrier and destroyed the painting at the same time. Ephang's followers' eyes widened in shock. They did not expect that the painting would be dealt with just like that. Lu Zhengyi warned the three that if they had any more tricks up their sleeves, they should show them because they would not have any more opportunities. Jian Hengtian got anxious. He desperately inquired if Yi Neng possessed any other paintings or sculptures. Determining that they had no more tricks left, Lu Zhengyi urged the three to quickly tell the person behind them to come out and stop being a shrinking turtle. When Yi Neng remarked that the power of Yi Feng was beyond his imagination, Lu Zhengyi challenged him to prove it by giving one reason why Yi Feng never showed up. Lu Zhengyi expressed that all he could see was that Yi Feng simply did not want to show himself because he was scared of the lineup of the Beiyangzhen Palace. Even though Jian Hengtian and Yi began to consider that what Lu Zhengyi claimed might be true, Yi Neng still believed in Yi Feng. Yi Neng presumed Yi Feng was a cultivator who usually controlled puppets with strength far surpassing that of the cultivator himself. He reasoned that such a cultivator no longer posed a threat once the manipulation object was eliminated, and he inferred that this must be why Yi Feng refused to appear. Meanwhile, the three sect masters shook their heads. They lamented that Jian Hengtian aligned with the wrong side. Inside the crack, the mysterious man conveyed that he overestimated Yi Feng. He remarked that aside from the painting and the sculpture being slightly more powerful, Yi Feng was nearly identical to the Tang sect's object manipulators. Simultaneously, Yi Neng declared that Yi Feng would eventually show up and would not let him off. Lu Zhengyi scoffed. He suspected Yi Feng had already fled and judged that, with only the painting and sculpture at his level, he wouldn't dare to come out if those things were destroyed. After assuring them that they had nothing to worry about, Lu Zhengyi informed the three that, since Yi Feng destroyed Bai Qian's 3 marks, he would track him down even to the ends of the earth. Yi Neng explained that the sculpture and the painting were created by a young disciple trained by Yi Feng for only half a month, and that, at most, Yi Feng only added 2 strokes to the painting. Lu Zhengyi and his men tried to hold back their laughter, believing that only the Void Realm's founder could craft such a sculpture with his bare hands. Lu Zhengyi offered Yi Feng another chance to show himself and demonstrate how he could make such a sculpture personally. Suddenly, someone interrupted, expressing that it was the first time he witnessed such a desperate plea. That person turned out to be Wu Tao. Yi Feng's 3 followers felt relieved, believing Wu Tao's arrival meant salvation. Lu Zhengyi demanded if Wu Tao was the one Yi Neng referred to as Yi Feng. Wu Tao replied that Yi Feng had no time for someone like him. He mentioned that Yi Feng was at the mountain with Yun Wu, helping her improve her skills. Wu Tao's composure unsettled Lu Zhengyi, and Bai Qian noticed it. She remarked that Wu Tao was only mocking him and that the bundle Wu Tao carried contained nothing of value. Lu Zhengyi agreed with Bai Qian. He felt assured in their lineup and strength, convinced they would win. As he emptied the bundle, Wu Tao guaranteed Lu Zhengyi that its contents would definitely satisfy him. Once everyone saw the pile of sculptures, they all cried out in astonishment. Yi Neng became thrilled upon realizing the sculptures were all carved by Yi Feng. While Yi stated that Yi Feng must have foreseen Beiyangzhen Palace's arrival, Jian Hengtian rejoiced, proclaiming that the Eternal Sky Sword House would ascend. Bai Qian grew terrified, and Lu Zhengyi noticed it. He reassured her that Wu Tao was trying to mislead them, insisting that it was impossible for so many sculptures to possess such power. Everyone agreed with Lu Zhengyi. They argued that if every one of those sculptures had that level of power, the entire continent would already be reduced to ruins. When Bai Qian swore that Yi Feng's followers must not die an easy death, Lu Zhengyi pledged that not one of the 4 would escape. Lu Zhengyi launched his attack. He warned Wu Tao that he would send him to hell for daring to toy with him. Abruptly, Lu Zhengyi got distracted by a sculpture with a mouth full of facial hair and an iron bar in its grip. After it broke free from its shell, the sculpture Lu Zhengyi spotted screeched and commanded him to get over there. Moments later, just below the flying boat, a sudden wave of energy swept away several people and houses. When the surge of energy stopped, the deep crevasse that it created was revealed. The power of the sculpture stunned Lu Zhengyi. However, Lu Zhengyi remained confident that his Beiyangzhen Palace could still deal with it. He reassured his men that even though the sculpture was powerful, they could still destroy it if they launched a coordinated attack because it was just a single, expendable item. Without hesitation, everyone followed Lu Zhengyi's lead. Unfortunately, before they could surround the sculpture, something from the pile of sculptures emitted a blinding light. Beiyang Palace couldn't help but grow nervous as the giant fox that appeared bared its fangs at them. When they requested instructions from Lu Zhengyi affirmed they shouldn't be afraid because their Beiyang Palace could still cope with 2 sculptures. Suddenly, there was a flash from the pile of sculptures yet again. Out of nowhere, 7 unknown existences emerged in front of the people of Beiyang Palace. Bai Qianyi felt so horrified at the sight of the unknown existences that she failed to keep herself from screaming. She recognized that one of those 7 actually looked identical to the existence that killed her the first time. Bai Qianyi instantly sensed that unknown existence's aura was even stronger than the one that killed her. Before the people of the Beiyang Palace could even discuss what they should do, another sculpture emitted a brilliant light. The people of the Beiyang Palace felt at a loss as to what Yi Feng carved out. They began to wonder if they had stayed in the Void Realm for too long and had been overtaken by that land of ants. Lu Zhengyi and his men exclaimed when they saw a person wearing a straw hat, 7 big-headed monsters with gourds on top, and a guy with a big gourd on his back and the word love written on his forehead. Simultaneously, one of the elders cursed after seeing a man in close-fitting clothes and red underpants. He witnessed the monkey with the rod grab a pig man and the one with the perm and kneel down to the other one. After observing the surprised look on his face, Wuao inquired whether Lu Zhengyi was satisfied. Lu Zhengyi failed to immediately respond. Shortly after, Lu Zhengyi suddenly flew away. After informing Wuao that he wasn't feeling well, and that they should just fight again some other day, Lu Zhengyi urged Bai Qianyi to quickly get on the boat. Out of nowhere, a figure holding a massive racing gun appeared near the flying boat. A moment later, the flying boat broke into 2 as the man rammed the massive racing gun into it. Bai Qianyi couldn't believe that the flying boat, which was a mobile fortress made of countless rare and exotic materials, shattered into pieces in one blow. Lu Zhengyi admitted that everything was over, explaining that without the boat's extremely fast speed, it would be impossible for them to get out of there in one piece. After clearing his throat, Lu Zhengyi acknowledged Wuao's strength and claimed that of all the people who fought with him, Wuao was the strongest. He announced that they in the Beiyang Palace would let bygones be bygones and would not cross paths with him in the future. When Wuao reminded Lu Zhengyi that he was not in a position to make demands, Lu Zhengyi chose to directly inquire what Wuao wanted. Wuao ordered Lu Zhengyi to leave Bai Qianyi behind. He declared that Bai Qianyi's repeatedly cursing Yi Feng was an unforgivable sin, and that since they destroyed the paintings and sculptures that Yun Wu gave to her parents, they must submit all the treasure that they have for compensation. The people of Beiyang Palace insisted that what Wuao requested was too much. After warning him that he shouldn't be presumptuous just because Lu Zhengyi was polite, the people of Beiyang Palace stated that although his sculptures were strong, the Beiyang Palace was not to be trifled with either, insisting that at worst, they could still fight a life and death struggle. Wuao casually took out a chair. Wuao wished the people of Beiyang Palace good luck. He didn't appear to have the energy to try and convince them, so he resolved to let the sculptures deal with them. The elders pressured Lu Zhengyi to speak, so, despite feeling nervous himself, Lu Zhengyi still assured everyone that as long as they dragged the sculptures until they ran out of energy, they were just fish on their cutting board. As soon as Lu Zhengyi gave the signal to attack, the people of Beiyang Palace immediately flew towards the sculptures fearlessly. Shortly after, all hell broke loose. Lightning and explosions caused by the collision of the 2 forces caused destruction in the whole area. Simultaneously, a sculpture named Daji chose to fight against an old man. The old man felt lucky to meet a delicate woman. Moments later, the old man's eyes widened in shock as his heart jumped out of his chest after receiving a punch from Daji. While Daji watched the old man fall to the ground, a member of Beiyang Palace ran swiftly in a certain direction. Out of nowhere, a figure that screamed the word Damasha suddenly plunged his sword towards the member of Beiyang Palace, catching him off guard. Simultaneously, a monk who just walked near the area was grabbed by the Beiyang Palace's ogre. As the ogre prepared to kill the monk suddenly uttered Amitabha Buddha. After stating that humans and devils are born by their mothers, that different people were given birth by different moms, and that a devil's mom is a devil's mom, the monk questioned the ogre what the name of his mother was. Without waiting for the ogre to reply, the monk remarked that being a devil was the same as being a human and that everyone should be kind, stating that if they were kind, they were not a devil but a hybrid. When the ogre let go of the monk referred to him as a benefactor and inquired about his name. The two members of the Beiyang Palace suddenly stabbed their stomachs, seemingly greatly influenced by the monk's words. Seeing his people get killed so easily made Lu Zhengyi realize they couldn't keep fighting that way. Lu Zhengyi issued the command to assemble, and without delay, the people of Beiyang Palace laid out the formation to unleash the true Yang strike. The people of Beiyang Palace immediately started giving their power to Lu Zhengyi. Lu Zhengyi's power dramatically increased, and while he received everyone's power, he began forming his immortal technique, the true Yang strike. The moment the power he accumulated reached its peak, Lu Zhengyi discharged the true Yang strike towards the sculptures. The people of Beiyang Palace rejoiced. They were certain that time around, the sculptures would surely be destroyed. Lu Zhengyi also assumed that his true Yang strike would put an end to the sculptures. While the people of Beiyang Palace laughed victoriously, a ginormous wind blade suddenly appeared and collided with the true Yang strike. The true Yang strike was nullified, and when the dust settled, a figure could be seen sheathing his blade. Lu Zhengyi stood utterly shocked. He regarded the sculptures as even more terrifying. Lu Zhengyi couldn't believe that a continent that existed for less than 20 million years possessed a peak expert that strong. He also never imagined he would go out and kick the bucket, which would bring about the end of his Beiyang Palace. Lu Zhengyi held Bai Qianyi responsible for everything. He claimed it was all because of her that the Beiyang Palace ended up in such a state, and that he regretted trusting her compulsion. Lu Zhengyi threw Bai Qianyi in front of Wuao. He declared that Bai Qianyi, who initiated that matter, would be at his disposal. Bai Qianyi desperately begged for her life. She attempted to convince Wuao by saying that she could be a maid or a horse and that she would do anything. However, Wuao remained uninterested in her. Wuao stated that for daring to curse Yi Feng, she deserved to die. The moment Wuao let go of Bai Qianyi's corpse, Lu Zhengyi immediately offered him a ring that contained the entire collection of their palace. After mentioning that they were willing to end their lives because they knew they deserved to die for offending Yi Feng, Lu Zhengyi pleaded with Wuao to spare the lives of the other disciples in his palace who were not involved. When Lu Zhengyi and his men began ending their own lives, Wuao closed his eyes and weakly expressed his regret. Shortly after, the area became silent, and the destruction caused by the fighting became even more imminent. Suddenly, a sculpture started splashing water around the area. Moments later, the residents were shocked when they witnessed the result of what the sculpture did. They refused to believe that just by splashing water, the sculpture restored all that was destroyed and made everything look as if nothing had happened there. Everyone believed to themselves that if a sculpture was that powerful, its owner must be a god. The three sect masters deeply regretted not joining Yi Neng's side. They knew that they could no longer catch up with Giant Hengtian, and understanding that their existence was in name only greatly damaged their Dao heart. A few days later, the three sect masters shaved their heads and became monks. As for the Eternal Sky Sword House, it rose to prominence because of a sculpture that Giant Hengtian received as a gift from Wuao. People immediately came looking for Giant Hengtian to offer him gifts, and inform him that they had daughters who were 18 and 16 years old. Meanwhile, on a mountain somewhere in the Void Realm, the servant remarked that Ephang's power was far beyond their imagination, and that such power would certainly be of use to him. Lu Xinwei beat the crap out of his servant. He accused his servant of wanting to succeed to the throne by trying to get him killed. Remembering how he almost got punched out by someone who could stretch his hands and kept shouting Gamu Gamu no, Lu Xinwei broke into cold sweats. Lu Xinwei commanded his servant to find out what other people on that continent were worth paying attention to, and not to provoke the master of the sculptures. The servant excitedly reported that he heard that a few days ago, a black-robed man brought a dog, a centipede, and a bear around and wreaked havoc on the forces of the Xianzhong continent, and also defeated several Xianzhong previous epoch desolate beasts. Lu Xinwei showed interest. He expressed his desire to meet the black-robed man, the dog, the centipede, and the bear that his servant mentioned. Some time later, in the corner of the central continent, King notified the skeleton that the saintess of the Sun sect would be passing by there soon. The moment the skeleton was about to make a move, King suddenly urged him to wait, saying that he would give the skeleton a little bit of a boost. King displayed the skeleton the tight pants and pea shoes that were left over from the sale of Yi Feng's clothes. He informed the skeleton that Yi Feng called them the lady's weapon. The skeleton immediately threw off his robe and wore the clothes King brought out. Moments later, when the skeleton inquired how he looked, the three enthusiastically complimented him, declaring that he looked absolutely beautiful. The three encouraged the skeleton that they should go, wait, and see. They expressed that the skeleton was bound to get it right that day. Inside the restaurant, King commented that with the skeleton's reputation on the central continent, the saintess of the Sun sect would surely be weak in the knees if they met. The skeleton urged King to stop making such remarks. He revealed that he just wanted to find true love, so he didn't want to reveal his identity in front of the saintess. The skeleton added that he wanted to conquer the saintess with his temperament and talent, and that he didn't want her to covet his status, strength, and money. Simultaneously, inside the void, when Lu Xinwei inquired whether the skeleton was the oddball that he was talking about, his servant encouraged him not to judge a book by its cover, as his servant showed him a picture of the black-robed man fighting a certain sect alone some time ago. Lu Xinwei acknowledged that the black-robed man was indeed the skeleton. Lu Xinwei stated that they should go and meet with the skeleton. At the same time, inside the restaurant, King devised a plan to pretend to steal Night Breeze's things so that, later, when the saintess passed by, the skeleton could come down from the sky and slap him away to save Night Breeze and make the saintess have a deep impression of him. King assured the skeleton that with such righteous, courageous, and good character, coupled with his handsome face, he would surely keep the saintess' eyes from looking straight. King reminded him to also make sure to bring flowers with him. He warned him not to let the saintess know that he prepared it in advance, telling him that he had to surprise the saintess by inadvertently taking the flowers out. Lu Xinwei suddenly approached the four, introduced himself, and inquired if he could become friends with them. As if they couldn't see or hear Lu Xinwei, none of the four replied. They just continued talking about what other good ideas King had. Lu Xinwei's servant became furious. He couldn't believe that the skeleton dared to ignore his lord. After confronting them for ignoring him and Lu Xinwei, the servant declared that he would teach them a lesson for being arrogant. The skeleton swiftly grabbed the servant's wrist. He casually threw the servant out of the window and urged King to keep talking, leaving Lu Xinwei utterly shocked. Lu Xinwei's servant actually had the cultivation level of a golden immortal, which was comparable to that of Lu Zhengyi of Beiyangzhen Palace. Although his servant didn't attack with full force, Lu Xinwei still reasoned that his servant shouldn't be thrown out of the window that easily. Finding a true expert made Lu Xinwei pleased, and he also liked the haughtiness of the skeleton. As Lu Xinwei was addressing them as four experts and requesting if he could have a drink with them, the four rose from the table and went for the door. Lu Xinwei's eyes couldn't help but twitch. He never expected that he would be ignored yet again. Later that day, someone could be heard desperately calling for help. Night Breeze begged the passersby for help. He explained that the man next to him had not only robbed him and humiliated his soul, but had also hurt his body. King claimed that he was the master of bullying men and women. He expressed that he would like to see who dared to meddle with his affairs. Shortly after, King and Night Breeze caught sight of the saintess of the Sun sect. King instructed to be ready for action. He reminded him not to forget the process, the action, and the details. As soon as he heroically landed on the ground, the skeleton demanded what kind of thieves were bullying men and women in broad daylight. The skeleton slapped King, declaring that he would enforce justice on behalf of heaven. King admitted that the skeleton's palm technique was powerful and that he acknowledged his defeat. Without delay, the bear rushed over to the skeleton and urged everyone to applaud. The skeleton dashed in a certain direction. He stopped in front of the saintess of the Sun sect, leaned against the wall, and winked at the saintess. To the skeleton's shock, the saintess simply walked past him and didn't even spare him a glance. When the skeleton inquired why the saintess didn't throw her arms around him and give him a hug just like they discussed, King responded not to panic and assured him that the saintess' reaction was just normal. King explained that women are all shy and that because of the saintess' modesty and the public, she was not able to throw herself at the skeleton. King reasoned that although the saintess was indifferent on the surface, her heart was, in fact, already rippling, and that taking the initiative at that moment must be a good idea. The skeleton commended King, stating that his dog-headed, trusted advisor was really reliable. Without further delay, the skeleton chased after the saintess and called out for her to stop. After telling her that it was fate that allowed them to meet in the midst of all the people, the skeleton declared that in his heart, she had an unparalleled appearance, just like the flower in his hand. Without giving him much consideration, the saintess ordered him to get lost. She assumed that with the skeleton's boring and despicable acting skills, anyone could tell that he was good for nothing with just a glance. The three immediately went to the skeleton's side to console him. They claimed that a pretentious woman like the saintess was unacceptable and didn't deserve his love. Believing that his brothers were right, the skeleton regretted almost losing his self-confidence because of the saintess. While the skeleton conveyed that he didn't want a woman like the saintess, a figure could be seen stalking the four from a building. The figure was actually Lu Xinwei. Lu Xinwei felt confused by what he just witnessed. He initially assumed that the four were up to something big. At that point, Lu Xinwei resolved that it was time for him to show the four who he was and what he could do. The moment he landed in front of them, Lu Xinwei proclaimed that he was not going to hide anything from them anymore. He informed them that he was Lu Xinwei from the Void Realm and that he was in a mysterious immortal realm that was above the Golden Immortal. He explained that since there were few rivals among the mysterious immortals, he was called the first mysterious immortal of the Void. Lu Xinwei revealed that the reason he didn't expose his identity at first was that he didn't want to be too public. He assured them that since he recognized the strength of all of them, they didn't have to doubt themselves. For the third time, the four ignored Lu Xinwei. Remembering that there was one in Awakens clan named Lu Xinwei, the skeleton remarked that Lu Xinwei really was something for giving himself a dog's name. Lu Xinwei felt so annoyed that he couldn't keep himself from trembling as he listened to the skeleton's contemptuous words. Lu Xinwei considered that he was a mysterious immortal realm cultivator, and he wondered if he was not worthy of the black-robed man's attention. He believed that he should hold it in because it is not easy to have such an expert, and that would be crucial to his future plans. The little one aroused his desire to conquer, and as he declared that they should wait, Skeleton questioned if he was mentally ill. Lu Xinwei explained that after taking the immortal-grade mysterious pill, he could advance one small level in the mysterious immortal realm without side effects, so he should take that, and he would forget about everything. The Cold Light Secret Sword is one of the most important treasures of the Void Realm, and just possessing it would give him the ability to fight beyond his level. Both of those treasures could be his, and all he had to do was promise him one condition, but Skeleton suspected if it was just that. He remarked that even the jelly beans that his brother Ao King eats are better than his, while Ao King insisted that he shouldn't take out such trash because it is really stupid. Skeleton urged that they should go because it was a waste of time. And Lu Xinwei reflected that even his father never talked to him like that. He believed that with his status, he wouldn't have stooped so low even in the Void Realm, and he commented that the four of them were a bit too noble and virtuous. He questioned if they really thought that there was no one in the world who could defeat them just because they had no rivals in the Xinjiang continent. And Skeleton admitted that he had been nagging them for a long time and inquired what he really wanted. Lu Xinwei expressed that he would like to treat him as a guest. But if he didn't want a toast, he wouldn't beat around the bush with him. He wanted him to submit to him, work for him, and serve him. Everyone tried to hold in their laughter, and Lu Xinwei suspected if they didn't believe him. He proposed that they have a competition to see who was stronger, and if they were defeated, they would submit to him. To which Skeleton agreed and warned that he better hurry up and make his move. Lu Xinwei felt insulted by his words. He claimed that he was afraid he wouldn't have a chance to make a move, so he would give him a chance to make the move first. And Skeleton consented. He thought he was a stupid guy. They should go and find his next true love. On the other hand, Lu Xinwei flew into the northern sea sky. He crashed onto the ground with a loud bang. His hands trembled as he held onto his communication plaque. He told that his assistant should hurry up and come to the northern sea to pick him up because he wanted to go back. He wanted to go home. The assistant wondered how he got there in such a short time, and as he suspected if he asked to talk too much, he told that he should hurry up and get his ass over there immediately. A few days later, the assistant found Lu Xinwei. He inquired what he was doing, and Lu Xinwei ordered that he should cut the crap and quickly pull him out so they could go back to the Void Realm. The assistant questioned if he wasn't going to subdue the black-robed man. Lu Xinwei warned that if he kept talking nonsense, he would have him executed, so he should hurry up and pull him out, to which he agreed. Lu Xinwei declared that he doesn't want to come to that Xinjiang continent for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Yi Feng was at Dinsheng. He contacted Hu Hansand and announced that he was back. He figured that after several days of waiting, he finally got his disciple token from the Kingu sect. And with that sect's disciples tag, the sect's establishment permit was also obtained smoothly. After he returns to the island and establishes the sect, he only has to take in 100 more disciples, and he will be able to cultivate. And flying, longevity, and dual cultivation were all beckoning to him. 2 days later, Yi Feng arrived on the island. He noticed that the island had already been constructed during his absence. Those old men and women in Jiangping City have all moved to that island. It seems that he has really found a treasured paradise, as everyone likes the place, and it was good to be lively. A few moments later, he went to the island's square, where a dragon sculpture was located. He remarked that he looked earlier and it was a good day, and it was better to choose a day than to hit the sun. They should establish the sect that day. Of course, the future operation of the sect will require the cooperation of all of them. He summoned Lu Qingshan, Zhu Yun, and Lan Zhu, and as they agreed, he explained that the three of them would manage the day-to-day matters, the construction of the sect's facilities, the arrangement of housing for new disciples, and so on. They consented and believed that it was wonderful to be able to serve in his sect. Yi Feng informed Old King that the books he found at that time were all good and he was quite satisfied. Therefore, he would be the elder of the scripture pavilion. Old King thanked him very much. Yi Feng added that that was all for the time being, and Zhang King asked what the name of their sect was. Yi Feng admitted that he forgot about that one and questioned if they had any ideas, but they all shook their heads. He proposed that if they didn't, they should call it the Heaven and Earth Sect, simple and elegant. The system congratulated him for successfully establishing a sect, and he got the reward of one flying sword. It bound the Heaven and Earth Sect, and when it got successful, it notified that he had 3 out of 100 disciples. It said that after the number of disciples successfully reaches 100, he could start cultivation.